when both the Holy Sword of Light and the Dark Demon Sword chose the boy, yet he turned and shattered the Holy Sword. Without hesitation, he took up the Dark Demon Sword, because he knew his future self would die by that very Holy Sword. In his previous life, Lien became the continent's strongest shadow assassin with the Dark Demon Sword. He fought for the Empire his entire life, clearing monsters and unifying the continent, never imagining his loyalty would be rewarded with betrayal, only because his power made the Empire wary. So the Knights of Light hunted him down. Even though Lien was gravely wounded, he still displayed terrifying combat prowess, single-handedly holding off the Empire's most elite forces. Upon witnessing Lien's horrifying aura, Boris's suspicions were confirmed. Indeed, you are the assassin from the legendary Black Mist. Lien coldly questioned Boris, demanding to know who ordered this. While looking for a chance to escape, he had to get out, to investigate his brother's connection to all this. However, Boris seemed to read Lien's mind, laughing coldly as he told him not to dream of escaping, for this place was covered by a level 9 magic barrier. Hearing this, Lien's eyes turned cold with disdain. Such a mere barrier, I'll destroy it all for you to see. But at that moment, a faint voice drifted to his ears. That's enough, Lien. Upon seeing who had arrived, Lien's eyes widened in disbelief, for it was his brother whom he had followed all his life, Egil Belfort. He never imagined the mastermind behind it all was his own elder brother. At this moment, the pillar of faith in Lien's heart came crashing down, leaving him kneeling lifelessly. He couldn't understand, had he done something wrong? But to this, Egil only responded coldly, his icy gaze full of disgust. Look at that ominous black mist around you. You're no longer human, just an ugly murderer. You've been deceiving us all along. Hearing this, Lien froze in place, looking up to glare angrily at the man before him. He had dedicated his entire life unreservedly to him. Yet in the end, after achieving fame and success, the first thing he did was abandon the one who had served him like a dog for over 20 years. At this moment, Lien's anger reached its peak. All his magic power burst forth without restraint. Even if it meant shattering his body, he would drag this man who betrayed him into hell. However, the depleted Lien couldn't even break through Egil's protective magic. Finally impaled by the holy sword in his hand, kicked aside like discarded trash, feeling his life slowly slipping away, Lien's heart was filled with regret and unwillingness. He never thought this would be his end. What a foolish life. If only he could start over. When he next awoke, a woman's voice reached his ears. Young master, how long are you going to sleep? Are you trying to avoid practice by stalling for time? Hearing this, Lien looked at the woman beside him. This was clearly Elia, the maid who served him in his childhood. Even the furniture arrangements around were exactly the same. Before Lien could think too much, he was dragged to the training ground. At this point, Lien finally confirmed something. He had returned to Belfort Castle 27 years ago. Today was 1 year before his entrance to the academy, when sword practice was held at the start of each month. An important event where even his father, the Duke, would come to watch. And Lien's opponent was his half-brother of the same age, Krantz Belfort. This fellow's mother was the Duke's legal wife, so Krantz received more attention than him. In his previous life, after being humiliated today, he became everyone's laughingstock. And from this day forward, he was excluded by his father. His father waved his hand and said, "Begin." Krantz immediately took the initiative, charging toward Lien, with a malicious smile as he swung his sword down. However, Lien looked at him with disdain. In his eyes, this fellow's speed was as slow as a snail. He then calmly shifted his position, easily dodging Kranz's attack. But in Kranz's eyes, Lien's evasion was merely a cowardly act. Unexpectedly, the next second, Lien's sword swept out like lightning, instantly knocking away his long sword, then casually kicked Kranz's leg, instantly causing his face to contort in pain. He fell to the ground, clutching his leg and wailing incessantly. Lien stared at Krantz fiercely. Just placing the sword at his neck would win this practice match, but Lien didn't want to end it so easily. In his previous life, he had been constantly tormented by this fellow, so now he wanted to completely crush Krantz to prevent further bullying. This life, he would live for himself, so he proceeded to mercilessly torment him. After Lien's victory in the practice match, he was granted an audience with his father, who even sent his personal knight Yukin. On the way, Lien encountered Kranz's mother, who heads to the infirmary. Seeing her expression like she'd eaten something foul, he felt delighted and mockingly asked, "Is Krantz all right?" Marjorie glared at Lien hatefully. "You did this to your own brother, how shameless." But Lien merely laughed and said, "This is what practice is about." However, the venomous voice from behind made him pause. A child born of a filthy mother should eat off the ground, yet dares to show off shamelessly. Hearing this, the killing intent in Lien's eyes suddenly erupted, instantly thinking of how to kill her. But then he thought of a better way to torment her. "You know I'm going to the academy with Krantz, right? Aren't you worried whether your son can graduate with all limbs intact?" Lien's threatening words made Maria gnash her teeth. She raised her arm, ready to teach this insolent boy a lesson. However, a hand stopped her. Yukin spoke without giving any face. "The Duke urgently wishes to see the young master. Will be going now." This left Maria standing there in embarrassment, while Leon showed a wicked smile, because the Duke's orders were absolute, now protected by the Duke's knight. Moments later, Leon arrived at his father's study. This was their first private meeting in years. Duke Williams Belfort commanded the western territories of the Wuxi Empire, known as the Guardian of the Continent, possessing outstanding magic and exceptional swordsmanship. A hero who long prevented demon invasions, ultimately dying in the war against the Demon King's army. He spent his whole life serving others, supposedly all for the continent's peace. But in Leon's eyes, he was a foolish man, because this was all the life he chose. His father commented on Leon's performance in the duel. The moment Kranz charged at you, you accurately judged the sword's trajectory. But when did you learn swordsmanship? Leon said he hadn't learned, but practiced alone every night. Yet, in his father's impression, Leon had no interest in swordsmanship at all. Why would he hide such excellent skill? Although you excellently suppressed Kranz, wasn't the later behavior unnecessary? His father's sharp question made Leon's heart jump. Was he testing his tolerance? After some thought, Leon responded loudly, because I wanted to prove I'm better than Kranz. That's the true meaning of this practice match. Hearing this answer, his father burst into laughter, praising it as a cool and clear response, saying he hadn't expected he had such talent. He was truly happy. You'll surely become a good assistant to Egil. At these words, Leon was struck as if by lightning. Become that person's assistant? Father's obsession with Egil remained unchanged, but current Leon couldn't change his father's thoughts, could only tremble and clench his fists tightly. Then his father said he could give him a reward, whatever he wanted. Leon's eyes brightened, his gaze growing determined. Since that's the case, I'll shatter your obsession, destroy everything Egil wants to do, then said, I want to go to the front lines. When Ilia heard Leon's decision, she was nearly driven mad with shock, feeling the young master had completely lost his mind, not knowing what kind of place that was. There were many fierce and terrifying monsters there. On the continent, the only place that could be called the front lines was the Villiers territory in the Empire's west. The furthest forward was Lamea Valley, a place of continuous war with demonkind for hundreds of years. His father didn't immediately agree to Leon's request, saying he needed a month to confirm if Leon was qualified, though Leon wasn't clear what qualifications his father meant. First, he had to build muscle strength to the maximum within the specified time. Currently, his muscle strength was very weak, but after returning, he retained his battle sense. Plus, there was a small amount of magic power. If he could train his body well, he could fully unleash his potential. But just then, his room's door was suddenly kicked open. A figure rushed in, shouting his name, staring at him intensely. This was his sister, Lilith Belfort. She grabbed Leon's collar, then shook him like a rattle frantically, demanding fiercely if he'd gone mad, actually proposing to go to the front lines. Then threw the dizzy Leon to the ground. You think you're impressive just because you beat Kranz? Come with me to the roof. Moments later, the two faced off on the roof. Lilith said, if you can withstand my attacks for 3 minutes, then I'll agree to you going to the front lines. Leon's face full of helplessness. Do we really have to do this? But Lilith drew her sword. Prove it to me. Seeing this, Leon sighed worriedly. What a disaster of a day. Before he could finish sighing, Lilith had already launched her attack. In an instant, the sword was about to pierce his face, but the next moment, Leon's sword came from behind, sweeping away the approaching blade. This greatly shocked Lilith. She couldn't believe a 10-year-old child could block her attack, and he used a thin sword with a light blade, yet could precisely deflect her heavy sword. Was it just luck? But this also made Lilith lose face. She squeezed out a gentle smile. That was quite good. Seeing Lilith's expression, Leon felt ominous, a bad premonition spreading in his heart. The next instant, Lilith's attacks became more violent. Like a storm, each sword strike more fierce than the last, for a time leaving Leon struggling. Under pressure, he instinctively used his sword technique, blade pressed against Lilith's throat. But fortunately, he broke off the technique at the last moment. Then both quickly drew apart. Leon breathed a sigh of relief. If he hadn't held back his sword, the consequences would have been unthinkable. Because all his shadow sword techniques were killing moves, once used they were fatal. But due to insufficient strength, and unable to kill Lilith, he was now very passive. Damn, hasn't 3 minutes passed yet? Though the difference in muscle strength could be overcome by injecting magic into the sword, his body was now at its limit. However, across from him, Lilith began chanting spells softly. Hear the call of nothingness, earth and wind, become my sword. Seeing this, Leon's pupils contracted. This was level 6 magic, only to see Lilith as if entering a rampage. Her long sword flickering with starlight, surrounded by an enchanting yet terrifying aura. Seeing this situation, Leon wanted to cry. Was she trying to kill him? Lilith had entered a rampage, only one thought remaining in her mind: she must not lose no matter what. Even if Leon could block this attack from Lilith, he would fall from the roof. Since that's the case, he could only rely on that. The next second, he suddenly exerted force, instantly charging out, running towards Lilith, who was brewing a terrifying ultimate move. Lilith unhesitatingly moved to swing her sword down. Leon nervously called out a name in his heart. Please, come quickly, Yukon. The next instant, as if hearing his call, Yukon flashed between the two, one hand grabbing Leon in midair, one sword blocking Lilith's attack. Brilliant sword light instantly shot into the sky, illuminating the entire night sky. Yukon frowned, his words full of reproach. Lady Lilith, aren't you being too harsh on the young master? Leon breathed a sigh of relief. He'd thought Yukon wouldn't come. By now, Lilith had finally regained her senses. She anxiously hugged Leon, apologizing repeatedly. I'm sorry, brother. I just don't want you to go to the front lines. Feeling his sister's caring warmth, Leon held no blame in his heart because her competitive spirit was extremely strong, working harder than anyone, thus creating unprecedented records in the Royal Academy where continent geniuses gathered, achieving S rank in all subjects. She possessed beautiful looks, so was called God's Child, along with Aegle, revered as guardians of the continent. But after joining the Knights of Light, Sister would face a tragic end. Thinking of this, Lian couldn't help but hug Lilith tightly. "I really missed you, sister. This time I'll definitely protect you." Then Lilith asked Yukin, "Aren't you Father's knight? Father's already left for battle. Why are you still here?" Yukin said awkwardly, "The Duke ordered me to secretly protect the young master during this time." Lian had sensed Yukin right after leaving Father. If he kept pretending not to know, would he not have appeared? The next day, Lilith returned to the academy, while Lian continued training non-stop for the next 2.5 weeks, but the results weren't particularly significant. This was vastly different from his imagined plan. He couldn't help but miss his perfect physique from his previous life. Just then, Aelia told him Lilith had sent something. The stench emanating from it made Aaliyah wrinkle her nose in disgust. This was hellhound blood that Lian had asked his sister to get, only obtainable in Lamea Valley, with a stench and burning sensation in the mouth, thus considered a toxic item. But it had the effect of permanently increasing magic power and physical strength. Though everyone considered this a superstition, in his previous life he had personally experienced its effects. Then Lian forced himself to drink it down. As soon as the blood went down, that stimulating sensation instantly made his body boil. Next, he needed to go for a walk to see how the medicine worked. Moments later, Lian, who had been running to absorb the medicine's effects, arrived at the back mountain. During these 2 weeks, he had been waiting for Yukin to leave him to report. In his previous life, Aegle received a hint from the light god, learning of an ancient temple sleeping behind the mountain. Then, Lian located a spot through the flow of magic, immediately breaking through the ground before him, revealing a deep passage. Then Lian entered it. When Lian reached the temple's end, he saw that familiar holy sword. In the previous life's war with the demon realm, the demon army's forces exceeded human limits. But when humans excavated the ancient relic's divine weapons, they achieved overwhelming victory. Durandal's relic was the holy sword protected by the light god, also the weapon that led humans to victory, finally falling into Aegle's hands. Lian had died miserably by this sword in his previous life. He couldn't help but wonder if his return was related to the holy sword before him, so he reached out to touch the holy sword. However, the holy sword gave him no response. Lian angrily kicked the holy sword. How annoying, but his purpose in coming here wasn't to obtain the holy sword. Then he came to the holy sword's shadow. This at first glance might seem like the sword's shadow, but in fact, it wasn't a shadow. Because where there is light, there must be darkness. Then he clapped his hands on the ground. The shadow on the ground immediately surged, flowing behind the altar. A doorway was immediately exposed. After Lian walked in, floating in the center above was another sword. This was his sword, the demon sword Kalen. Lian gripped the demon sword and laughed softly. Had enough sleep? Time to wake up. Getting no response, he frantically swung the demon sword, trying to awaken Kalan this way. Soon a strange shadow appeared before him. "Little one, you're really brave. Do you know what awakening me means? Actually daring to wake a sleeping demon sword. Your body will be mine from now on." The shadow instantly pounced towards Lian, but was grabbed by Lian. This greatly shocked Kalan. "How can you touch me?" Hearing this, Lian smiled. "I told you, you're mine." Only to see Lian holding the demon sword, his whole body surging with terrifying demonic energy. Seeing this, Kalan was very confused. "How do you have Ael's aura? Are you her heir?" Lian smiled darkly and confirmed. "That's right, the master has returned. Now kneel." But his words still couldn't gain Kalan's acknowledgement. She then launched an attack at Lian. Kalan's defiance made Lian very helpless. If that's the case, he could only use the simplest method. Then softly chanted, "Demon sword control." The next instant, Kalan was heavily suppressed by an invisible force. Lian scolded in a low voice. "I'll say it one last time. Acknowledge me as your master while I'm still speaking nicely." But Kalan wouldn't listen at all, demanding to know how he knew this spell. Seeing communication was futile, Lian chanted again, "Demon sword control," then immediately chanted another 2.5 times, pressing Kalan's head into the ground. Just as Kalan was about to agree, Lian shouted again, "Demon sword control," and so, Kalan was thoroughly conquered. Then transformed into a small demon form, excitedly popping out. "Haven't smelled outside air in so long, how exciting!" "Master, what's your name?" "I'm Lian Belfort," Kalan pondered, asking if he was really chosen by Ael. Lian nodded, confirming, and told her this happened in his previous life. He had died once. Hearing this, Kalan was completely confused, feeling Lian was talking nonsense. Then Lian looked at the holy sword before him, raised the dark demon sword in his hand. With one strike severed the holy sword's hilt. Seeing Lian's action, Kalan asked in surprise why he did this. Lian stared at the hilt in his hand with a wicked smile. "Though I don't know now, it should become interesting later." Time quickly arrived at the promised day with his father. He needed to pass his father's test to prove whether he was qualified for the front lines. Then Yukin threw out a scroll. Under the scroll's summons, a hellhound suddenly appeared. Lian stared at the hellhound before him. This was a lower-level demon beast from Lamia Valley. Seems father put in quite some effort to prepare this test. Meanwhile, the knights behind also stood ready. If Lian was in life danger, they would immediately act. Yukin's eyes stared intently at Leon. 3 days ago, Leon had found him requesting practice, saying he wanted to get familiar with actual combat. Yukin agreed, only using his scabbard to defend against his attacks, he could attack freely. Leon also made one request: don't tell father about this practice. The next instant, his form exploded into action, sword slashing towards Yukin. Feeling the heavy force transmitted to his hands, Yukin was very surprised, unable to believe this was a 10-year-old boy's sword. But what surprised him wasn't just this, only to see Lian's form rapidly flashing, instantly disappearing from his spot. When he noticed Lian's trace, he had already appeared overhead, then descended from the sky, sword falling, blade wielded at extreme speed. But Yukin still blocked all the attacks. As Lian swung his final sword, this practice also ended. He sheathed his sword, thanking Yukin. Still can't beat you after all. However, current Yukin was panting heavily, heart full of shock. That weak young Lian had actually grown so powerful. Seems he could now withstand any trial in the world, only to see the hellhound in the arena launch the first attack. Lian quickly dodged sideways, avoiding its attack. With his current muscle strength, he couldn't directly clash with magical beasts. Had to end the battle as early as possible, so he could only kill it in one strike. Lian poured magic power into his sword, then suddenly leaped up, throwing the sword, instantly piercing through the hellhound's head. Lian's operation left everyone at the scene frozen. Seeing this, father's lips curved into a smile, then laughed heartily, applauding Lian. We'll meet at the front lines then. After father left, Kaylin secretly slipped out, full of resentment, asking why he didn't use her. She needed to absorb blood to become stronger. She stared eagerly at the hellhound on the ground. Please, let me take one bite. Lian smiled wickedly. Don't worry, you'll get to eat your fill later. 2.5 days later, Lian brought Ilya to the front lines. The monsters visible everywhere scared her, screaming. She kept asking why he wanted to come to such a terrible place. Looking at this familiar place, Lian felt nostalgic. Indeed, such a hell-like place suits me best. Father sternly warned him to never relax his guard here, as death could come at any moment. In the following days, 3 to 4 battles occurred daily. Each battle had detailed response guidelines. Led by superior knights with outstanding strength, monsters trying to cross the front lines would be repelled one by one. Lian was assigned the safest rearmost tent. Even so, security was still strict, so he couldn't find time to feed Kaylin, could only wait until night, deep night. Lian placed a doll in his bed as disguise, then sneaked outside in the darkness. Because the front line strengthened vigilance at night, he could move freely in the rear. Moments later, Lian arrived at the monster-inhabited area. Now this was the best place to use the demon sword. Then he summoned Kaylin. The stimulating blood energy around had already excited her beyond control. Master, I can't hold back anymore. Then Lian charged into the monster group, the demon sword in his hand, swinging wildly, frantically harvesting monster lives. Lian filled a cup with monster blood, then drank it down in one gulp. The blood stimulation and power's impact frantically collided within him, yet Lian thoroughly enjoyed this feeling. But Kaylin said, relying just on these jackals, when can we become stronger? Hearing this, Lian looked behind him, lips curving into a smile. Don't worry, the night is long, there are many more monsters. Meanwhile, a carriage convoy was heading towards the front lines, many knights guarding the white-haired lady inside. The maid persuaded that she could still change her mind as the front lines were too dangerous. But the lady refused. I am the Empire's princess, obligated to help Father patrol. Please don't say such things again. The maid could only helplessly stop persuading. Just then, she suddenly remembered something. Duke Belfort's youngest son was also at the front lines, his age similar to hers. Would she like to go say hello? But the lady coldly snorted proudly, I'm not interested in him. But then she asked about Lian's name. The maid thought for a moment, then responded, seems he's called Lian Belfort. Hearing this, the lady gazed at the bright moonlight, softly murmuring this name. While at the front lines, Father led many knights battling monsters. Just then, his gaze was drawn to Lian fighting among the knight squadron, his performance greatly satisfying Father. Originally thought Lian would cry to go home, didn't expect him to persist so long. Come to my tent tomorrow morning, I have something to tell you. Father's words surprised Lian. This was the first time he'd seen Father show such expression. Deep night, Lian again came to the monster area to hunt. This time he encountered a death swarm. Such powerful monsters normally only appeared in deep valleys. Kaylin asked if let her handle it. Lian said, I know what you're planning. Kaylin said she'd just use the body then return it. With his current power, the wounds he cut were too shallow. The death swarm could recover immediately. Hearing this, Lian agreed. Indeed, this would go nowhere, though he had drunk countless monster blood this month. Still not enough to kill the death swarm before him, so Lian could only choose to temporarily give his body to Kaylin. Demon sword descent. Next moment, Lian was wrapped in dense demonic flames, power also surging multiple times. Then launched sword technique, 8-petal dance. In an instant becoming flowing light dancing, cutting multiple strikes in a moment, instantly dismembering the monster's body. Its powerful regeneration couldn't save it. After all, it faced a demon god youth possessing dark power. Meanwhile, Father also discovered the monster corpses Lian had killed. From the unliquidated blood, these monsters had just died. Yukin sensed unusual magic power nearby, wondering if demons were responsible. Hearing this, Father's expression grew serious, ordering careful search of surroundings and quick disposal of monster corpses. But just then he found something familiar about the sword wounds on the monsters. As he pondered, Yukin told him there was a new discovery. That was clearly the death swarm Lian had dismembered. Seeing this, Father's heart churned. Could this be that organization's doing? While current Lian had returned to his tent, somewhat regretting his frenzy, actually using demon sword descent for one monster. That was temporarily giving his body to Kaylan, though could display that fellow's true power. But with slight carelessness, might be completely possessed. Just then, Kaylan also said beside him, "Though you're a 10-year-old child, your words and actions aren't childlike at all. Not only thoroughly understanding me, even very familiar with every part of Lemay Valley. And he has a skillful swordsmanship that seems like he has practiced for 30 years. Now I can finally believe you saying you died once. So you're a returner, right?" Hearing this, Lian showed a belated expression. "I told you already," instantly angering Kaylan to shout, "Who could understand when you said it that way? But killing someone of your strength isn't simple, and you were killed by Durandal's wielder. Looking at it this way, there are only two possibilities. Either lost a duel, or were betrayed. But you were probably betrayed, right? I could tell from your expression looking at the holy sword. In that case, your purpose in returning must be planning revenge. However, if I see a hint of hesitation or weakness from you, I'll devour you." Lian irritably punched Kaylan flying, saying, "Your master isn't a fool." But a smile secretly rose on Lian's face. This fellow's personality was still the same as ever. Moments later, Lian walked out of the tent. Just outside, he found an atmosphere different from usual. Just then, Ilya hurriedly ran over, telling him something big happened. Last night near the valley exit, they found high-level monster corpses. Hearing this, Lian's heart jumped. Was it talking about the death swarm? Lian hurriedly asked if there was other news, like discovering strange people, or about himself. Just then, Yukin appeared behind him, telling him his father wanted to see him. Hearing this, Lian felt ominous. This was trouble. Because of the thing with Father, he left the monster corpses there unhandled. Now it seems Father definitely discovered it. How should he cover this up? Then Lian came to his father. After sitting down, Father directly asked what he was doing last night. Lian said he was too tired, so went to bed early. Hearing this answer, Father's gaze brightened, examining his youngest son before him. The sword marks he saw yesterday were extremely similar to Lian's swordsmanship. Was he thinking too much? Such a small child should find it very difficult to do such things. Then Lian asked innocently why he asked this. Father told him something happened near the station last night, very likely done by the assassination organization Black Mist. They existed since ancient times. No one knew their exact purpose. They killed many nobles in the name of purification, known for leaving black mist wherever they passed. But from someday, they concealed their traces, last discovered 300 years ago. But last night's death swarm corpse had black mist emanating. That was the trace of the dark god Al, also the main deity Black Mist organization worshipped and source of their power. If my deduction isn't wrong, those who killed the death swarm and monsters were Black Mist. After hearing Father's words, Lian marveled. From sword wounds could deduce an organization that concealed traces 300 years ago. Father told Lian to be extra careful recently. This matter would stop here for now. So Lian passed this hurdle this way. Then Father told him the Emperor would visit today. Speaking of this, he suddenly smiled mysteriously, saying he wanted to entrust something to Lian. Shortly after, the Emperor arrived at the territory. Everyone had gathered early to welcome him. The Emperor hurried forward to help Father up, saying, "We're old friends, no need for such formality." At this moment, he noticed Lian standing nearby. He couldn't help but praise, "Such a young child living in such a dangerous place. Your son is truly extraordinary." Father's request to Lian was actually quite simple, just asking him to play the role of a good son. At this time, the Emperor mentioned he had someone to introduce. Then the princess stepped out from the carriage and curtsied. "Greetings, Duke. I am Yalin Isabella, the 5th Imperial Princess of the Wuxi Empire." Upon seeing Yalin, Lian's gaze focused intently, for she was the Princess of Tragedy. Father had previously instructed him to be responsible for entertaining this young 5th princess. "You just need to play with her. You're the same age, and you might meet again at the academy. Though you won't be together for long, I still hope you two can become close." Although Lian was reluctant in his heart, he could understand his father's intentions. He probably hopes we can become like him and the Emperor. But unfortunately, he had chosen the wrong person. Because as the 5th princess, Yalin wasn't born from the Empress. She was born to a concubine of common birth, so people treated her as a princess in name only. However, she didn't surrender to others' gazes. She worked harder than anyone, but no one cared about any of that. Eventually, she would be charged with treason and driven from the imperial city, only to die of illness in some border town, thus earning the name Princess of Tragedy. If she had lived without ambition, she certainly wouldn't have met such an end. This future was known only to him, and he couldn't tell his father, so for now, he could only obey. At this time, Yalin looked toward the distant river and asked why the water was so red. Lian told her that was the Frode River, where magic beasts instinctively jumped in when enraged or injured in food fights. The river's magic would corrupt the beasts' bodies and fluids, thus dyeing the water red. Hailing this, Yalin's eyes widened in shock. "So it's all filled with beast fluids and corpses?" "Yes, and the magic beasts still drink from it and bathe in it." Yalin immediately felt disgusted. She asked what lay at the river's end, and Lian gazed into the distance. "That's the demon realm." Just then, a trail of smoke in the sky caught everyone's attention. That was coming from the direction of the third western outpost. It meant they were engaged in battle with magic beasts. Father immediately ordered the protection of His Majesty, with the Night Guard Division to accompany him to the third outpost. But the Emperor sternly stopped him. Drawing his sword, he said, "You think I came here for sightseeing?" Seeing this, Father realized he couldn't dissuade the Emperor and could only agree to join the battle. Then the Emperor issued orders. From now on, the Imperial Army will join the magic beast subjugation. So Father turned to tell Lian to join the battle as well. Seeing that Lian could go to the front lines, Yalin quickly expressed her desire to go too. Lian's mouth twitched as he said, "This is the front line, not a playground." But Yalin still insisted on going. With no choice, Lian called for Yukon. He asked him to escort this willful little princess back to the base. Meanwhile, at the third outpost, intense fighting had already broken out. Father arrived with his troops at this moment. At his command, the knights launched their charge against the magic beasts. At the same time, the Emperor was at the very front, hunting magic beasts. He suddenly thrust his sword into the ground. In an instant, lightning raged and surged forth, instantly annihilating numerous powerful magic beasts. Witnessing this, Lian felt admiration for him. According to common knowledge, the Emperor's magic level had reached the 8th rank. Even if he hadn't become Emperor, becoming the head of the Magic Association wouldn't have been a problem. Perhaps being Emperor was just his hobby. Moments later, the battlefield's turbulence had been quelled, and the Emperor and Father gathered for a long chat. He mentioned that recently there had been an increase in assassinated nobles in the Empire, causing unrest. Father asked if there were any commonalities between these incidents. They were all corrupt officials individually listed on a roster, and black mist traces were found at each scene. Hailing this, Father pondered briefly. He thought the Black Mist followers might be active again, as their traces were found near the outpost yesterday. The Emperor also felt this was highly likely, though further investigation was needed. But there was another aspect that concerned him greatly. Some nobles seeking death were spreading rumors, suspecting the 5th princess as the mastermind behind these events. Hailing this, Father was shocked. Could someone be trying to tie Princess Yalin to those people? The Emperor was worried, although he was currently silencing those people under the pretext of rumors. He believed they were trying to use her for something, so the Emperor solemnly requested Father's help. If he should pass before him, he entrusted Yalin to his care. Hailing this, Father's gaze intensified as he solemnly swore, "I shall obey your Majesty's command." Meanwhile, Lian was preparing to go out hunting magic beasts again. But at this moment, a figure appeared at his door. It was Princess Yalin, asking if they could talk for a moment. Lian puzzledly asked if something was wrong, but Yalin didn't answer directly, instead looking aside and asking Elia to step out for a moment. Seeing Elia's expression, Lian broke into a sweat, then asked her to wait outside. After Elia left, Yalin spoke somewhat shyly. "The incident during the day was my fault. As a princess, I shouldn't have been so willful." Lian told her not to worry about it. He also apologized for his own rudeness at the time. Yalin smiled brightly, saying, "We'll be entering the academy soon. I hope you can help me then." However, Lian coldly replied, "I'm sorry, but I cannot provide any help to your highness. If you're here to recruit allies, you should leave." At these words, Yalin's pupils trembled, her face instantly darkening. Then she softly said in a dejected tone, "I just wanted to get along with you. How could you say such cruel things? Do you also think I'm just a princess in name only?" Seeing this situation, Lian fell silent. Yalin continued, "You're right. After all, I can't bring you any benefits. I'm sorry for taking up your time. I thought we could have a normal conversation. You're completely different from Egil." These words instantly touched Lian's most sensitive nerve. He immediately turned around and grabbed Yalin's arm, asked her how she knew Egil. Yalin said she met him by chance while visiting the academy, and he had encouraged her not to mind others' views, and to live proudly as a princess. Hailing this, Lian found it hard to believe. How could this be possible? He knew all too well about Egil's demonic character. But Lian suddenly understood the reason. So he had already started planning to drag this princess down at this time. But just then, there was a commotion outside the tent. The next moment, the canopy above was torn open. A huge magic beast attacked Lian's tent. Nearby knights rushed towards that direction. At the same time, Father and the Emperor learned that the rear camp had been attacked by magic beasts, and it seemed young Master Lian and Princess Yalin were caught up in it. Hailing this, the Emperor immediately ordered all Imperial troops to the rear, insisting on ensuring the princess's safety. By now, the rear was already filled with magic beasts. These were high-level magic beasts that should only appear deep in the valley, yet now they were appealing in groups at the border. This made Lian wonder if this was a change that hadn't occurred in his previous life, or was it because of him? At this moment, Elia cried beside him, "Young master, I thought you were really going to die just now." Just earlier, when the magic beast's attack was about to land, Lian had quickly embraced Yalin and dodged. After all, in his previous life, he had joined the Demon King's subjugation force, so he wouldn't die to such minor monsters. Just then, a large hand suddenly reached for a knight beside Yalin, grabbing him in its grip. Lian quickly moved in front of Yalin and told her to step back. However, the magic beast merely glanced at the knight before carelessly tossing him aside. Seeing this, Leon's eyes narrowed. As expected, this creature was targeting him. He told everyone to escort Yalan away first, while he would be responsible for luring the monster away. Receiving the order, Elia immediately agreed and grabbed Yalan to run. Leon's mouth twitched. You agreed rather quickly. Meanwhile, the magic beast could no longer contain itself and launched its attack. Leon's eyes showed determination as he gripped his sword tightly. Then his figure flashed as he struck the magic beast's arm. At this time, he also pondered a question. Why did high-level magic beasts keep appealing around him? Kaelan said it was because he had drunk a lot of magic beast blood. His body emitted a scent to magic beasts. He was like a tonic. Hailing this, Leon suddenly understood. So you knew all along. Why are you only telling me now? Kaelan smiled sinisterly. Have you forgotten? What I want is your body. Hailing this, Leon grabbed her, then transformed her into a demon sword in his hand, preparing to face the high-level magic beast before him. Bring it on. I don't care how many magic beasts there are. The next moment, he leaped in front of the monster, instantly decapitating it. Leon let out a light breath and said calmly, since no one's watching now anyway, let's properly drink some high-level magic beast blood. But at this moment, his eyes suddenly widened. Wait, is that a Delwill dragon? A huge purple dragon appeared. It unleashed a terrifying presence, but Kaelan immediately saw it was just a baby dragon in its infancy, probably also attracted by Leon's scent. However, none of this mattered to Leon, who was now completely excited. He even decisively used Demon Sword Descent. He couldn't let such a huge magic beast escape. He had to devour it. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Emperor and his group had arrived at the rear to provide support. They quickly killed all the high-level magic beasts, but they still hadn't found traces of Yalan and the others. Just then, a guard reported finding Princess Yalan. Then Yalan hurriedly ran to her father. Out of breath, she urged him to save someone. To cover her retreat, young Master Leon had stayed behind alone in the magic beast horde. Hailing this, the Emperor's spirit shook, and Father's face became like dead water. He darkly questioned Elia about what exactly happened to Leon. Elia trembled in fear at Father's expression. This was the first time she had seen the Duke wear such a terrible look, and told what had happened earlier. The knights quickly said they remembered the location and could immediately lead troops to rescue young Master Leon. But Father stood frozen without any reaction, and the Emperor behind him urged him to quickly give orders. But unexpectedly, after a moment of silence, Father coldly uttered just 3 words, "Let it be." These words instantly shocked everyone, and the Emperor incredulously asked if he was serious. To this, Father's reason was that they should prioritize the aftermath. If the military camp collapsed, the magic beasts might charge into Imperial territory, so they must quickly rebuild the position to prevent greater sacrifices. Hailing this answer, Ilya asked in a trembling voice, "Then what about the young master?" Father spoke sternly. He managed to let the princess escape, so he has fulfilled his wish. This is the Belter family's mission. Hailing this, tears welled up uncontrollably in Yalan's eyes, her heart filled with self-blame. Just then, a familiar cry came from the sky. Yalan quickly raised her head to look up. A purple dragon suddenly appeared in the sky. When she looked carefully, her small mouth gaped in shock, because there was a figure on that huge dragon's back. It was none other than Leon, who had saved her earlier. Dragonkind were creatures closest to the creator, not only rare but extremely precious. Just drinking its blood could dramatically increase one's power. Leon couldn't let it go, but even though this magic dragon was still in its infancy, its power couldn't be underestimated. It opened its huge mouth, gathering a terrible breath attack. The horrifying power instantly destroyed where Leon had been, but fortunately, he dodged in time, flashing to appear beside the magic dragon. He swiftly swung twice, striking the dragon's eyes. The dragon cried out in pain, letting out a roar of rage. Its wings beat, then it quickly flew skyward. Then it suddenly accelerated, charging like a spear toward Leon. But Leon showed no fear, smirking wickedly. He shifted his form to dodge the strike, while gathering power in his hand. The next instant, he used his Shadow Sword technique, 8-petal dance, landing a heavy hit on the dragon. Leon wearily rolled his shoulders. His current body was still too strained to deal with a dragon, but it was time to end this, so he prepared to finish the dragon. The dragon once again beat its wings. Leon thought it was going to use the same technique, but what he never expected was, the dragon swiftly turned and fled ignominiously. This greatly surprised Leon. He leaped up toward the airborne dragon. He couldn't just let this creature escape. So the persistent Leon ended up clinging to the dragon's leg, and thus appeared in everyone's sight. This made the Emperor quite surprised. He asked Father why he wasn't going to rescue his son. However, Father remained unmoved, lost in thought. Meanwhile, Leon on the dragon's back was quite helpless, unsure what to do in this situation. Kaelan asked if he wasn't going to do something. Leon said, "Haven't you seen the people below?" But Kaelan thought it didn't matter anymore. If he didn't want to die, he needed to do something now. But if Leon used Demon Sword Descent now, the outcome might be worse than death. So you plan to just stay on this dragon? I'm thinking of a solution right now. While they were arguing, Father made his move, holding his sword with both hands as he began chanting magic. Seeing this, Leon was shocked into a cold sweat, because that was 8th level magic, Heaven's secret sword. This was a terrifyingly destructive area magic. At this rate, Leon would be caught in it too. But fortunately for Leon, the dragon wasn't so easily hit. It dodged the dense attacks, but even so, it couldn't avoid all attacks. In an instant, one attack came right at Leon. With no choice, Leon had to let go and jump down from the dragon. But Leon still yearned for the dragon, heartbroken at missing this treasure. Kalen cursed loudly, "Stop messing around. If you don't think of something quick, you'll hit the ground." Leon said if he used demon energy now, he'd be tied to a post and burned alive. Kalen was furious. "So you plan to die instead?" But suddenly Leon seemed to see something and immediately had an idea. He excitedly looked at the blood river below, and Kalen immediately knew what Leon was planning, saying with disgust, "You're not planning to jump in, are you?" Leon said helplessly, "There's no other choice now." Then with a splash, he plunged into the river water. At the same time, a man in the distance also noticed that frantically fleeing dragon, saying, "What a rare sight indeed." The red-haired man behind him spoke, "It's a young dragon, but it seems to have lost its way and gotten into trouble." Hailing this, the man immediately assumed there must be very powerful magic beasts there, but the red-haired man told him humans lived there. Hailing this, the man didn't quite believe it, thinking dragons couldn't possibly lose to humans. Just then he sensed a strange yet familiar energy appealing not far away. The red-haired man said if he was worried he could go take a look, but please don't kill everything you see just because you're bored. Meanwhile, on the other side, Leon had climbed ashore. He called out Kalan's name, asking why she wasn't speaking. Kalan said angrily, "I'm thinking about how to kill you. I feel so filthy." Leon consoled her, "Don't be so angry. I'll clean you up when we get back." Kalan snorted coldly. "Better think about how to get back. We're in demon territory now." Leon told her not to worry. There couldn't possibly be high-level demons here. But as soon as he finished speaking, a voice appeared behind him. "I knew there was something interesting waiting for me here." In an instant, Leon was shocked. This voice was deeply etched in his mind, one he could never forget, because this guy was the most terrifying among the demon race. The Demon King, Viserion, outwardly a brutal and merciless demon king, but privately an approachable, humorous man. This was completely beyond Leon's expectations. It should be known that in his previous life, this was the prime culprit who started the human-demon war. Everyone who had seen him had only one thought: this terrifying being was the incarnation of evil. Yet now he had appeared before Leon, without any warning. This immediately put Leon on high alert. He couldn't understand why they would meet at this precise moment. Seeing Leon's combat stance, the Demon King narrowed his eyes. The next instant, he appeared ghost-like behind Leon. "Do you want to fight me?" Leon quickly turned and swept out with his sword, but hit only the Demon King's afterimage. His form appeared again behind Leon. At this time, the Demon King suddenly burst into laughter. "You're quite an interesting person." Kalan asked what to do now. How could he possibly fight the Demon King in his current state? Hailing this, Leon couldn't help but lower his gaze. He knew well that defeating this terrifying being was impossible. The only option was to flee, but could he really do it? But what Leon never expected was, the Demon King's behavior exceeded his expectations. "Relax. I don't want to fight a child like you." To lower Leon's guard, the Demon King lay down on the ground with a grin. "If you're not at ease, we can chat while lying down." This scene immediately dumbfounded Leon. Why did this guy suddenly lie down? The Demon King asked again, "Are you really human? Is this your first time in the demon realm?" Leon nodded lightly in affirmation. Seeing Leon's nervous appearance, the Demon King said he seemed strange. "Why do I feel like you know me well?" To this, Leon said he was indeed human, and had never seen him before, but why you was here. The Demon King's carefree manner made Leon doubt if this was really the same Demon King he knew. The Demon King said he sensed strange energy during his patrol and came to check. This was his duty as Demon King. But after speaking, he suddenly sat up and asked Leon what he had just said. So Leon repeated his words, but his calm demeanor aroused the Demon King's suspicion. A human hailing the Demon King's name yet showing no shock. This drove him crazy. "Human children don't react like you when hailing my name. Didn't your mother tell you stories about being taken away by the Demon King if you misbehave?" His behavior left Leon bewildered. This guy definitely wasn't the Demon King he knew. If the plot followed his previous life, the Demon King would soon begin invading the human realm. But this guy didn't seem like that type at all. If this was his true personality, what then drove him to become that merciless Demon King? So Leon asked the Demon King a question. If he really was the Demon King, what was his greatest wish? The Demon King showed a gentle smile. "I don't have any particular wishes. I just hope my subjects can live happily." But then the Demon King said darkly, "But if anyone dares destroy this, I'll kill them all. This is my duty as Demon King." Feeling the terrifying aura, Leon's suspicions were confirmed. He was indeed the Demon King he knew from his previous life, that terrifying monster, Viserion. It's just that now he seemed sealed somehow, so something must have unlocked his restraints. Thinking this, Leon decided to prevent that incident. So he asked the Demon King if he would make a deal with him, because soon he would encounter an incident that would threaten his subjects. Though I don't know exactly what that incident is, I can tell you with certainty. That incident will trigger a war between humans and demons. Hailing this, the Demon King thought it was nonsense. "You think I would plunder territory?" Leon said this was true, and this was why he wanted to negotiate. "Promise me no matter what happens, don't start a war." The Demon King crossed his arms saying, "Setting aside whether this is true, Even if it is, what would I get in return for promising you? Lian said he could help him. No matter what happens, I will do my utmost to help you. Hailing this, the Demon King leaned down to Lian's face, styling at him intently. What exactly do you know? Tell me your name, young one. Lian raised his head and said, Lian Belter. The Demon King agreed to the deal with Lian and promised that no matter what happened, he wouldn't invade the human world. But he also said Lian must take responsibility for his promise. After all, a deal is a deal. To this, Lian seriously nodded in response. Then until we meet again, young one. Scene change. The knights found Lian by the river at the border. This allowed him to successfully return to the Empire. And from then on, Lian gained a new title, the boy who survived the dragon's mouth. When Lian woke up again, the scene before him left him dumbfounded. Yelin was sitting by his bed. With a shy blush on her face, she still gathered her courage and repeated what she had just said. Would you become my person? At these words, Lian was stunned. What was this girl saying? She was the Empire's most noble fifth princess. Yet she was willing to lower herself to recruit a boy, only because the boy showed talent beyond the ordinary. Not only saving her from high-level magic beasts, but also successfully surviving an encounter with a terrifying dragon. But faced with Yalin's recruitment, Lian refused without hesitation. This immediately caused panic to appear on Yalin's face. Then she understood the reason, trembling as she cried tearfully. She was nothing but an incompetent princess. Seeing this, Lian felt annoyed and irritated. Though he was well aware of Yalin's incompetence, what he disliked more was her terrible attitude. So he pretended to say that was just how things were, but told her not to be too disappointed. Yalin clenched her small hands. Instantly returning to that tsundere princess manner, she snorted, I understand what you mean. Once I grow strong enough, you'll acknowledge me. Just wait and see. Someday, I'll become so powerful, you won't be able to ignore me. Yalin's confident and optimistic appearance made Lian break into a sweat. She really like a child. Good luck. I look forward to seeing that day. Just as Yalin was about to leave, she stopped her steps. Oh, one more thing. Yalin turned her head with a charming smile and softly said, Anyway, thank you for saving me. Scene change in a small forest at the rear camp. A man was furtively looking around, then took out a magic cube emanating an ethereal light. He stared at the cube excitedly saying, Not much left now? Just then, a voice sounded behind him. So it was you, Zenard Crimson. As soon as the words fell, Zenard's body became immobile, as if bound by invisible chains. Lian appeared behind Zenard, his gaze falling on the cube in his hand, recognizing it at once. This was a divine artifact created with magic infusion, containing space inside that could store infinite items, a masterpiece by Master Gam of the Magic Association. And Lian had been watching for a whole year, as someone had been smuggling within the Empire. It seems that person was you, 7-star Knight Zenard Crimson. Hailing this, Zenard was terrified. You're Lian Belter. Why are you here? Lian turned the cube over, dumping its contents on the ground, all important materials from magic beast corpses. He asked if Zenard had spies helping at the border. Hailing this, Zenard became very agitated, shouting that he knew nothing. Lian told him not to play dumb, because their smuggled beast blood had appeared in the black market, and the hound blood Lian had previously obtained through Lilith also came from the black market, so Lian pondered who that spy might be. Meanwhile, Zenard noticed his body could move again, and quietly gathered magic in his hand, suddenly raising his hand to launch a sneak attack on Leon. In an instant, towering flames engulfed him. At this point, Zenard finally breathed a sigh of relief, almost losing the precious cube. But the next second, a sword flash appeared before him, separating his hand from his body. A strange black mist floated up. Lian's figure emerged from the black mist. Then Lian grabbed his throat. Terrible demon energy erupted within. Tell me your choice. Either tell me everything you know and die comfortably, or endure torture that would make even the gods pray for you. Scene change at a border trading post in the western region. Two men happily looked at this batch of smuggled goods. When they opened the box, fear filled their faces, because inside was Zenard's head. While Lian watched their panicked appearance from afar, Kalen asked if he wasn't going to deal with those guys. Lian said warning them was enough. Zenard had been smuggling at the front line, and his goods were all sent to the Magic Association. That place gathered all mages obsessed with magic, researching magic's origins and foundations, and the art of creating new magic. They were a group yearning to surpass human nature limits. Currently, they were making useful items, like that cube, but in the future, they would use beast blood to do crazier things. So Lian needed to start stopping them now. Kalen said, You're switching from assassin to problem solver? I thought you were living for yourself. Hailing this, Lian's eyes lowered as he said quietly, I just don't want anyone using beast blood again. Scene change in some residence in the Empire. Aegil looked at the letter in his hand, lost in thought. So my little brother Lian went to the front line with father? Hailing this, the woman behind him smiled seductively. Is that your half-brother? Aegil showed a demonic cold smile. This guy really annoys me. Looks like I need to go see him. After finishing his frontline journey, Lian and Elia prepared to return to the family and head to the academy. Just thinking about leaving this terrifying place, Elia cheered excitedly. Looking forward to their upcoming academy journey, I heard there are many handsome teachers there. How exciting. But Lian couldn't feel happy at all, because for him, the academy was the beginning of hell. There was not only just the beauty Elia was expecting, but a place filled with politics and conspiracies also. Scene change. Lian returned to the family from the front line. As soon as he entered, he met a familiar face. It was Kranz, who had been miserably defeated in their previous duel. Now Kranz trembled in fear at the sight of Leon. before Lian could speak. He turned and quickly fled from there. Kaylan asked who he was. Lian waved dismissively. "That's my half-brother, just ignore him." Moments later, Lian walked into the castle. The servants bowed respectfully in greeting. This scene took Lian by surprise. In his memory, these people weren't so polite to him. Previously, they wouldn't even look at him. But thinking of his year of effort and dedication, he felt this was his deserved reward. Then he prepared to open the door. But the next second, he froze in place, chilled to the bone, as he sensed a familiar and detestable presence. It was a presence he could never forget. There was no mistake. Behind this door was his hated nemesis, his half-brother Egil Belter. "Long time no see, Lian." Seeing this scene, Lian stood frozen, styling at him intently. Hatred, anger, and killing intent gradually occupied his mind. He could no longer maintain his composure. He unconsciously drew out the demon sword, with only one thought remaining in his mind: kill him. At that moment, Kaylan suddenly stopped Lian's actions. She told Lian that if he wanted to live, he needed to come to his senses. Now wasn't the time to make a move. Hearing this, Lian's brows furrowed, his gaze sharpened. In the end, he suppressed the killing intent in his eyes, bowing to Egil before him. "Long time no see, brother." Seeing Lian's demeanor, Egil reached out and gently stroked his head. "I thought you wouldn't recognize me. I heard your swordsmanship has improved. Looks like you'll be able to help out soon. I'll be waiting for you on the battlefield." Hearing this, Lian's eyes were cold, devoid of emotion. "Indeed, I'm very much looking forward to that day." Lian's strange behavior made Egil feel somewhat uneasy. He told Lian that he was pleased with his performance on the front lines and came specifically to see him today. Lian scoffed. He knew this guy well. If he had no use for him, he wouldn't even spare him a glance. But after learning why Egil came here, Lian also became increasingly calm. Meanwhile, Elia returned to the room grumbling while carrying 2 large boxes of luggage. "Young master doesn't carry any luggage at all. Couldn't he help me a bit? I'm going to be worked to death." She then pushed open the door in frustration, just about to complain. When she saw Egil walking out, she was frozen in shock on the spot. Seeing this, Egil smiled gently. "I heard Lian is very close to you. Seems it's true." Snapping back to reality, Elia hurriedly bowed repeatedly in panic. "Have a safe journey, young lord." While saying to Lian, "You nearly scared me to death, young master. Why didn't you tell me the eldest master was here?" However, Lian responded grimly, "Elia, could you leave me alone for a while?" Elia asked what was wrong, but what responded to her was Lian's cold gaze. "I don't want to say it twice." Afterwards, Lian was vomiting in the bathroom. The intense emotional turbulence made him nauseous. He then asked Kaylan why she stopped him earlier. This was a good opportunity to take control of his body. Kaylan laughed. "Shouldn't you be thanking me? Besides, I just want your anger to burn more fiercely. That way you'll be more delicious when I consume you." Hearing this, Lian chuckled. "Indeed, this is more like you." Meanwhile, in Egil's room, a subordinate was reporting to him, saying they had found the second young lady's whereabouts. She was now in the northern White Elves territory. Egil's face showed an intrigued smile. The White Elves were known for their aversion to outsiders, yet she managed to establish relations with them. It seems she's indeed skilled at socializing. "Let me know when she returns." The man immediately agreed, and seeing Egil's expression, he couldn't help but ask, "Did something good happen? You seem more excited than usual. Was the meeting with the young master interesting?" Egil suddenly burst into laughter. "Interesting? I suppose you could say that, but your assumption is wrong. I'm not happy at all right now." In an instant, an eerie aura enveloped the man, frightening him into hurried apologies. Meanwhile, Egil was recalling the look in Lian's eyes earlier, that gaze like one looking at a lifelong nemesis. Had he seen wrong? This made Egil inexplicably troubled, so he arranged for men to keep watch over Lian. Then he gazed into the distance, lost in thought. "Lian, what exactly are you hiding?" On the other side, today was the day Lian would depart for the academy. But Alia was extremely dissatisfied. Because the academy didn't allow maids to accompany students, her previous fantasies were shattered. Lian said the academy only allowed guardian knights. There was nothing he could do, but don't cause trouble after I'm gone. Elia let out a light humph. "Young master, you should worry more about yourself." Then Lian set off under Elia's watchful gaze. She cried as she bid Lian farewell. "Young master, you must return safely." Elia's wailing cry also stirred Lian's memories. When he was 8 years old, he had a severe fever, and no one was willing to take care of him. Only Elia braved the heavy rain to carry him to the camp's infirmary. If it weren't for her, Lian would have already become a corpse in some corner of the mansion. So whether in the past or present, Elia was not just a maid to Lian, but someone very important. However, what Lian found very suspicious was, this simple escort mission actually assigned 6 high-ranking knights. A thought crossed his mind, and Lian had already seen through the mystery. Looks like there'll be quite a show before entering school. As they traveled on, the sun was about to set. The knights woke Lian up in the carriage, saying they had reached near the central city of Saberon and would arrive at their destination tomorrow morning. They would rest here for the night, and Lian agreed, letting them make arrangements. However, he had already seen through everything. This guy was lying, because there were no such forests near Saberon, nor did it seem to have suitable shaded areas. So why camp in such a remote wilderness? Their intentions were too obvious. Then Lian got down from the carriage. Meanwhile, the knights began to surround him. Lian's eyes turned cold as he spoke calmly. "Tell me, who ordered this?" The lead knight sneered, drawing his sword. "Dead men don't need to know so much. We regret it has come to this. It's nothing personal. Just close your eyes, and everything will pass peacefully." After speaking, The man swung his sword at Leon. Unexpectedly, his strike was easily dodged by Leon. The next second, as the blade flashed, a head flew into the air, then landed on the ground with a thud. It was the knight who had just attacked Leon. Seeing this, the other knight's expressions drastically changed, their hearts filled with terror, because the aura Leon now emanated was like a devil from hell, making their scalps tingle. What's wrong? All scared stiff? Didn't expect the story to go differently from what you planned? But soon someone came to their senses, rushing behind Leon for a sneak attack. However, his attack was nothing but futile. Under Leon's displayed combat prowess, the man was immediately beheaded. The other knights became souls under his sword, one after another. Unable to bear this terrifying pressure, one knight turned to flee, but Leon casually threw his magic sword, completely cutting off his hope of escape. Finally, only one knight remained at the scene. He had been terrified by what he'd witnessed. Could such overwhelming combat power really belong to an 11-year-old child? His survival from the dragon's clutches was clearly not just a rumor. This mission was doomed to fail from the start. As Leon turned his cold gaze upon him, the man felt death approaching, collapsing weakly to the ground. Leon approached step by step, asking ominously, "Now are you willing to tell me who's behind this?" The man, scared half to death, answered without hesitation, "It was Duchess Marie who ordered it." Seeing his reaction, Leon was somewhat speechless. This guy answered so quickly. Leon had no idea how much his godlike appearance had traumatized him. The next day, Leon continued his journey to the academy. He learned from the knight that Kranz had made a request to his mother. This might be related to their mission. So it was because of that Kranz guy. Looks like I'll need to give him a good beating next time we meet. And since they needed someone to drive the carriage, Leon didn't kill this last knight. Besides, this guy looked too weak, completely not worth eliminating. Soon after, Leon finally arrived at the academy city, the central city of Saberon. After Leon arrived at the Royal Academy, he showed the badge representing his identity. The receptionist was somewhat stunned upon seeing it, immediately helped him complete the enrollment procedures, and gave him a noble room key and letters. Seeing this key, Leon was puzzled. He confirmed with the woman if she hadn't made a mistake. A moment later, Leon arrived at his residence. The room was luxurious and noble. No one from their family had ever been assigned such accommodation. It seemed someone had arranged this in advance. Leon asked if the knight had moved in all the luggage. "Yes, all the luggage you brought has been brought in." After getting the answer, Leon reached into his chest. "Since we've arrived at the academy and the luggage is all moved in, your mission ends here." Seeing this, the knight's face instantly broke out in cold sweat, hurriedly shouting, "Wait!" However, Leon just threw him a bag of gold coins. He didn't understand, and Leon said, "If you don't want to die, don't return to the family. Whatever you do from now on, this is enough startup money." Hearing this, the knight fell into silence. The next moment, he suddenly knelt before Leon, loudly swearing to Leon, "Knight Flay is willing to protect you for life, noble young master Leon." Leon sighed somewhat helplessly. "You've done something very troublesome." Flay said his father once told him that if he met a lord worthy of lifelong loyalty, he should never hesitate. As soon as he finished speaking, Leon instantly showed murderous intent. "What if you betray me later?" Seeing this, Flay nervously broke out in cold sweat, but Leon's hand had already gently rested on his shoulder. "I hope you won't betray me, otherwise I guarantee you'll regret it." Meanwhile, in the Belter family, Maria had already received news of Leon's safe arrival at the academy, and of the knights she sent to assassinate him. Except for one who disappeared, all others were dead. Maria was furious. "Didn't you say it would be foolproof? You couldn't even eliminate a 10-year-old child." The subordinate panicked, saying, "There must be an expert by his side. Give me another chance, we can send people to the academy." However, Maria interrupted his words. What worried her most was her son Kranz. Just thinking about Leon's cold threat made her afraid. So Maria ordered her subordinate to stop any further actions. And this incident must not be known by anyone. All related people must be dealt with. However, unknown to them, a figure at the door had already heard their conversation. On the day of the enrollment attribute test, the principal satisfactorily looked at the test results before him. There were quite a few outstanding geniuses among this year's students. Yalin tested with 25% light attribute, magic level 2 stars, physical level B. There was also a man named Seth, who tested with 71% sand attribute, magic level 3 stars, physical level 1. What amazed him even more was Leon. His dark attribute was 92%, magic level 1 star, physical strength S level, top tier existence. Even his sister Lilith, who was hailed as the divine child, only had 88% water attribute at graduation. Those children previously called geniuses by the academy all seemed so dim before Leon. However, everyone felt sorry that he had dark attribute, because with dark attribute, one might die before their potential could be fully explored. But what concerned the principal most was that Leon was arranged to stay in the royal hall, and it was in the emperor's name. Hearing this, Silica's pupil suddenly shook. The principal told her Leon had saved Princess Yalin at the front line. Now the emperor was considering their marriage. Learning this bombshell news, Silica was shocked speechless. The 5th princess, who was excluded from the power struggle, and the talented Belter family joining forces. The struggle for succession to the throne would be further catalyzed, perhaps even splitting the entire empire. The principal consoled Silica not to think too much about it for now. All they could do was wait and see. Whether this child would become the empire's disaster or hero, they could only wait to find out. On the other side, Leon thought to himself, his previous life's value was 80%. Now it had reached 92%. It must be because he drank the monster blood. While he was lost in thought, a figure appeared before him. It was actually Kranz, who became as scared as a mouse seeing a cat upon seeing Leon. The chubby boy behind Kranz said, "Is he the one who treated you like a slave?" After Kranz confirmed, he mockingly said to Leon, "I heard you don't even know who your mother is." This guy named Bofi often bullied Leon together with Kranz in his previous life. Now meeting his enemy again, Leon laughed coldly in his heart. This bastard came at just the right time. While Bofi was still fearlessly trying to stand up for Kranz, walking aggressively towards Leon, Kranz felt greatly uneasy, wanting to stop him. The next second, Leon viciously kicked Bofi into the ground. He coldly stared at Kranz before him. Just a slight movement was enough to make him break out in cold sweat. Leon whispered ominously in Kranz's ear, "I don't care what little tricks you play behind my back, but if I find out, you might not graduate with all your limbs intact." Leon's casual words made Kranz's soul nearly leave his body. Kranz fell powerlessly to his knees, while Leon left with a mischievous smile, thinking the upcoming academy life would probably be very interesting. The scene changes. In a certain floor of the academy library, Silica was still pondering the principal's words. Whether Leon would become a disaster or hero, she needed to pay more attention to him. But when she was about to take the book she wanted, she found that book was no longer there. Just then, Leon's voice came from beside her. "Are you looking for this book?" Silica's expression suddenly changed. She hadn't noticed Leon's presence, but she quickly returned to normal, smilingly asking Leon how he got in. This wasn't a place anyone could enter. "Leon, could you return it to me? That's essential material for my research." Leon smiled lightly. "Of course," then handed the materials to Silica. However, the next second, a wave of dark aura swept out. But Leon seemed to have anticipated this, saying mockingly, "Isn't this what you wanted, Professor Silica? Or should I say, Hall Master Silica of the Black Mist Organization?" Silica's hands were wrapped in dark energy as she asked, "Who exactly are you?" In his previous life, Leon's first impression of Professor Silica was that she was very ordinary. She would always have conversations with him under the pretext of caring about him. At that time, Leon, who was constantly bullied by his family members, desperately wanted to become stronger. And it was Silica who showed him hope. The dark attribute that others saw as useless was described as full of potential in her words. Also because of this, Leon's heart was warmed by the care she gave at that time. However, all of this was nothing but an illusion, because it was all just bait. The identity of Royal Academy professor was just her disguise. Her true identity was actually an assassin. And at this moment, Leon posed a question to Silica. "When did your purification work begin?" Silica fell into silence, then suddenly burst out with overwhelming killing intent. "What are you talking about? I don't understand at all." Seeing Silica still playing dumb, Leon made it clear. "Of course I'm referring to your assassination operations." Hearing this, the killing intent in Silica's eyes grew stronger. "If you take back what you just said, I can pretend I never heard it." But Leon showed no fear. "Are you threatening a student?" The next moment, Silica kicked the table in front of her towards Leon. Leon smashed the table in half with a straight punch. In this interval, Silica appeared behind Leon, holding dual blades, ready to launch a sneak attack. Leon said, "I think I've already been honest about my true identity. Are you sure you still want to do this?" But his words couldn't stop Silica. "Even if you're the real Black Mist, I won't allow the existence of any Black Mist unknown to the Hallmaster." Seeing this, Leon had no choice. With a wave of his hand, he summoned his magic sword, countering with a sword strike that knocked Silica back. "Since you don't believe me, I can only prove it to you." Then launched a fierce offensive against Silica. At this moment, Silica's expression changed drastically, as she had recognized the weapon in Leon's hand. It was the dark magic sword Kalen, which could only be used after receiving Ael's acknowledgement. Leon raised his magic sword and said calmly, "Now can you finally acknowledge my identity? You're looking for the Black Mist successor, right? Then, please take me to Ael's presence. The successor you're looking for is right here." His words shocked her to the core. He was actually the successor of the dark god Ael. To verify Leon's claims, Silica took him to a certain warehouse, telling him this was the path to the altar, and from here he needed to proceed alone. Leon could clearly feel this place was different. The air was filled with omnipresent dark energy. Just then, Leon detected traces of enemies. He immediately swept away the first dagger that came at him, then turned his gaze to the assassin. Though this was within his expectations, the scene was quite grand. In an instant, the assassin's attack reached him. Leon's magic sword swung rapidly, countering by sending the incoming dagger flying back. This maneuver shocked the assassin. He had actually deflected his short sword in such a short time. The next moment, several people activated the shadow secret technique, Dead Angle Formation, attacking Leon in a pincer movement. Seeing this, red light flashed in Leon's eyes. A surge of bloody shadow energy erupted from within. Instantly, the assassin's veins bulged as he showed signs of pain, the intense suffocation making his body immobile. Then he collapsed and passed out. This was the killing aura wave from the shadow secret techniques, materializing killing intent and releasing it from the body, an assassin's innate skill. But what Leon hadn't expected was that someone could still stand. Could it be an elite at the executive level? Thinking this, Leon couldn't be careless anymore. He held his magic sword, preparing to use a secret technique of the shadow sword. But in the next second, the assassin charged forward at extreme speed. This startled Leon to be able to interrupt his shadow sword. Who exactly was this person? Meanwhile, the assassin's mask fell off. "How's my ultimate technique?" Leon Lian Belter. Upon seeing who it was, Lian's mouth twitched. It was Silica. She was now extremely excited. I can no longer hold back. Quick, show me your true power. As soon as she finished speaking, Lian used the Dark Martial Arts 8 Styles Chaos Strike to knock Silica back. Silica became increasingly curious about Lian. You can use Dark Martial Arts and Shadow Sword so skillfully, I'm becoming more and more interested in you. Unexpectedly, before she could finish speaking, Lian quickly turned and ran. The reason he did this was that he sensed the battle lust in Silica. She was desperate to fight. Fighting with such a person, they wouldn't stop until death. Silica chased after Lian. Come fight with me. Aren't you also yearning for this? She then launched a dark sword technique, Storm Surge. After blocking this strike, Lian felt somewhat helpless. He really didn't want to fight such a madwoman. Silica told him not to worry. This was the divine space created by Al. His presence wouldn't be detected outside, so he could fight freely without concerns. Hearing this, Lian no longer prepared to flee because this meant he could freely use various skills now. Although there was a possibility of killing the Hall Master, it couldn't be helped. But just then, Lian's body suddenly froze. Then he collapsed, blacking out. After he fell, the magic sword in his hand gradually began to take form. I knew this would happen. You should rest for a while. Before Silica's astonished gaze, Kalen appeared in human form, asking proudly, you know who I am, right? Hearing this, Silica immediately knelt respectfully. Yes, Lady Kalen. Kalen said angrily with disdain. A bunch of self-proclaimed Ale believers dare to harm my master. Silica explained this was just her duty as Hall Master, to confirm if Lian was the successor. But this answer didn't satisfy Kalen. She said, couldn't you just call out your god directly to confirm? Since you didn't do that, should I take it as you're also challenging me? However, Silica told her to put those words aside for now. We should first take care of our successor. When Kalen was puzzled, she turned to find Lian had already lost a large pool of blood. How did he end up like this? Silica knew the reason. Kalen's manifestation required absorbing the host's life force to maintain. This was a very inefficient method. Kalen grabbed Lian up, saying with exasperation, you start coughing blood at just this level? All that monster blood you absorbed was wasted. At this time, Silica spoke again. However, as the Hall Master of Black Mist, I won't refuse any challenge. And if my opponent is you, I'm even more eager to accept. Silica showed her manic side again. Her behavior gave Kalen the creeps. What's wrong with this weird person? By this time, Lian had regained consciousness, asking Kalen rather helplessly why she suddenly manifested. Kalen grinned fiercely. Quietly hide behind me, let me thoroughly crush this hateful person. Hearing this, Silica's excitement grew even more intense. This is truly my honor. But just then, an authoritative voice stopped both their fighting. That's enough. Bring the successor to the altar. After speaking, a portal appeared in the space, and the owner of this voice was Ael. Seeing this, Lian felt both nervous and excited. We're finally meeting. The Dark God Ael. In people's minds, the Dark God is extremely evil, taking lives without mercy. Under such public opinion, any attempt to defend him seems thoughtless. He himself once said that this was the path chosen by the masses, and no one has the right to judge right from wrong for them. But when they use death to defend their beliefs, they have paid the price. Anyone who hears this logic would say it's insane, but I know this God's nature well. He just wants to protect the weak. He's as simple as a fool. As I climb the stairs, the figure on that throne appears before my eyes. No one knows him better than I do, yet this is his first time meeting me. How do you prove you're my heir? I believe you must have already sensed the dark mist energy within me. There are two ways to become an heir. One is for the Dark God to personally bestow the Mist Core, and the other is for the Mist Core to find a qualified successor itself. The moment the Mist Core suddenly disappeared from the altar last year, Ael had already sensed the appearance of an heir, so his question now is just to observe my reaction. His tone becomes more grim, but what surprises me more is, you actually found Kalen. Even I cannot track her whereabouts. It seems you get along well with her. Hearing Ael mention this, Kalen remains silent, though dissatisfaction still lingers in her eyes. Ael continues, if consider that your eyes sparkle with a light far beyond your age, I think you must be a reborn one from a timeline that doesn't belong to me, doesn't belong to him. Could my rebirth be completely unrelated to him? Then who made me reborn? If you think I'm an omnipotent god, then you've come to the wrong place. My divine rights have been stripped away for a long time. He's right. I can deduce this from the state of his divine miracles. I shouldn't have expected to find answers about my rebirth here. But anyway, this is still a good thing. A perfect successor has appeared before me. The work I need to do has suddenly decreased. No, I should say I can do nothing at all. Kalen and I break out in cold sweat. This is the Ael from my memories. Still as lazy and carefree. But in the next second, his expression suddenly becomes serious. But you've brought something annoying with you. Getting the demon blade wasn't enough to satisfy you? You still covet the Holy Sword's favor? I slowly curl my lips. I don't want to do anything to the Holy Sword right now. I'm just curious if the Holy Sword would become useless if the whole world didn't know of its existence. Although my mischievous nature leaves him speechless, he still chooses to follow the agreed rules. Then as your absolute master. My dear heir, what will you choose to do with these powers? In my previous life, I was asked the same question, and my answer then was, I will live for my brother. What a foolish answer. And they were indifferent to my response. Ael even rarely warned me, be careful. Nothing is more dangerous than blind faith. Perhaps at that time, he had already seen through my final tragic ending. In my previous life, Father always taught me that serving Egil was serving the family. So in my simplicity, I took this creed as my guiding principle. But now, I've already come this far for revenge against Egil. This goal is no longer out of reach. But don't I have anything I want for myself? I don't have any grand plans, like creating great achievements or devoting myself to sacred and firm beliefs. But in this life, I want to make everything different. I face Egil directly. I desire your power purely for myself, just for my own benefit. Egil says, right and wrong are for you to decide, but can you manage not to regret it? You'd better be careful with your answer because I might kill you based on it. Egil never lies, but at this moment, I don't care what consequences my actions might bring. I no longer listen to anyone, only to my own heart. This is the path I choose to take. Hearing this, he falls into momentary contemplation. You seem to already have a plan, can't you tell me? I shake my head in denial. Well, that's fine too, as long as you can uphold my name. I don't have any more questions either, after all, you're boring enough. But now I need to have a talk with my daughter. Hearing this, Kaylin jumps in fright. The next second, she's caught in Egil's hands. You've been too quiet from the start. Do you like your master that much? Kaylin immediately denies. I'm so happy to see you become like this now. Has my hundreds-year-old daughter finally grown up? He puckers his lips and moves to kiss Kaylin. I want to be closer to you, but I have nothing good to give to your little master. Kaylin struggles to push Egil away. Get off. It's too mushy. Master, save me. Hearing this, I immediately turn my head away. He can't stop their harmonious father-daughter relationship anyway. Just as Egil's lips are about to touch Kaylin, countless magic arrays light up. The next moment, Kaylin actually manifested her true form. She had a body. I check my life force, but find it hasn't decreased. Did Egil use his own power? Kaylin, who just gained a body, immediately grabs her father angrily. What did you do to me? I created a body for you. It's better to have a body to compete for your master's affection. Kaylin immediately explodes in anger, furiously talking back. I can only watch all this speechlessly. This parent-child relationship is really harmonious. The next day, the scene switches to the academy dormitory. Guard Fla carefully asks me how to handle the current situation. I want to cry but have no tears. I don't know, let's just let it be. But no matter how you look at it, this doesn't seem like something that can just be left alone. Kaylin and Silica. One is the Dark God's daughter. One is the Dark God's most capable subordinate and academy instructor. Coming to see your student in the dormitory so early, don't you think others will gossip about you? That's inevitable. A teacher must guide students on the right path. This is a completely normal teacher-student relationship. One provokes, the other retorts. Shouldn't the Assassin Guild master act more carefully? Master only needs my help alone. He is my student. What I want to do is none of your business, mind your own business. The atmosphere becomes increasingly tense. I sneak to the door. I'm going for a walk. Young master, don't leave me here. Flaw was a step too slow. The verbal battle had already escalated into a physical one. 10 minutes later, I arrive at the Academy Tower, finally escaped from that terrifying battlefield. But the next second, the scent of blood drifts to my nose. Someone is fighting. A red-haired youth's figure flies heavily into a pile of debris, coughing up blood. Beside him are three slightly older noble children. They have him cornered in the alley. Should we use that? Haha, let's start now. A strange red orb appears in his palm. Look over here. Your friend brought you a little snack. Enjoy it well. Stop! You're too cruel to your classmate. Aren't you ashamed as nobles? The scarred-faced youth stops his action. I am Barrett Lewis, the eldest son of the Duke of Gaza Kingdom. And who are you? Yalin also stands firm. I am Princess Yalin of the Empire, whose status is more noble. Princess Yalin thinks she's just saved an ordinary youth, but I know he will become the continent's strongest sword saint in the future, because he is Lexi, my former life's rival, with no magical power at all. He fought me to a standstill with just swordsmanship. It seems I've encountered the turning point of his fate. Barrett, the Duke's son before my eyes, is the culprit who caused him to be unable to cultivate magic. He forced Lexi to swallow the magic orb, which caused permanent damage to his magic structure. I don't know if this stems from ignorance or cruelty, just as Yalin tries to stop this violence by invoking her princess status. Barrett remains unmoved and mocks Yalin for being just the 5th princess. The Empire's authority is declining, so, as the eldest son of Duke Louis, Barrett dares to provoke the Emperor's illegitimate 5th princess. Yalin refused his handshake greeting, but still insists on interfering. Barrett remains arrogant. I think there's a misunderstanding here. Between this red-haired man and me, it's just playful banter between companions. I'm not bullying him. Lexi also reluctantly agrees with Barrett, but his forced expression is obvious to anyone. Yalin cannot remain indifferent. Whatever the case, I'm taking him away. Just as she touches Lexi's arm, Barrett rudely blocks her. I'm getting a bit impatient now. Didn't you hear Lexi say to leave? Even if you are the Empire's 5th princess, what of it? You're just a weak girl. Suddenly in the next second, a sharp wind passes. His body falls straight to the ground. I pay no attention to Barrett, whom I knock down with one move. My eyes constantly watch the red-haired Lexi before me. Is he really the Lexi I remember? The one called the continent's strongest swordsman now doesn't even have the ability to protect himself. In my previous life, after graduation, he joined the Klein family of the Gaza Kingdom, even changing his nationality. I was ordered by the Empire to assassinate him. When I infiltrated Castle Klein, I didn't choose to assassinate him, but gave him a chance for a duel. Because despite having no magic power, he had become the continent's strongest sword saint through talent and will. His swordsmanship had reached the peak. This perseverance alone was enough to earn my respect. I must say that battle was truly a match of equals. It was also one of the few intense battles in my life. Heroes recognizing heroes. Only a few opponents have left such a deep impression on me in my life. But now he is so weak, suffering, bullying. I'm quite upset. Barrett gets up from the ground, but this alone is not enough to make him learn his lesson. He continues to spout nonsense. I heard you came back from the front lines. Do you want to join our little game too? Little game? My eyes turn cold. In the Royal Academy, where talent is paramount, taking pleasure in destroying others' potential. Since you enjoy forcing others to swallow magic orbs so much, then I'll return one to you too. What's wrong? Never seen this kind of magic bullet before. Now open your mouth and enjoy it well. After handling everything, Yalan carefully bandages Lexi's external wounds and reminds him to rest well. But why does she look so proud when claiming credit in my name? She's referring to herself as my person again. I didn't expect Lexi's injuries to be more serious than they appeared. His endurance is indeed remarkable. As if noticing my gaze, Lexi asks if I knew him from before. I respond helplessly, I thought I knew you well, but it seems that's not the case. Although my words have other meanings, he still sensitively catches my disappointment. Yalan hurriedly changes the topic. Where is your dormitory? I'll take you back. I live in the commoner's hall. Aren't you a noble's child? Lexi lowers his head again. I was specially recruited by Professor Wilton. He promised to sponsor me during my studies, but he's suddenly been fired now. I interrupt. You have no backing now, so the next step is to leave the academy, right? He gives me an affirmative response before the two can react. I make a suggestion. Yalan, why don't you recruit her? She's qualified to be your sword instructor. The two are dumbfounded. Yalan says, but he's a boy, isn't he? I calmly respond, she's a girl. Yalan is completely stunned on the spot. I'm sorry, princess, I didn't mean to deceive you. It's just more comfortable to dress as a boy. So many people misunderstand. Getting Lexi's confirmation. Yalan feels even more sad. Am I the only one who didn't realize? But she quickly adjusts her emotions and accepts my suggestion. Would you like to become my person? This way, those who bully you won't dare to do it again, and you can study any course you want. Lexi loudly expresses her gratitude and vows to become someone she can be proud of. But when the two look for my figure, they find I've already quietly left. I understand that what prompted Yalan to make this decision wasn't from recognizing Lexi's potential, but her kindness, and I guarantee this time her kindness definitely won't be betrayed. But through this incident, I finally understand the cause of Lexi's betrayal of the Empire in my previous life. A sword saint who hasn't lost her magic power, her strength will definitely be even greater in the future. I'm afraid even I would have a hard time against her. But anyway, my attention is elsewhere now. When escaping the dormitory this morning, Silica gave me a list. This is my first assassination mission in this life in the name of purification. How exciting. I didn't expect my first assassination mission after joining the Miss Shadow organization would be the highest difficulty. Is it their recognition of me in this life that makes me feel so honored? Or was I really that weak in my previous life in their eyes? The target of this purification is one of the 3 richest people on the African continent. He has actually been secretly engaging in human trafficking, so this mission suits me perfectly. But what I didn't expect was that I would obtain a dragon egg from him. In the public's impression, Zickman is a generous and wealthy philanthropist, but under this hypocritical title, he operates the Empire's largest slave black market. There are even rumors that he conducts some inhuman species hybridization experiments. Killing him isn't difficult. What's difficult is finding him. The Miss Shadow organization spent several years just to get this little trace of him, so this mission only has one chance. Once he escapes, we might never find his trail again. Just as I'm studying the intelligence, a tall figure blocks my vision. He directly calls out my name. Obviously, he came prepared. I didn't expect a demon-like beast would mix into the academy. Magic level 1 star, physique S-class, the youngest son of the Belt family, the boy who survived from the magic dragon. The muscular man before me is Seth Chahakan. He's so familiar with me, but why does this name sound so familiar? The Sand Attribute Genius Warrior among the academy's new students. You're telling me he's only 11 years old with that height? He continues, even my physical attributes haven't reached S-class. So let's have a fight. This way everyone can clearly see who has the strongest body. I finally remember. That symbol on his shoulder is the emblem of the Sparta royal family. So the rumor about the Sand Prince entiling the academy was true. Sparta is a military power in the African desert. Even when the empire tried to conquer it, they failed. But this powerful kingdom eventually became ruins in later years. Because their only heir suddenly passed away, the cause of death was diagnosed as heart failure from excessive focus on muscle training. I didn't expect to meet him here. He's the only student so focused on body level. No wonder he would actively challenge me. He wants to compete for the title of strongest body. But now I have more important things to do and don't want to waste time here. Actually, there's another rumor about this Sand Prince. Thinking of this, I directly refuse his duel invitation and tell him duels are strictly forbidden in the academy. If he wants to fight me, he'd better go find the principal for formal approval right away. He immediately asks anxiously about the principal's office location. I casually point in a direction, 3rd floor. He immediately runs off. I'll settle this right away, so don't leave. Looking at his disappearing figure, I finally confirm that the rumor about his head being full of muscles is absolutely true. I don't know what answer the principal will give him, because this was just a lie I made up to make him leave. In a hidden dungeon in the outer city, Zickman is instructing guards to strength and security? Because this time's merchandise is truly priceless. Once the transaction is complete, his position might advance further. I silently draw the demon blade, but Kaylin tells me she senses a strange energy here. I release dark mist energy to cover the surroundings. Night is my best cover. With excellent dark sensing, these guards hired by Zickman at high salaries all end up decapitated. By the time he notices, only one close guard remains. He draws his sword and looks around fearfully, but only catches a shadow. Just an instant of confrontation. His sword is knocked away. His knees weaken. The next second, his throat is mercilessly cut by me. Zickman shouts in panic. Guards, where did everyone go? I turn coldly. You'll find the answer soon, because I'm sending you to hell to meet them right away. You really hired quite a few people with hefty sums, but your money was wasted. Zickman shouts again. I can give you anything you want. I'm the richest person in this world. But my response is just another cold sword flash. I slowly recite his crimes. Zickman Abbas engaged in illegal human trafficking and conducted various inhumane experiments and racial breeding. Your death is deserved. But I'll give you 1 minute to repent for your sins, then die without pain. Zickman still hasn't given up. I just keep everything balanced. I sell slaves only because there are buyers. Those who buy slaves are the bad ones. What right do you have to say I'm guilty? I expected that someone who climbed to become the wealthiest through persistence wouldn't break down so easily. From the beginning, I guessed he would never regret what he did. Now 1 minute has passed. Wait. I ignore his frantic pleas. Miss Sword Ninth style, thin blade. Sword light flashes like fine scales, ending his hypocritical life. This way of death is definitely not peaceful. This is the purpose of the Purification Project. Leaving dark mist is also a warning, but before leaving, I should look around. Following Kaylin's guidance, I cut open the prison cell. A woman holding a huge pink egg appears before my eyes. She's already dead, but Kaylin gestures for me to look at the giant egg. That's a dragon egg, but strangely, it has 2 different types of energy mixed inside. I bring the dragon egg back to the dormitory. Flay anxiously asks where I got it. Picked it up on the way. Flay says, how can anyone just pick up something like this on the way? Whether you believe it or not, this is what I picked up while walking. The deal Zickman was making behind the scenes was actually for a dragon egg. Who could the buyer be? However, Flay worriedly asks, what if it suddenly hatches? I say that's impossible. Dragon egg hatching conditions are harsh. Even constantly injecting suitable elemental energy might not be able to hatch it. So a dragon egg away from its mother dragon is actually no different from a pretty stone. But the next second, a sudden change makes both of them widen their eyes. The shell cracked. Is it really going to hatch? Yes. It really hatched. This little dragon girl called me Papa as soon as she broke the shell, but I just want to send her away. I've never had any experience being a father. Not to mention I grew up in such a distant family relationship. This makes me never have confidence in being a qualified father. So at this moment, I'm very helpless and confused. Even Kaylin can't help but laugh loudly. Papa, ha ha ha, congratulations on becoming an 11-year-old father. Even if anyone else mocks me, I don't want to be mocked by Kaylin. Kaylin, have you forgotten that you were the one who told me to take this dragon egg? And promised that you'd never seen a dragon egg hatch after losing its mother dragon. But now you're laughing the loudest. Didn't you say it would never hatch? That's why I'm saying I never expected this kind of thing would happen. Forget it, what's done is done, there's no use in blaming now. But considering her mixed blood status, she would never be accepted by humans in the Empire that believes in the Light God, and with the other half of dragon blood flowing in her body, she would definitely be killed by the entire dragon race as a disgrace. A human-dragon hybrid. So what that woman desperately protected was her daughter. But this little one is destined to face the world's malice from birth. Thinking of her tragic fate ahead, would it be more merciful to kill her now? Thinking of this, I reach my hand toward her neck. Kaylin sees my intention. Is this your choice? Well, I think this is good for her too. If her life ahead is destined to be full of pain, better to kill her now. But my hand, which has always considered itself cold-blooded, can't stop trembling. What am I hesitating about? The little dragon girl suddenly wakes up at this time, affectionately pouncing toward me. Papa, I love you. She has no guard against me at all, and her body is very warm. I lift her into the air. Staring at that pure smile, what is this emotion surging in my heart? Her smile is very reassuring. I feel difficulties can always be solved. Let's raise her, Kaylin. Kaylin stares at me uncomprehendingly. She probably thinks I want to raise her as a servant. And on the other side, in the Duke's mansion, although Maria canceled the assassination plan against me, she's still restless, especially considering her own son might face revenge in the academy at any time. She's more on pins and needles. Egil's sudden intrusion interrupts her thoughts. Mother, you look anxious. Is there anything I can do for you? I'm happy to solve your troubles. Maria thanks him in panic, but still finds an excuse to hurry away. Now only Egil and his close attendant Kaylin remain. 6 knights' bodies have been found in the mountains. They were all killed by young master. We estimate the remaining knight has followed young master into the academy. As you predicted, the instigator behind this assassination was Lady Maria. One last thing. Young master has been arranged to live in the royal hall. The person who reported this news disappeared afterward. Egil forces a response. I already know all this. So, you haven't found out anything about my brother at all? That's all then. The guard is frightened. He knows Egil's personality too well. Egil never gives up, and absolutely won't tolerate subordinates' dereliction of duty. Only when extremely disappointed in subordinates would he terminate their tasks and choose to assign others. He climbed to this position through countless hardships. He cannot fail. Please give me one more chance. I'll go investigate at the academy myself. I absolutely won't disappoint you. Egil remains unmoved. I know how hard you usually work. Alright then, set off quickly. You must find out what my brother is actually hiding. Meanwhile, while I and Kaylin are clumsily feeding the little dragon girl, Silica hurriedly comes to the dormitory. She sees this baby of unknown origin at a glance, but only asks one question before getting to the point. This time it's urgent. You've gotten yourself into quite trouble. A duel approval letter signed by the principal himself. What were you thinking? Are you crazy? This duel has become a grand event for the whole school. I look at the approval document in shock. Seth actually really found and convinced the principal. Kaylin doesn't care, so what? It's just a duel between two 11-year-olds. This Seth is not an ordinary 11-year-old. When does the duel start? 2 hours later. So soon. Not long after, Seth and I are already standing in the dueling arena. I really can't believe this is known to everyone. Unlike Seth's boiling blood. I have a headache about this. His whole body is full of fighting spirit. I've been looking forward to this moment. I believe you must have the same feeling. No, I don't. In academy duels, you can only choose between swordsmanship and magic. Are you going to use magic? If you don't plan to use magic, then I won't either. Very good. I like you more and more. Before finishing his words, he has already launched his attack. Let's see how good your skills are. His strikes are incredibly swift. Despite his large build and heavy weapon, his speed is still excellent for his fierce attack. My best choice is to deflect his sword edge at contact. After all, what assassins excel at isn't strength, but agility and precision. And this technique of redirecting force is what I forged through thousands of bloody battles. Although Seth's sword technique is equally excellent, but he's more skilled at using his overwhelming strength to quickly establish advantage. Once this usual tactic fails to work, he has no advantage. Now's the time. I keenly catch the gap in his swordsmanship. Sword back in sheath. Both hands pull down his thigh to slam heavily to the ground. This is a unique move that can only be trained in life and death battles. Doesn't belong to any sword style. But no one said sword competitions must only use swords, right? When ultimate strength meets ultimate technique, it's destined to be a fierce battle. Those who have fought know. Larger built people often have the initial advantage. So what I need to do is defend and counter. Seize the opportunity to win in one move. When his body is falling toward the ground, he unexpectedly extends his left hand. Then he nimbly flashes away. Didn't expect he could organize a counter in such a short time. This excites me too. The crowd above has been dumbfounded by now, to be able to make such high difficulty moves. His waist is amazing. Are they still human? Seth stands still, but the next moment, his eyes flash with excitement again. I lost in the sword competition. Now you force me to fight with all my strength. The winning standard for sword competitions is to hold a sword to the opponent's throat. His admission of defeat is more straightforward than I imagined. This proves he's not just someone who relies on brute force. So does this mean we continue with magic duel now? Alright, my blood is getting hot too. Bring out your full power. His aura frantically rises, his clothes burst from muscles. The principal and instructor Silica, sitting in the observation seats, can't help but look forward to the upcoming battle. Considering Seth's physical attribute is a class, while the opponent is S-class. If only using these data to measure, the outcome of the sword competition is also reasonable. But next is the magic battle. What the academy values most is still magic. Physical strength only determines how much magic power one can contain. But now Seth is the strongest 3-star level among all students. While Leon only has 1 star, how will he deal with an opponent with such a big power gap? And Silica ignores the principal's doubts. Her mind is full of blame for my current behavior being too eye-catching. Death Sand Fist. The Sand Prince's elemental magic indeed can't be underestimated. Just simple charging can gather sand fists several meters high. But compared to magic, his powerful strength is still more pressuring. I deploy the Mist Shadow footwork. The assassin's speed advantage is displayed to the extreme. Seth closely watches my constantly flicking figure. This strike won't let you escape. Sand Waterfall Fang. Spikes breaking through the ground lock me down like a cage. Huge dust scatters. I escape the encirclement with a close call. From Seth's move just now, although his magic level is only 3 stars, he must already have the power to use 4-star magic. The barrier maintaining the duel is only 4-star. This battle might get out of control. Seeing the attack miss again, Seth taunts, "Is dodging all you can do? Scurrying around like a rat? He's trying to provoke me. A warrior will never be defeated, especially not by a mere child." I retort, "You're only 11 yourself." Unexpectedly, he's the one who gets angry first. Sand Burial. Indeed, it's a 4-star level magic. Silica can't help but worry for me, but the principal continues to watch silently, without saying a word. The Sand Prince's voice is full of gravity. "This move is impossible to dodge. Better surrender now. This only makes me more excited. This time I won't dodge. Let's face off head on." Inside the barrier, magical elements surge wildly. Sand obscures vision. Everyone is curious about the outcome of the duel. Sounds constantly echo from the barrier's surface. The instructors maintaining the barrier are covered in cold sweat. How can 2 lower grade students generate such powerful energy? "Principal, we need to stop them quickly." But the principal remains unmoved. Wait a little longer, something interesting is happening. I didn't expect him to surprise me again. And within the dueling ground after the dust settles, I'm holding a black sphere of nothingness. This is a secret art unique to the dark attribute, with no offensive properties, yet it can annihilate all magical energy. Is he planning to use that here? Stop! But Silica's cry is ultimately drowned out by the rapidly changing situation. For the Void Sphere's effect to work, the user's magic level must always be higher than the opponent's magic. In an instant, the 4-star sand magic is annihilated by my 1-star Void Sphere. If it had been 1 second later, the barrier would have certainly burst from the overflow of magical energy. But this makes me appear even more conspicuous. Everyone watches this scene in disbelief. Is this still the dark attribute that's universally considered useless? Such magic is unheard of. Seth collapses powerlessly to the ground. Shall we continue? No, I've lost. Completely and utterly lost. Unbelievable, both in swordsmanship and magic. I was thoroughly defeated. Looking at his dejected expression, I can't help but wonder if I went too far. But the next moment, he springs back with renewed vigor. This is great. I was getting tired of fighting weaklings. Now I have another reason to train. When I get stronger, I'll come challenge you again. You'll accept my challenge then, right? Faced with his sincere frankness and indomitable spirit, I grasp his hand in acknowledgement. However, regarding challenges, I'll have to decline. Meanwhile, on the other side, Flay has taken on the responsibility of caring for the dragon girl. Unexpectedly, his experience living in a large family has now come in handy. But in just the time it takes to have lunch, when he sees the dragon girl again, she's already grown to look like a 4 or 5-year-old. After the duel ends, I return to the dormitory. The first sight of her shocks me. I'd heard dragons grow quickly, but in just a few hours she already looks 6 years old. Papa, hug me! She's growing too fast. Before long, she'll look the same age as me. If she continues growing at this rate, keeping her secret in the academy will be impossible. This problem is becoming more complicated. You can't hide her existence. Silica's voice remains rational. I can help you hide the demon blade, but I can't help you conceal a dragon human this big. Especially after you made such a spectacle today, all eyes will be on you. I should have been honored for my victory in the academy duel. Yet instead, I received a warning letter from the principal. My daughter is worried we'll be expelled from the academy and end up on the streets. But I see this more as an invitation for a meeting, and an opportunity to gain some political leverage. The dragon girl is growing too fast, while Fla can handle the caretaking. Hiding her within the academy is becoming increasingly difficult. Given this, Silica directly states that I shouldn't draw too much attention, and especially shouldn't lose the principal's goodwill at this time. She hurriedly leaves after putting down the warning letter. And Kaylon is just a violent girl with only killing on her mind. It seems I'll have to solve these problems on my own. The warning letter states that I'll be expelled from the academy if I misbehave. But this warning comes directly from the principal himself, not the administrative office. This makes it look more like an invitation letter. The dragon girl worriedly asks, "Will we end up homeless if we're expelled, Papa?" How did she learn to speak? And how does she understand the meaning of these words so clearly? But I still can't help comforting her. Things aren't that bad. You don't need to worry about this. Since I received a warning, I naturally can file a complaint about it. If the principal wants me to come talk, then I'll have to accept. In my previous life, he once very solemnly asked me whether I had decided to join the Light Knights and live for my brother. My answer was very firm, but he said this path wasn't suitable for me at all. Let me give you some advice. I believe you must have realized this choice brings no benefit. No matter what hardships you overcome, you won't gain anything in the end. This is the result of choosing to be someone else's pawn. Until the very end, you'll blame all mistakes on your brother. These were the principal's warnings in my previous life, and I guess he'll be the same this time. Flay suddenly reminds me, "Young master, shouldn't we give the little princess a name?" A name? I hadn't thought about that at all, but a name comes naturally to my lips. How about Nana? What do you think of that name? Too casual. This name will definitely get her teased and isolated by peers her age. But the dragon girl shouts, "This name is special. I want to be called Nana Belter." Since she likes it too, that settles the name. Though I wonder when she learned my surname. The scene shifts to the principal's office at the Royal Academy. The principal is still privately amazed by my performance in the duel. He could clearly see that level of combat was far from my limit. That's why he issued the warning letter under his personal name to force a meeting. In my previous life's memory, Principal Dean Quasar had always been the Emperor's teacher, and was also the father of the first Empress, Diana Quasar. His own power made him one of the continent's rare 9-star archmages. After Diana's death, he devoted himself to academy education, no longer involving himself in politics. But there's one thing I'm curious about. I always thought he was just a pacifist. Yet on a certain day later, he suddenly joined the throne succession war. Did his personality suddenly change? Perhaps today I can find the answer here. When I touch the door handle, a powerful energy barrier appears. He knew I would come today, yet still set up a 9-star magic barrier at the door. Is this a test for me? Seems I have no choice but to accept. The old man inside now also senses my presence. He can't help but reveal a smug smile. Only sufficiently powerful magical energy can break through this barrier. This is a test of my power limits. But the next second, the sound of breaking window glass rings out. I land steadily. "Mr. Dean, as an incoming new student, I'm here to express my objection to the warning letter." The principal's expression darkens slightly. I had bypassed the door barrier and chosen to break through the window. This made his setup futile, but he didn't rebuke me for overstepping. Instead, he let me continue. It wasn't until I saw the barrier at the door that I finally confirmed a guess. The warning letter is an excuse, just to test my potential, right? He openly admits, "You're right, although the result differs from what I expected. You've indeed proven your talent. but I won't withdraw the warning letter. You can try to convince me. Then, may I ask you a question first? Mr. Dean, what do you truly want? The Empire's prosperity or your family's glory? His expression changes. Faced with such an impolite and bold question, he can't simply ignore it. I continue pressing, if the Emperor suddenly passes away and other princes force the first prince to abdicate, would you still choose to take sides? The principal's anger rises. You're no longer just bold but arrogantly offensive. But I remain unmoved. If I tell him I'm Aegel's pawn, this wise old man can easily see through my fate. Yet he uniquely chose a path similar to mine in his own fate's decisive moment. This can't help but be seen as a great irony. The principal supported his grandson, the first prince in the succession rights dispute, becoming the chief contributor to Lunar's ascension. But Lunar was a complete tyrant, cruel and vicious. He killed all his brothers and sisters and even framed Dean for treason, executing him. The principal had once illuminated others' futures through his own efforts, but was ultimately betrayed. He stands up in fury. Nonsense. Will a century of peace be so easily destroyed? I thought you were a genius, but you're just a fool. I counter, do you really think so? The first prince and second princess's mother died of illness. The third and fourth princes also have the strength to compete for succession rights, especially the current Empress Cassandra's family, whose greed for power is world-renowned. They will do anything to maintain their position. The Empire's peace is already precarious, and when peace falls, this academy will meet its end as well. The principal is incredulous. Is this really an 11-year-old child? He seems to know all the political details. Why are you telling me all this? I say, for negotiation. I will help you, for your families and the academy's peace. So please withdraw this warning letter. The principal remains silent, his expression unreadable, but I know he must have taken in every word. But just the next second, magic circles shine. The 9-star Archmage's aura intimidates the surroundings. What ability do you have to make such boastful claims about helping me? Now let you taste the price of your arrogance. With a flick of his finger, golden chains coil and dance, divine judgment. The chains entangle and suspend me in midair. Is this your answer? Must we fight? But I know his pressure on me is only to verify if I have the strength to fulfill my promises. Whether I can truly help him, or if I'm just boasting, let me prove it now. Void domain. As the void sphere continues to expand, the shock in the principal's eyes can no longer be concealed. This is too absurd. No matter what, this is still only a 1-star level magic. Yet it absorbed my spell. This moment's change completely overturns his knowledge system. What kind of genius is this child? The energy dissipates, and I stand before the principal again. Now do you still think I can't help you? The principal says, I'll withdraw the warning letter, but what is your purpose in doing all this? I just don't want the academy's peaceful life to be disturbed. Just this, I affirm again. This life, I don't want to see the academy's peace fall again. After talking with the principal, I agree to occasionally attend classes. However, studying knowledge I was thoroughly familiar with 30 years ago is really boring. What a long day. I might as well continue training. Class isn't over yet. Where are you going? I'm startled, and looking up I realize it's 5th Princess Yalan. To the bathroom. You're lying. This clearly isn't the way to the bathroom. Facing Yalan, I have my own way of handling things. Did you just allow Lexi to call you by your name directly? Is this changing the subject? Yes, but why do you still call me princess? Aren't we friends? I turn my gaze away. You're a princess. I'm just a commoner. Isn't it proper to address you as your highness? I'll take that as a compliment then. You're too serious. Just then, someone suddenly calls out Yalan's name, but when she sees who's coming, she immediately becomes tense. I recognize these two people, the current empress's two princes, Pavia, Nerovia. Aaron steps forward to curtsy, but what she receives is their mockery. You're so grown up now but still running around with servants, and it looks like you've been hanging around with peasants. Birds of a feather indeed. Their attitude towards Yalan clearly shows their contempt. Yet when they see me, they call my name directly. I step forward to pay respects, but they directly express how impressed they are with me, praising my performance in today's duel. If we hold a party, we'll definitely invite you. We can have a great chat then. Nerovia says this is a rare opportunity for me to become friends with the noble princes. They directly ignores Yalan completely. Only now do they finally notice Yalan, who hasn't risen. But their words become even more sarcastic. But this invitation is an exception for you. Know your place. Desire for power is a poison that corrodes the heart. After strip away that luxurious facade, they're just ordinary people more easily swayed by emotions. Looking at their retreating figures, even Lexi can't help but doubt their identity as princes. She probably never imagined she'd see these high and mighty people show such an ugly side today. But they're still my family. Blood is thicker than water. I can't help but interrupt. I don't think so. In my view, they treat you worse than strangers. In front of power, blood ties are actually meaningless. Their treatment of you shows they're wary of you, just using this method to suppress you. So there's no need to feel dejected or sad about it. As I turn to leave, Yalan's face turns red, like a dizzying sunset cloud. When I return to the dormitory, I only see the little dragon girl sleeping alone. Fla and Kaylan are nowhere to be seen. At my call, Kaylan comes tardily. Somehow she's reverted to this form again. She says it's more convenient to hide her presence, then asks what I want. Help me find Fla. Kaylan immediately becomes angry. Do you think I'm a dog? Why should I look for people? This isn't the right way to use me. But the next moment she also stops her shouting. I believe you can smell the blood too. Flay had left the market after finishing buying supplies. Thinking of Nana at home, he specially bought lots of candy. Just thinking about how much food the child could eat made him feel happy. It's been a month since he became my knight. Although he knows his talent is mediocre, he always believes I will repay his loyalty with trust. But today's streets are unusually quiet. Who's there? Come out. Just as he's wondering if he's making too much of nothing, a group of shadows slowly emerges from the dark alleys. A quarter hour later, Fla's figure flies out. When he falls to the ground, he's already covered in wounds. The scar-faced youth shouts, "You should have obediently listened when we could still be friendly. You made me very angry. I thought the only guardian knight would be strong, but you're so weak. I'll cut you into pieces and send you to your master as punishment for making me lose face." Fla finally understands the whole situation. This behavior isn't just despicable, but the displaced anger of the incompetent. Just thinking about it makes him want to vomit. Flay not only doesn't submit, but even mocks them more. The scar-faced youth feels utterly disappointed, because a mere guard hasn't submitted even now. It makes him seem even more incompetent. Has the beating made you lose your mind? Making things so boring. When Barrett is done playing and wants to kill Flay, I suddenly appear and stop him. Fla immediately recognizes my voice. He's been beaten badly. There isn't a single uninjured spot on his body. Even his vocal cords sound damaged. But looking at Barrett, he's completely unscathed. It's already clear who's causing trouble here. Barrett's cold sweat breaks out at his first sight of me. That fear of being dominated by a powerful being is now the source of his rage. He emanates an arrogance that comes from long-term bullying of the weak. This confidence makes him choose to taunt even when facing a stronger opponent. You've walked into death's door yourself. I'll tear your innards to pieces. How interesting. Mist Sword 8 forms. Shadow Strike. The sword light of spiritual power flashes. Blood falls like petals of death. No one is a match for even one of my moves. These mercenaries are just thugs who follow their master in oppressing the weak. Long-term indulgence has blinded their eyes. They've forgotten what a real battlefield of killing should look like. Fillet is my first subordinate. I've had enough of being someone else's subordinate. So-called masters only enjoy the benefits their subordinates bring, without taking responsibility for anything concerning their subordinates. Now thinking back, why was I obsessed with serving such a person? But I won't allow the same thing to happen to Flay. If you truly hate someone, you should despise their way of living too. Barrett is shocked. In just an instant, all the mercenaries are dead. He finally remembers again the fear of being dominated by my power. Damn it, I'll kill you. Magic flickers in his hand. But the next second, he's directly kicked away, flying several meters. You still won't repent? Do you enjoy bullying those weaker than you that much? He remains unmoved. What does my hobby have to do with you? Are you going to kill me for this? Barrett is the eldest son of the Duke of Gasha Kingdom, a true power holder. In my previous life, his twisted pleasures were well known to the world. Physical attacks were the least terrible things he did. From a young age, he enjoyed burning small animals alive. Later, he even murdered a female classmate under the pretense of practicing magic. But he always escaped punishment thanks to his prestigious background. Finally, the Shadow Organization transmitted their purification order to me. I came to the mansion where he lived after being expelled. There, I saw countless servant corpses stored in the basement. After torturing him, I was about to end him with the most painful death I knew. But he just smiled and told me to hurry up and kill him. He said he died without regret because he had already gotten all the pleasure he wanted. Looking back now, killing him directly might not have been the best punishment. Just as he said himself, he had already enjoyed all the pleasures. Death alone wasn't enough to compensate for those he killed. I gather a magic sphere. Last time I let you escape. This time I won't be so lenient. Wait, can you bear the consequences? I'm the heir to the Louismere family. I certainly understand that. So killing him now might immediately trigger a war between kingdoms. But this absolutely doesn't mean I'll give up punishing him. I push the magic sphere into his mouth. It's fine if you don't like me, but you shouldn't have laid your dirty hands on my subordinate. The magic sphere continuously devours Barrett as he claws at his body in agony. All this is clearly seen by a figure on the rooftop. I didn't expect him to hide such powerful strength. I must inform young Master Egil immediately. Just as he's about to act, a knife is pressed against his neck. So you've been the one following my student lately? After dealing with Barrett's matter, Fla slowly recovers his strength. Sorry, Master. I didn't expect them to attack me, but my focus is on his swollen face. It looks so ugly. Are you sure you're the subordinate I trained? Why participate in a fight you're certain to lose? Couldn't you run away? My questioning again triggers his guilt, but this isn't what I want. Is this the loyalty you spoke of to me? I don't need dead loyal subordinates, but useful people who are alive. Don't be so stupid next time. Flay falls into depression again. Looks like I'm really not good at handling this. How long do you plan to watch from the side, Master Silica? As my words fall, she actually appears with all the people from the Assassin Hall. It would be too disrespectful if I didn't notice them at this point. With Silica's appearance, a bound man in black is also thrown to the ground. I brought you a gift. This is the person who's been following you, Kaylin, Egil's guard. You noticed early on? Silica sighs. I admit you have talent, and power surpassing the Shadow Assassins. You also possess the wisdom and strategy to win over the principal, and the ability to master the Demon Blade. You're the ideal successor candidate in every way, but you're too conspicuous. More people will become suspicious of you. This stalker is just the beginning. I promise her I'll be more careful in the future, but if anyone hurts my subordinates, I'll crush them no matter what happens. Silica doesn't pursue the matter further. Protecting one's own people is necessary. I trust you can handle it, she says, then turns to leave, and volunteers to help me deal with Barrett's group. Now only Kaylin remains. Do you want to kill me? Don't bother trying to interrogate me. I won't say say a word. I already knew his identity. Interrogation would be redundant. Besides, in my memory, he never left Aegil's side for even a step. In my previous life, he was even jealous when Aegil valued my abilities. So, his purpose here is easy to guess. Killing him would be too easy, but I have a better way to handle this. This should be useful for my plans. Dark energy stirs around me, making him immediately uneasy. What are you going to do to me? Stay away. Shadow persona, legend says, a second personality exists within one shadow. I only managed to use this high-level magic once in my previous life. Aegil, I'll return you a grand gift too. After the shadow personality took over Karen's consciousness, he confessed everything, and expressed that although he currently serves under Aegil, he'd rather pledge loyalty to me. I accepted his loyalty but still sent him back to Aegil's side, and instructed him to tell Aegil every detail of information he gathered while monitoring me. His eyes were filled with loyalty when he looked at me then. On another side, just as dawn breaks, 5th Princess Yalin appears at the training ground with her guard Lexi. She's as diligent as ever, but Lexi's sword talent is unparalleled in the world. In just 2 exchanges, Lexi easily wins. It seems I have no chance of beating you in swordsmanship, but I told you to call me by name in private, not princess. When they turn their attention to my side, they only see me training guard Flay extremely harshly, showing no mercy. He'll be killed by his own people before even fighting anyone. Isn't their training method too intense? Lexi doesn't know how to answer this question, since almost all male interactions she's seen are like this. After rescuing Flay, I put his training program on the agenda. For a low-level knight, who never had the chance to receive proper sword instruction, his endurance is quite outstanding. If he wants to be useful in future battles, then endurance training as the foundation of all training must be even more outstanding. Only then can he achieve twice the results with half the effort in later advanced training. Tired already? Do you want to remain helpless next time you encounter someone like Barrett? No, I can continue. Along with his unwilling shout comes blood from his throat. Goodness, was I too harsh? After all, he's still injured. Young master, is Kalen really alright? Don't worry, he's on our side now. Is this really reliable? Should be, but I believe everything will slowly get better. Yalin joins our conversation at this point, and mentions the student attack incident from a week ago. So now she comes here to train with Lexi every weekend. The academy student attack incident she mentioned was Barrett from a week ago. When he was found at the infirmary door, he was already mangled and confused, but he didn't reveal what happened. Speculation runs wild in the academy, but as the culprit, I understand very clearly. It's not that he doesn't remember, but that he's unwilling to speak. The moment I forced that magic sphere into his mouth, all his magical power structures were destroyed. He can never practice magic again in his life. When those in high positions openly expose their weaknesses to the world, only endless plots and attacks await them afterward. So he'll not only actively help keep my secret, but even worry that I might make this public. But Lexi's reaction is beyond my expectation. I thought she would be very happy hearing this news. After all, Barrett had wanted to do the same to her. This punishment was well deserved. Before she can respond, a clear shout pierces the sky. Papa! A small figure in a floral dress leaps down from the high building. Everyone watches this scene in disbelief. It's actually Nana. Didn't I leave Kalen to look after her? Damn, that Kalen must be slacking off again. The next second, Nana, who can only briefly control her wings, falls into Yalin's arms. Papa! Nana found Papa. Yalin is first stunned, then anger rises. How do you explain this? When and with whom did you have a child? Explain clearly. After spending considerable effort explaining Nana's background, we're already back in the royal hall. Yalin lets out a long breath. Good thing you're not her real father. Fla and I look at each other. We didn't expect her to be so friendly, showing no discomfort even knowing Nana is a dragon-human hybrid. I was worried she would use this as leverage to make some strange demands. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. Meeting Maya and Fla's surprised gazes, Yalin doesn't back down. Lexi, you'll agree too, right? Lexi finally came back to her senses and said, well, it's fine. I don't have any friends to tell anyway. This response left Yalin stunned. For a moment, she saw the similar situation, being equally unaccepted, but Nana was half human, half dragon, making things more complicated. She couldn't stay at the academy. Neither humans nor dragons would take her in, yet you wanted to raise her. I think this is a good thing, but could I occasionally come visit? I asked back, come to my room? Yalin's face immediately turned red. Don't misunderstand, I just want to look after Nana. But another thought remained unspoken in her heart, though just thinking about it made her blush. Nana already had a father, and now she needed a mother. I had no reason to refuse. Alright, but this will be our secret. Yalin quickly nodded in agreement. Our secret. But after I turned to leave, the blush on Yalin's face deepened even more. Lexi asked with concern, Yalin, are you okay? Are you sick? Yalin was lost in thought. He said it's our secret. Does that mean we're getting closer? When I returned to the dormitory to confront Kalan, she appeared completely unconcerned. Such interesting things happened while I was sleeping? Why didn't you tell Yalin about us living together? I was furious. Shut up and reflect on your negligence. Kalan said, what can I do? Like father, like daughter, the father also does whatever he wants. Fla stepped in to mediate. Why not take the little princess for a walk? She must feel stressed being cooped up in here all the time. That's a good idea. Meanwhile, high above the city outskirts, 2 flying figures suddenly halted. What's wrong, Lord Lucian? I smell something nauseating. Where are we now? He carefully sensed his surroundings again. The Royal Academy? Then I'll have to postpone my return. There's a truly disgusting presence here. I can't consider her one of our kind. These 2 winged beings were actually dragons. The little dragon girl was very adorable. adorable. Not only had she won Yulian's affection, but the moment these two dragon couples saw her, they wanted to kill her on the spot. Such a precious little troublemaker, causing problems since birth. But this was something I couldn't allow, even if it meant risking my life. After all, I was now both her guardian and the father she trusted completely. Who would have thought that the first hostility Nana would experience would actually come from her own kind? They might have children of their own, yet they showed no hesitation when calling for her death, simply because of Nana's mixed human-dragon heritage. I had kept her confined indoors while raising her. Today was her first time going out for a walk. For this reason, I specifically chose a remote area 10 kilometers from the city center. She was especially excited, fluttering her little wings back and forth non-stop. Kaylin interjected at this point. You're already a qualified father now. Why not find her a mother too? I saw that little girl Yalin seemed quite willing earlier, but I immediately became tense. A strange presence was rapidly approaching us. The next second, a massive impact swept through where Nana had been. Fla hurriedly held Nana in his arms, barely escaping disaster. A deep voice emerged from the smoke. What a disgusting smell. When the smoke cleared, there stood two dragons. But unlike Nana's mixed blood, these were two pure-blooded adult magic dragons. Unlike the young dragon in the Lemia Valley, their mere presence was enough to make Nana tremble in fear. Stand behind me. Looking at them, they clearly don't come with good intentions. Utterly disgusting, Red Dragon Cardalina asked haughtily. How dare you shelter such a mixed-blood mongrel? You're her master, and you even possess the demon blade. Kaylin, hearing herself mentioned, asked, Are you talking about me? Cardalina raged, You inherited the power of gods yet willingly serve humans. You've brought shame to all superior beings. Kaylin wasn't one to back down either, retorting, Do you have a death wish? Just as the two were about to fight, Silver Dragon Lucian held back the enraged Cardalina. Don't worry, I'm not interested in you, nor do I wish to fight with inferior beings. But you must hand over that hybrid. Half human, half dragon. She'd be perfect for some special experiments. Then I'll let you go. He angered me. Shut up. My defiance caught him off guard for a moment. It seemed he was used to looking down on others and having them submit, but now he had touched my reverse scale. How could I possibly hand Nana over to someone like him? I repeated again. I said, shut up, you bastard. He laughed in anger. The next second, he directly unleashed a lightning blade, creating a whirlwind beside me. I hastily dodged and signaled Fla to take Nana away quickly. A furrow appeared where I had just been standing. Indeed, it was impressive skill, wielding lightning energy with such mastery. His tone remained contemptuous. This is why I say you're inferior beings. Dragon talent is far beyond what a human body can match. From here on, I should have gone all out from the start. Mist Sword Ninth Form, Demon Form Manifest. The red dragon immediately noticed something was wrong and warned Lucian, but he only showed slight surprise. So it's the power banished from the divine realm, but you're still just a lowly human. The next second, this lowly human he spoke of flashed to his left side. The demon blade swung frantically. He scrambled to defend, losing his previous composure. Shockwave, heaven thunder extinction, countless lightning energy poured into his body. A lightning formation spanning dozens of meters appeared above my head. Explosive lightning elements raged wildly. Starting with a big move, huh? Mist Sword Third Form, Mist Shadow Step. I flashed behind him again, seizing his spellcasting gap. Rushing Mist Storm, endless dark elements surged. The thin blade slashed towards Lucian. But the next second, a solid fire-red barrier appeared behind Lucian. It was Red Dragon Cardalina who appeared in time to block this fatal strike. Almost forgot I was fighting two magic dragons. You're no match for him, fall back. But Lucian's concern only sparked Cardalina's competitive spirit more. Don't worry, I'll block his attacks. This flame barrier contains my 1,000 years of magical power. A lower being like him, whose lifespan won't even reach 100 years, can't possibly break through it. Just as she finished speaking, my new killing move struck instantly. Mist Sword, 8-direction lightning flash, cherry blossom fall. The fine light and my rapidly moving figure were like death's weaving threads, shredding everything before me to pieces. Her proud fire barrier was useless before my darkness attribute that could annihilate everything. A trace of unwillingness remained in Cardalina's eyes, but her figure had already fallen from midair, then died. Everything happened like lightning. Only now did Lucian finally put aside his arrogance and reassess his opponent. Who exactly are you? The dark god's omnipotence was stripped away long ago. How can you still possess such powerful strength? Quick, tell me who you really are. But only coldness responded to him. I guess you won't answer? I must admit you're a worthy opponent, but dragonkind isn't something you can defeat. Transform. Complex incantations mumbled from his mouth, endless lightning surrounding his body. His form began to gradually expand. This was a spell that let dragons abandon their human form. Return to their magic dragon form most suitable for battle. However, dragons are most vulnerable while transforming. On this sacred continent, there's an unwritten etiquette. One cannot interrupt another's transformation. But to hell with these implicit rules. I'm an assassin, not some empty-headed noble knight. Now is when he's most vulnerable. I leap upward, the magic dragon's long wingspan like stairs ascending to heaven. Lucian screamed in panic. What are you trying to do, you inferior being? I ignored his shouts. Dragon ascent. Heaven steps. My form crashed down heavily, the demon blade carrying meteor-like force as it pierced the magic dragon's head. Panic finally began to well up in Lucian's heart. He must escape from here immediately. But it was too late. Among the mist sword techniques, there was one that made attacks spread out like tree roots. Though the wound appeared only superficial, internal organs would be torn torn to shreds. Perfect for the giant dragon who couldn't move right now. Mist sword, giant tree entanglement. A piercing dragon roar echoed across the sky. Dragon blood splattered like the evening glow. By the time Fla returned with Nana, I had already started the dragon feast. Eat it, Fly. This way you can become stronger. But Nana's voice rang out before Fla's. Nana wants some too. I immediately refused. No, although this precious dragon meat will make one stronger. Who knows if there might be strange viruses from eating one's own kind. Meanwhile, when Kylin reported all the intelligence he gathered to Aegil, Aegil pondered for a long while. So you're saying there's an unknown force supporting my brother? Kalen nodded yes. The people we sent before must have been killed by them too. Aegil sought confirmation again, but his thoughts ran deep. His real focus at this moment was on Kylin. The fear Kalen had when leaving was gone. His attitude now completely different. Is he no longer worried about losing his master's trust? Fear was Aegil's key to controlling people's hearts. Now he felt like his favorite toy had been taken away. I understand all this. Now Kalen, I have a question I want to ask you. Kalen had followed Aegil for a long time. How could he not know he had aroused his master's suspicion? He hurriedly bowed and recited his oath. Seeing this, Aegil finally relaxed, saying this was just a routine ritual. His trust in Kylin would remain unchanged. When Kalen turned to leave, cold sweat had already begun seeping from his temples. Aegil was naturally suspicious if he showed any sign of weakness here. It would interfere with the young master's plans. He must be even more careful. When he pushed open the door, a short-haired girl was already waiting outside. It was actually the young master's maid Elia. Why was she here? Before he could say anything, Aegil had already invited Elia in. I called her here. Your name is Elia, right? Could you help me with something? Elia was puzzled, but the genius Aegil actually asking for her help still made her imagination run wild. Meanwhile, inside the Royal Academy, a different scene was unfolding. Princess Yaline appeared in my dormitory holding a large cake, special cake, made by the palace chefs. Enjoy, Nana. Nana couldn't help drooling, speaking incoherently. Wow, Nana loves you. But Yaline just calmly stated there was plenty more, all for Nana. I watched all this quietly. Seems we really need to lay low for a while. If dragons could sense Nana's existence, then another ambush might happen again. But no matter what, I must ensure the safety of those around me. After all, in this life I've decided to live for myself, especially since that bastard brother is definitely secretly planning something. Whatever his scheme is, I will completely destroy him. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but smile. The scales of victory have begun to tilt. A fresh plan also sprang into my mind. And in the Duke's mansion garden, Aegil had also invited First Prince Lunar. The two were old acquaintances. But when Aegil privately addressed Lunar, he no longer called him Your Highness, but directly as Your Majesty. Lunar started by criticizing Aegil for staying at home too long, not stirring up trouble anymore. Wasn't he worried about Lilith threatening his position? Or his dear brother? He had somehow gained the Emperor's favor, and there were plans to betroth Yaline to him. That useless daughter had somehow gained so much fatherly love. Just thinking about it made him jealous. Aegil calmly stated, "Isn't that good? The more power Yaline gains, the more attention she gets, the more useful it is for our plans." A political conspiracy to harm Yaline was decided over a single meal. At this time, Aegil also noticed. The guard pouring wine was a new face. Lunar playfully remarked. This guardian knight Boris was a treasure he discovered in the slums. With just one look, Aegil saw the similar qualities between them. You've truly discovered an extraordinary treasure. Meanwhile, somewhere else on the continent, another secret meeting was also taking place. Everyone looked at the two shattered life magic stones, representing two members' deaths, Lucian and Cardellina. But who could have killed them with their 8-star strength? The final traces stopped near the city outskirts, but no clues could be found at the scene. This meant the enemy was either far stronger than them, or was a powerful darkness attribute user. In this place, only Dean Quasar could have killed them, but he wasn't a darkness attribute user. The killer must be someone else. Someone immediately pointed out there was only one darkness attribute freshman at the Royal Academy who had survived an encounter with a magic dragon. Important members of the organization had been continuously assassinated recently. First Zenard, who provided demon blood, then Zickman, who provided trading and financial support. Now even two important dragon warriors in the organization were dead. It was hard not to suspect some connection between these events. The plan couldn't afford any mistakes. He could arrange for his granddaughter Luna to enter the Royal Academy to investigate this freshman. Though the continent situation was complex and changing, the Royal Academy enjoyed 2 years of peace. 2 years later, a woman in plain clothes walked down the street. Though she tried not to draw attention, her sky blue hair and otherworldly beauty still caught pedestrians' eyes. It was Lilith, returned from her study abroad. She first went to the headmaster's office. It turned out, after learning of Lilith's intention to join the Light Knights, the headmaster, perhaps sensing Lilith's tragic fate, strongly advised her to take a study trip first, before deciding her future path. Now Lilith had returned from the White Elves' territory. That wasn't a race friendly to humans. It took her a year to adapt, since the headmaster said that place would hinder Lilith's growth. She wanted to go there even more to see. Only then would the pacifism she found have more meaning. Now she was even more determined to join the Light Knights. Dean asked if she still decided to live for the family's wishes. She smiled. Some responsibilities must be shouldered by someone. Besides, I'm worried about my siblings. Though Kranz was mischievous, with proper guidance, he could become a good person. But the youngest brother was too shy and timid, making her constantly worried. Hearing this, the headmaster laughed heartily. I'd be thankful enough if he doesn't bully others. I heard something interesting. At this moment, another voice voice rang out in the room. Interesting? Dean, sir, is really harsh. Lilith turned back in surprise. After 2 years apart, her brother had grown into a tall young man. I smiled in greeting. Long time no see, sister. I've missed you. Sister knew about the discord between us brothers, but didn't expect I hadn't returned home for nearly 2 years. She knew even less. That living at home now were a brother who wanted to kill me at any time, and a stepmother. 2 years had passed like flowing water. Lilith was shocked by my changes. You've grown so tall, almost taller than me now. I calmly replied, maybe you've just gotten shorter. This successfully provoked Lilith into playfully roughing me up, but she then worriedly asked why I was staying at the academy during summer break instead of going home. In fact, I had many reasons for not wanting to return home. Aside from Angel currently staying there, even the Duchess wanted nothing more than to kill me, and father couldn't possibly be unaware of the mysterious deaths of the 6 ultimate knights she had sent, yet he chose to turn a blind eye. Returning to such a family would be tantamount to suicide. However, Lilith only thought I was afraid of my little brother Kranz, who had always oppressed me. Can't you two become friends? Impossible. You've seen how he treats me. He even tried to kill me. Lilith's eyes widened in disbelief. She knew so little about her 2 brothers. What she thought was just children's roughhousing was actually siblings trying to kill each other. At this point, Fla stepped forward to testify. It was Lady Maria who ordered the assassination attempt. After Fla explained everything, Lilith suddenly fell into self-reproach. I'm sorry, I didn't notice any of this. You've suffered so much. This isn't your fault. The villains are Maria and Kranz, and they still show no remorse. Before I could finish, Lilith suddenly threw herself into my embrace. You've never told anyone about these things? It must have been hard keeping it all bottled up inside, but you can rely on me now. Sister will protect you. This warmth and trust were things only Lilith had ever given me, but now I awkwardly didn't know how to react. I want to stay with you longer, but I must go somewhere now. Take care of yourself. Lilith's words caught me off guard once again, but what I didn't expect was, the next second she threw herself into Fla's arms. Please take good care of my brother, can you? At this moment, my gaze toward Fla was murderous. Lilith must have assumed Fla was the hero who helped me escape that assassination attempt. Bidding farewell to Lilith again, I was already missing our moments together. It had been a long time since I'd seen her that angry. The last time was during Kranz's and my sword training class. After I lost the competition, Kranz continued attacking and humiliating me. His pleasure wasn't in winning, but in bullying the weak. Lilith arrived in time to stop that farce. That angry face of hers, I'd only seen it once in my previous life. Now she knew the truth about the Duke's mansion. It seemed the family couldn't remain peaceful anymore, but only this way could I protect her, to prevent her from meeting the tragic end of her previous life. At this moment, Flay brought a purification list and a banquet invitation. Every year at this time, the royal family would hold a banquet, and the Belter family was always invited. But such invitations bearing the royal seal were usually only sent to father, who would then assign which child would attend. In my previous life, I never enjoyed such treatment, but I knew these banquets were just boring political networking. I set it aside carelessly, and picked up the assassination order directly. Dranian Nephilis, the current queen's brother. This assassination mission at the royal banquet was also a big event in my previous life. I didn't expect the task would be assigned to me now. It seemed Silica truly valued me greatly this life, but this made me feel uneasy. Meanwhile, Kaelin suddenly became interested in the invitation. Wait, the signature below seems to be Princess Yalin's. I thought you were just a kid, but I seem to have underestimated you. You've received a love letter. Indeed, as she said, this invitation wasn't in the royal family's name, but Yalin's personal invitation, the handwriting neat and earnest. But I still mercilessly gave Kaelin a control spell. Looks like I have no choice but to attend this banquet. At this moment, Nana's hungry voice came from the inner hall, but just one look at her left us all standing dumbfounded. Though the saying goes, children grow up in the blink of an eye. But could someone tell me why she grew so fast? Meanwhile, in the Duke's mansion, Lilith rushed in hurriedly with large strides. The servants had never seen the young lady so anxious, all bowing in bewilderment. But Lilith only cared about one thing. Where is Mother? No, the Duchess now? When Lilith burst into the lady's room, Maria hurriedly greeted her. Long time no see, Lilith. How have you been, my daughter? But Lilith ignored it all, and directly slapped Maria across the face. Maria, who had just been slapped, looked bewildered. Are you crazy, guards? What are you doing? Her attitude towards Lilith had always been kind. Besides, Lilith was straightforward in nature, requiring no second guessing. Even the principal dean treated her like his own daughter. In Maria's heart, I, this gloomy and detestable illegitimate child, was a maggot that should have been crushed. But Lilith was a fledgling eagle already showing her potential. She had no reason to provoke her. Having been slapped without cause, she now wore an innocent expression. But Lilith's next words solved her confusion. How dare you try to kill my brother? How did she know? Maria panicked and denied. Nonsense! Do you have any evidence? Seeing the Duchess so flustered, Lilith had already confirmed her suspicions. Your reaction just now proved it to me. The fact that you're asking for evidence means it must be true. Maria flew into a rage. Damn you, how dare you confront me without evidence? Guards, throw her out. Following the Duchess's orders, the guards could only apologize to the young lady before rushing forward. But Lilith wasn't someone to be trifled with. After dodging their grab with a flip, brilliant water elements appeared from thin air. Elemental soul, water spirit. The water elements easily broke through the guards' encirclement. She used spirit magic? How could she so easily defeat so many knights? Only now did Maria begin to feel panic. Stay back. What do you want? Lilith spoke word by word. Knight Flay has confessed everything. He identified you as the true mastermind behind my brother's assassination attempt 2 years ago. Did you think you could get away with it just because he kept silent? Maria was still being defiant. You're willing to believe the words of those low-born people? Are you crazy? Standing up for that bastard? Shut up. Lilith cut her off sharply. Your power only comes from clinging to others. I'm going to tell father about this. You're done, Maria. Watching Lilith's departing figure, Maria secretly revealed a smile. This fool still hasn't figured out the situation after all this time. The Duke doesn't care about Lien at all. All he truly cares about is the family's honor, and his firstborn son whom he sees as the family heir. When Lilith entered the Duke's study, the Duke responded coldly, I've known about this for a long time, so what do you want to do? Lilith stared at her father in shock. What do you mean? Your own child was targeted for assassination, and you're not going to do anything about it? I don't want to explain anything. Looking at the results now, it's not bad, isn't it? But those were 6 ultimate knights. If it weren't for his guardian knight Flaw, he would be dead. The Duke couldn't help but laugh. You mean that fool? Do you really think he could handle 6 ultimate knights? He's just an errand boy. Only now did Lilith catch the key point in the Duke's words. So those 6 knights were all killed by my brother. It seems you don't know him at all. Why don't you put this aside and take a break? I need to return to the frontline camp. You can attend the royal banquet in my place with this invitation. Don't worry about your brother. He's stronger than you imagine. Looking at the Duke's departing figure, Lilith stood lost in thought. She felt there was something wrong with her father's logic, but he clearly didn't want to pursue this incident. Don't worry about him, but he's only 13 years old. Lilith paced anxiously in the corridor, but suddenly, someone's appearance brightened her mood. Is that you, Cecilia? Cecilia greeted her warmly. Welcome home, Lilith. The next moment, she couldn't help but throw herself into Lilith's arms. Where have you been? You haven't even sent a letter all these years? Lilith could only respond with apology. Cecilia was a high-ranking knight of the Holy Knight Order, but to Lilith, she was her personal maid, teacher, and friend. All right, let's go get some fresh air. How about taking a tour of the palace, on the other side of a distant journey? Nana was wearing a maid's outfit. She was excited about everything she saw. Wow, look, a deer! I let her make noise without comment. Nana, put your tail away. Hearing my command, Nana reluctantly activated her magic. Tail, wings, horns, all hidden. She had awakened this ability after growing up. It's much safer to walk around with her now, but that's something I only dare to think about. You haven't forgotten what we agreed on, right? Nana solemnly replied. Of course, I'm the young master's most caring and adorable maid. Seeing her behavior made me even more worried. Not good. She's too excited. I have a feeling she's going to cause trouble again. At this moment, the carriage suddenly stopped halfway. I opened the window and saw it was just a few highway robbers. Their opening lines were all the same. Hee. Leave everything behind. It's nothing serious, just deal with them quickly. I sat calmly back in the carriage. After continuous training and the once-in-a-lifetime dragon feast, Flaw's strength was no longer what it used to be. Just a few troublesome bandits. He could handle them quickly. Flaw leaped into the midst of the bandits, his sword moving as if through empty space. In the midst of his flips and turns, he had already killed the bandit leader. The surrounding bandits suddenly tensed up and rushed forward together. Windblade, quick cut, the sword's speed increased again, his long arms stretching out as he took down everyone one by one. Against these unarmored bandits, the speed advantage of wind attributes was practically invincible. The weak Flay was no longer weak. He had indeed grown stronger. Finish them quickly and come back to drive the carriage. We don't have time to play with them. Yes, young master, I'm coming right away. Silica must have timed the assassination mission perfectly, making the schedule so tight. Meanwhile, she was studying the guest list for the royal banquet. Her subordinate advised, there are too many people attending this banquet. Are you sure you don't want to postpone the assassination mission? No need, the sooner the better. Silica's voice was stern. Drenian's behavior is disgusting. He uses his power specifically to rape married women. He deserves this. But there was another reason why he had to die quickly, because he was her fiancé. Strange, this child is here too. Luna, the genius magician with 20% aptitude in all attributes, but she was too weak to attend regular classes. Her other identity was the granddaughter of the Gaza Magic Association's president. This child had always been resting at home due to her physical condition, never appearing in public. But now she appeared on the banquet guest list, representing the Magic Association chairman. No matter how you look at it, it seems unusual. Silica had a bad feeling. That cunning old bastard must be secretly planning something again. On the other side, after days of hurried travel, our group finally stepped into the capital's streets. Fortunately, we weren't late. This city was clearly more prosperous, with wider streets. Nana's face was full of excitement again, but lost in her enthusiasm, she bumped into a passerby. The passerby immediately responded angrily, "Are you blind? Watch where you're going." Nana apologized pitifully. "I'm sorry, is there anything I can do to make up for it?" Seeing Nana's appearance, he blushed. "It's nothing. If you like, you can bump into me a few more times." Nana immediately turned to shout at me, "Papa, look how friendly these people are." I felt speechless. He's not being friendly at all. Stay away from that person. I almost forgot she knows too little about this world. She needs to be wary of others, especially blonde men. The blonde Fla suddenly said, "Young master, quick, look at Nana's eyes." Bad news, her pupils couldn't maintain their transformation anymore. Her hungry nature made her whole body emit a strong aura. Fla, quickly take her to the nearest restaurant. They say growing children eat their parents out of house and home. As her size increased, Nana's appetite doubled as well. Good thing I brought plenty of money before setting out. If it weren't for Princess Yalin's support and the assassination assassination bounties from the Mist organization. I probably would have gone bankrupt by now. Raising a child is really difficult. But the next second, a strange energy entered my perception range. A girl with refreshing blue hair walked to my side. "Hello, I've been wanting to meet you. Do you know me?" I had no impression of her, but she casually sat down next to me like an old friend. "I'm in the same academy as you, though I'm a second-year student." Hearing her self-introduction, I only found the name Luna familiar, and I was never interested in students from different grades. She smoothly continued, "Actually, this is good too. Compared to you, the academy star, I'm just a lonely person. You seem to have such a good relationship with your guardian knight and maid, even eating at the same table with them. You're actually such a gentle person, quite different from the rumors." Nana and Fla also became suspicious of her identity when they heard her mention themselves, as her attitude toward me didn't seem like that of a friend. It took her quite some effort to come up with such a strange compliment. I was already getting irritated. Only now did she finally reveal her true intentions. "Are you also here for the royal banquet?" "Yes, how did you know? Why else would someone who never leaves the academy suddenly come to the capital? I'm also on the guest list. I'll see you there." "Well, I'm sorry, but I have to leave now. Please remember my full name, Luna Hugo." I finally remembered the Hugo family, famous among nobles. She's the granddaughter of Reagan Hugo, president of the Galen Magic Association. That crazy old man actually sent her to attend the banquet. In my previous life, she died young while studying in her second year at the academy. I don't know if this was because of her weak constitution or because the Magic Association conducted human experiments on her. In this life, I keep meeting people who never crossed paths with me in my previous life. This means the future is constantly changing because of my existence. But why is everything happening during the royal banquet? This banquet was known as the Blood Banquet. Rivers of blood wouldn't be an exaggeration. Meanwhile, another protagonist of this banquet was struggling with what to wear. Yalin was now 13, just starting to become interested in beauty, and in that awkward adolescent phase of caring deeply about what her love interest thinks. "Lexi, how's this dress?" Lexi immediately praised enthusiastically. "You look beautiful. This is the most beautiful dress I've ever seen." Yalin ignored her, casually putting the dress aside again. "I feel like something's missing." Lexi was on the verge of tears. "You've tried on so many dresses already. Please let me go." To escape this situation, she had to use her trump card, said, "I'm sure that young master would like this one too." Yalin's face immediately turned red. "What are you talking about? How would he meet me?" Lexi couldn't help but secretly grumble. "You're the one who secretly sent him an invitation. Stop pretending." Yalin denied it again in panic, but her words had become incoherent. At this moment, a maid presented an exquisite gift box. "This is a gift from His Highness Lunar," he said. "Wearing it at the banquet would surely add to your beauty." Even Yalin showed a trace of surprise. It was from that distant royal brother. "It's so beautiful." "I'm sure that young master will like it too." "Just shut up." The banquet slowly began to unfold. I stayed alone in a corner searching for this assassination target. He still hadn't appeared, but the first to approach me was Kylan. If Kylan was here, that meant Egil must be here too. Kaelin confirmed my guess. Egil was currently with First Prince Lunar, but he risked coming to see me for a more important reason. Egil had ordered Kylan to leave the palace before the banquet began, and also said he had prepared an activity for this banquet. This gave Kaelin a bad feeling, so he begged me to leave the palace together. The shadow personality had taken over his mind, but he was more worried about my safety now. I accepted his warning, but still insisted on staying at the banquet. Could Egil be the mastermind behind the blood banquet? This bastard was even crazier than I imagined. Kaelin asked me with interest, "What's wrong? Are you worried about these innocent people's lives?" "I just think things have gotten more interesting. But either way, the assassination mission needs to be postponed for now." I locked onto Silica in the crowd. Mind influence, activate. The wave fluctuations after elemental power tuning allowed us to communicate secretly. "Leader, that dress suits you well. But I must say, this purification mission needs to be delayed, because the banquet hall is about to turn into a sea of blood." Silica's expression immediately changed. "Is the information reliable? I'm very clear about who's behind this incident. If it was just intuition before, now I can basically confirm it. There's no time, I'll explain later. But now we must check if there are any monsters around. But there is one piece of good news. The purification target, that is, your fiancé, will also die in this attack." Silica immediately changed color. "How did you know he's my fiancé?" But I had already turned away. At this moment, another voice sounded behind her. "Teacher Silica!" Could this voice be Lilith? The two elegantly dressed figures instantly became the focus of the banquet. Lilith excitedly came forward to greet her, but Silica only felt the timing was terrible. The attack could begin at any moment. And now Lilith was also at the banquet. "Why are you here?" "I just came to get some fresh air, and besides, this is my responsibility as the eldest daughter." Before Silica could say more, another abrupt voice called out both their names. "My dear fiancé and the charming lady Lilith, I feel as if I'm seeing two walking flowers." Silica had a bad feeling. Damn it, everything's a mess now. She never expected to meet him here. He bowed gracefully, but his wandering eyes already showed his wanton disrespect. Drenian was precisely the assassination target for this mission. After parting with Silica, I found Fla to help me with something. Flay bowed solemnly. "I will execute any command." His reaction made me feel speechless. Since Fla's power increased, he had become a bit proud. Was it because he finally felt like a true guardian knight? Don't do that. It's too awkward. Anyway, check the underground passages of the palace. He immediately showed his cowardice. "Ah, it's too dark there," showing his true colors in 1 second. "Just go. I have my reasons. Flay acknowledged the command again, but then changed his tone. Young master, there's someone sneaking around behind you. Before I could respond, Flay had already charged forward. Young master, let me catch her. Seeing the figure behind and sensing the familiar aura, I confirmed it was Aaliyah. Why would she appear here too? Meanwhile, in the underground corridor, a cloaked figure appeared in the dungeon. Time has come. My subordinates, stand up. The time of slaughter for the blood banquet has begun. This conspiracy, planned for 2 years, ultimately targeted Princess Yalin. My dear rival brother, Aegil, actually didn't make me the main target of attack. This would surely become his biggest mistake. At this moment, Yalin appeared in full formal dress. She searched everywhere for my figure, but the result only made her feel frustrated. Even though he had accepted her invitation, why hasn't he come to meet her yet? Just as she was lamenting my failure to keep my word, a sky blue figure walked towards her first. Seeing this young lady curtsy, Yalin immediately recognized her. You're Luna, right? The genius first-year student with all attributes. I represent the Empire in welcoming you to this banquet. Similar age and experiences brought the two closer. But the reason Yalin was so impressed by her wasn't just because of her noble status and talent, but also because of that maturity and composure that didn't belong to their age group. I'm truly honored to be remembered by the esteemed princess. In comparison, a certain duke's son isn't as friendly as you. The topic suddenly turned to me. Learning that Luna was with me yesterday, Yalin immediately became tense. Words of anxiety escaped her lips. Are you two that close already? Luna couldn't help but smile meaningfully. Just as I expected, you've fallen in love, haven't you? This direct statement caught Yalin completely off guard. But in the next second, chaos suddenly erupted in the hall. The two turned their heads in shock to see countless masked figures suddenly appear among the banquet guests. They immediately began a frenzied massacre of the banquet attendees. Blood splattered everywhere. Screams and cries of struggle were endless. Guards! Call the guards! Everything happened too suddenly, and these masked people seemed to appear instantaneously. Though humanoid in appearance, the bloodthirsty madness in their eyes was like that of monsters. A deep, grating howl came from under the masks. Found you, princess. Their target was actually Yalin. On the other side of the banquet hall, I brought Elia to my restroom. When she saw Nana also wearing a maid outfit, she was thunderstruck. The other girl was younger and cuter than her. So, young master, did you leave me because of her? I immediately denied it, but there was no time to explain in detail now. Are you sure Aegil brought you here? Elia immediately stopped crying, her face showing pride instead. Of course, the young master values me so much, he even said he'd give me a job. A job? Of course, after all, I'm such a popular person. Even the young master wants to hire me as his personal maid, but I refused. I need to make sure I'm there when you return. Who else could take care of you so well? Her words seemed more like declaring sovereignty in front of Nana. She kept mentioning how she had spent the longest time with me. I pondered silently. Was that really the reason? Aegil actually wanted to bring Elia to the royal banquet? Flay, change of plans. It's dangerous outside now. You protect Nana and Elia. With that, I walked out. Aegil wanting to hire Elia? Nonsense. That hypocritical bastard. Elia was simple and foolish. He would never tolerate her staying by his side. Ever since discovering Kaylin's surveillance, I knew I had caught Aegil's attention. But this bastard dared to reach his dirty hands toward people close to me. Absolutely unforgivable. After I left, Elia suddenly remembered something. Oh no, I forgot something important. The tie that young master Aegil asked me to give to the young master. This is terrible. He even emphasized it so seriously when he gave it to me. I'm so stupid. I can't believe I came all this way just to forget to do this. But something unusual about the tie caught Nana's attention. This strange smell. Could it be? At this moment, the two masterminds behind this blood banquet finally met secretly. This day has finally come. Thank you for all your efforts. Compared to the prince's obvious joy, Aegil's scheming ran deeper, responding calmly while subtly flattering the other party. The two small gifts we sent should have reached their hands by now. Thanks to you discovering Guardian Knight Boris, our operation has been so smooth. First Prince Lunar was already immersed in joy. From today on, we will continue to make use of him, to change this empire that has sunk into peace. It's time to let those incompetent ones see clearly who this empire truly needs. And now, their masterpiece was sweeping through the royal banquet like a plague. Yalin tried to evacuate the civilians, planning to first clear out a suitable battlefield for the Guardian Knight Order. Luna anxiously advised, Your Highness, you must retreat first. But Yalin, who had always taken royal protocol as her duty, firmly refused to leave first. Alright then, I'll stay to help you. Trust had now been established between them through their mutual understanding. But the next second, the situation on the scene reversed again. The sharp decrease in the number of Guardian Knights meant the defense line could not withstand the enemy's attack. The Knight Order's retreat route had also collapsed. Ambushes had been arranged early between the corridors and gates. The guards in charge of evacuation were killed and pushed back as soon as they left. Even the squad leader had his skull crushed. But what worried the Knight Order commander more was another change in the situation inside. High-level magic beasts, mandrake spirits, suddenly appeared in the hall. These huge demon beasts that only appear on the front lines had actually been summoned here. Despair rose in the commander's heart. This was a deadly situation. Victory was impossible. But the next second, a huge mandrake body suddenly exploded. Silica's agile figure landed steadily. At this point, she couldn't care about hiding her strength anymore. She shouted orders, Don't just stand there. Quickly use this chance to evacuate people. people. But while the commander was still stunned, the figure of a masked assassin had already pounced from behind. Water sword, water blade, Lilith's sword rippled as she instantly cut down the assassin. Two flowers of slaughter now bloomed on the battlefield. Organize the defense line, evacuate the people. The Royal City Guard Knights, long indulged in peace, had organization and responsibilities far inferior to the frontline corps. But now that they had Lilith and Silica buying them time, they could slowly regroup their defense lines. The two stood ready. Careful, they're coming. But the next second, the monster's vines passed by both of them. Were not the targets, but that direction. Oh no, it's Princess Yalin. But the distance was too far. They couldn't make it in time to help. In this crisis, the commander finally raised his sword. He cut through the incoming monster vines. Protect the princess! Yalin stared at everything in a daze, not even noticing the blood that swept across her face. Must someone else die for me again? Though she was the 5th princess born of a concubine, she had received the most fatherly love. But now the emperor who had sheltered Yalin so carefully was gravely ill and wouldn't live much longer. That fatherly love that had once protected her so well had now instead made her the focus of power struggles. Yalin had become the monster's main target. Though the commander valiantly cut down the attacking vines, he was still pierced through by the magic beast branches that came after. Yalin wept at this sight. Wake up, Morris. I'm sorry. It's all because of me. Luna resolutely stood forward at this moment. Water element explosion. Wind spear fusion. The water fusion bullet shot out, then pushed back the mandrake monster and gained a brief moment of respite. This was why Luna was called a magic genius. Because she had talent in all attributes, she could easily combine multiple elements and then unleash more powerful fusion magic. But she was still young with limited magic power, so this spell was only impressive in appearance. Yet her composed calmness in crisis reassured everyone. Let him go, Princess Yalin. He's already dead. We need to quickly retreat to a safe area. The situation is urgent. The mandrake monsters could attack again at any time. Yalin remained immersed in grief. 3 more guardian knights came to protect her at this time. Your Highness, we will hold it back. Please ensure the captain's sacrifice wasn't in vain. Seeing everyone urging again, Yalin finally collected her emotions. I will never forget your sacrifice, Sir Morris. The next moment, incantations flowed from her mouth. Tenacious armor. The mandrake's roots contain deadly poison. Even just contact could be fatal. So I've used magic to create a temporary barrier for you, which should block the poison's invasion. However, please make sure you survive. This is my order to you. The Knight Order members immediately rallied with a cheer. Protect the princess. However, this barrier was just simple support magic. It couldn't possibly reverse the power gap between the Knight Order and the monsters. In the fierce battle, the casualty numbers continued to rise. Everyone back! A sharp voice broke the stalemate. The next moment, an ice dragon made of solid ice pierced through the monster's body. Ice breath. It was Lilith. She had finally fought her way through the battlefield to Yalin's side. Quick! Come with me! And through the tunnel Lilith had opened behind her. A red figure leaped rapidly, 2 short blades dancing in her hands as she cleared a section of the battlefield. It was Silica, though her current identity was the eldest daughter of the Viscount Negrisci family, just a alchemy lecturer at the Royal Academy. The Negrisci family was a famous academic noble family, but Silica herself trusted more in bloody reform. If she revealed her strength at this moment, it might expose her identity as the leader of the Mist organization. But now the situation was so urgent, she couldn't care about such things anymore. Those invited to the royal banquet were all either wealthy or noble. This massacre would surely break the continent's peaceful situation. Now they could only pray the impact would be as small as possible. Miss Sword, 8 petal scatter. The mandrake monster's huge body collapsed as if frozen in time. The Knight Order finally breathed a sigh of relief. These terrifying monsters had finally been slain. But they relaxed too soon. There were still countless masked figures massacring people on the scene. Silica again demonstrated her leadership abilities. She shouted, organizing the defense line, and now she was in charge of attacking the battlefield in the hall. She could only pray Lilith's side could safely evacuate the princess, but that hint of anxiety in her heart wouldn't go away. Meanwhile, in the palace corridors, Lilith was leading Yalin and Luna in a rapid retreat. By now, Yalin had finally understood Lilith's identity, which led to a hint of worry about my current safety status. But there was no time for sentiment. The next moment, another monster's figure blocked the three's essential path. Lilith finally realized something was wrong. Another monster? Since earlier, the attacks had been constant, as if these monsters knew where we were. Can I defeat such a high-level Nightwalker alone? Lilith stood ready, but the first to attack was Yalin, who stood behind her. Holy chains. Luna also summoned a fire spear to fight, though the damage was low. But seeing its 2 most hated elemental attacks, the Nightwalker couldn't help but get furious, launching a powerful strike straight ahead. Lilith felt reassured at this moment. She wasn't fighting alone. In front of these adorable juniors, she didn't want to be defeated here. She deployed a water barrier to directly block this impact, then took this chance to leap up and launch a fierce attack from behind the Nightwalker. I am also a member of the Belter family, fighting to protect the Empire. Now I'll make you regret appearing appearing before me. The light of water blades flashed, striking heavily on the Nightwalker's body. On the other side of the Imperial corridor, a tall and majestic figure stands with his sword above the monster's corpse. Is that all these monsters? To think such a thing would happen at the banquet. But before he could finish speaking, he hunches over and starts coughing. Lunar and Aegil immediately show their concern. Your Majesty, are you all right? But the Emperor merely waves his hand to stop them from coming closer. It's nothing. I just pushed myself too hard, but I'm glad to have you both by my side. Aegil immediately responds respectfully, please allow me to help you up, Your Majesty. Though the Emperor's body is weak, he still insists on fighting bravely on the front lines. At this moment, having no choice but to accept Aegil's kindness, his heart still worries about the palace situation. Aegil calmly responds, the castle's knights will naturally handle these matters. Your Majesty need not worry, we will stay by your side. At this time, the battle in the Great Hall has achieved victory thanks to Silica's active participation, but the unease in her heart hasn't subsided. After removing the mask from the strange person, a lifeless face appears before her eyes. Is this a puppet? With her vast knowledge, she immediately recalls that forgotten forbidden spell, a spell that can resurrect the dead. It can control these monsters like puppets, but this spell is extremely difficult. The number of these strange people is too many. Just creating them would require enormous magical power and time. This surely couldn't be done by one person. So is that organization creating such a big disturbance just to provoke war? This world will never lack warmongers, but they only move along the chains of profit. Who would benefit from this bloody banquet? Meanwhile, on the other side, after the Lilith trio defeated the Nightwalker, they are once again surrounded by puppet monsters. Lilith grips her sword tightly. Damn, there's no end to them. On one side, the trio is surrounded and besieged. The heavy responsibility of protecting the princess falls entirely on Lilith. On the other side, even Nana and Aaliyah encounter an attack, just as Aaliyah takes out the bow tie Aegil gave me. Compared to Nana's developed sense of smell, the Guardian Nightflay notices something unusual about the tie first. His intuition comes more from his long association with me. In his eyes, I always unconsciously harbor an inexplicable hostility towards Aegil. This resentment isn't merely about family disputes, but rather like enemies from a previous life. Moreover, Aegil had never given me gifts before, but now he's so formal about this gift. He even brought Ilya all the way here to attend the royal banquet. Before Flay could explain in detail, Nana's warning interrupts them first. We must leave now. Dangerous creatures are approaching, and her eyes turn golden, clearly already in combat mode, while the two are still confused. Suddenly, the wall behind them explodes. A high-level magical beast, a lion ape, appears in the restroom. Fla immediately draws his sword and stands protectively in front of Aaliyah. Aaliyah suddenly becomes flustered. Do something quickly, but Flay dares only maintain a defensive stance. Although his power has increased significantly, he still lacks confidence in facing this high-level magical beast. Moreover, his task is to protect the two ladies. Such a magical creature suddenly appearing in the palace, just as young Master said, something must have gone wrong. In the past, young Master always protected me. Now I'm the only one who can protect them. But she's too close to me, even though there's armor between us. Elia's helpless and dependent words still make Fla blush a bit. I believe in you. You can definitely do it. The lion ape lets out a mighty roar to open the battle curtain. Compared to the lion ape's mighty and strong power, FLA can only rely on the wind attribute's attack speed frequency to make multiple attacks to reduce damage. In the blink of an eye, the sound of weapons clashing is endless. Ilya trembles. Can you still hold on? Of course I can hold on. I won't let it harm you. But the next second, the lion ape suddenly withdraws its claw attack, its fanged mouth lunging at the two. It's over. It's coming for me. At this moment, Fla's heart is filled with despair. The sword in his hand can't inflict fatal wounds on the lion ape, but it can pierce through his body in the next moment. I'm sorry, young master. I failed to complete my mission again. But in the next instant, a powerful impact crashes down from above onto the lion ape's upper jaw, embedding its entire head into the ground. And the one who delivered such a fatal blow, it's Nana. And among the fleeing crowd, another figure is mixed in at this moment. It's my assassination target for this mission, Drenian. When the massacre just began, he immediately fled, with no sense of honor in his heart. He even abandoned his fiancée to escape alone. At this moment, his heart is filled with fear. Damn, I can't die here. I still have so much wealth and glory to enjoy. Just yesterday, he had acquired a new little maid, Lily. The feeling of torment and her pleading cries simply intoxicated him. Just thinking about such a beautiful girl being ravaged makes his whole body excited. And his fiancée Silica, he hasn't yet played with that sexy, hot body. Only personally breaking her would satisfy his desires. At this moment, there aren't many guard knights left by his side, although at crucial moments he still needs them to take arrows for him. But even now, Drenian is unwilling to show them any kindness. Idiots. What are those idiots standing there for? Don't you know who I am? Get out of my way quickly. But those blocking his path aren't guardian knights, but rather death-hunting monsters, who strike down with a sword without mercy. Drenian is immediately beheaded. This poor wretch, who died at the bloody banquet in his previous life, hasn't escaped his fate in this life either. At this moment, everyone discovers these gatekeepers are silent like puppets, only knowing how to mechanically execute killing orders. But everyone is already terrified, standing frozen in place, not knowing what to do. But suddenly, flying water elements explode at the front door. Water element explosion. Lilith finally arrives at the evacuation point with sword in hand. Luna, quick! Ice breath. Luna's fusion magic follows immediately after, instantly clearing the battlefield. Lilith hurriedly takes command and shouts for everyone to organize defense lines to protect the princess. The leaderless Knight Corps instantly finds their backbone. But Luna's condition is now even worse. Already weak, Her consecutive battles have left her increasingly powerless. Don't worry about me, princess. The next attack will come soon. You must leave here immediately. The nobles on the scene also need the Night Corps' protection. All the pressure falls on Lilith's shoulders alone. But Lilith has no complaints about this. If I die in battle, you take over. You must protect the princess's safety. I will do everything I can to stop these monsters. Everyone move now. But the unease in her heart still hasn't lessened for a moment, no matter where they go. These monsters always follow like shadows, as if they can track our position. But with her forces stretched thin, she can only temporarily suppress this doubt. Focus on getting through the immediate crisis. The monsters are charging again. Prepare for battle. The monsters come like tides. Their attacks never cease. They seem to never tire, but nights have their limits. At this moment, Lilith is also only holding on by sheer will. The predicament before them is like a fine spiderweb. The person plotting behind it planned so meticulously. Continuing to fight hard will only lead to defeat. Must find another solution. In the chaos, a monster's mask is knocked off. With a quick glance, Lilith is shocked. It's actually undead. Are these puppets controlled by black magic resurrection? This world has many ways to counter black magic. But the first thing that jumps into Lilith's mind is the light god Lumendel, and light magic derived from the light god. If we had a light attribute magic user right now, we would have a chance to win. But there is one right here. Princess Yalin, please fill my sword with light magic. But Yalin immediately states that all magic is focused on night defense right now. Rashly withdrawing it could cause the battle situation to immediately collapse. The Night Corps members hearing this tell the princess to trust everyone. The Night Corps will definitely hold back the monsters' attacks during this time. Seeing this, Yalin hesitates no more. Light's blessing. Lilith's sword glows golden, brilliant light flows along the blade. It worked. At this moment, Lilith also decides to take a desperate gamble, although she cannot fuse multiple different attribute magic powers like Luna. But her newly learned spirit magic might not reject light attribute enhancement. If it succeeds, then these puppets controlled by black magic might instantly melt. This risk is worth taking. Spirit magic, water spirit. The next second, the elemental spirit appears and charges toward the enemy group. Meanwhile, after I walk out of the restroom, the royal banquet hall is now only left with the aftermath of fierce battles. Corpses of undead puppets and mandrakes. Just seeing these two types of monsters for a moment, I've already recognized the handiwork of this old friend from my previous life. Poison Master Boris, thinking about it, now is exactly when he joined under Aegil. Kaelin expresses surprise. Even today, are there still people who would use such ancient necromantic black magic? Boris's talent is rare, but he actually has another common strategy, pairing with confusion stones to strengthen monsters. That's a kind of magic stone that can attract monsters' aggression, usually attached to small objects. It can be said to be extremely concealed. It's one of his favorite little tricks. Kaelin says she can track the magic power of confusion stones. Then there's nothing worth lingering here for. But before leaving, I should change my attire first. And at the evacuation point, Lilith's spirit magic has already started burning frantically. Just at the moment when the Great Spirit's phantom appears behind Lilith, Luna recognizes her identity. It's Great Spirit Marion. Did she use light attribute magic to temporarily summon Marion? But Lilith's magic power cannot mix with other magic. She can't maintain this state for long. Must stop her. Otherwise, her body will be dragged down by mixed magic. But Lilith has already made up her mind. She has always been this kind of person who pushes herself too hard. The Great Spirit comforts in her ear. You have already received the White Spirit's blessing. Why do you want to sacrifice yourself here now? Lilith responds softly, because I really can't think of any other way to defeat the enemy before us. The Great Spirit then realizes she is doing this to protect everything behind her. This favored one who received divine grace yet wants to burn herself for others. What a tragic fate. Such a pure soul yet has to tread the narrow gate full of thorns. Don't approach my child. The still frantically surging monsters ignite the Great Spirit's anger. Water elements rage wildly. The erupting might has already swept the surroundings clean. At this moment, Yalin and Luna are also dumbfounded. Just a light wave of the hand has such powerful force. But the torn monsters blink and merge again in an instant. Enough. If you keep pushing yourself like this, you'll die. But Lilith turns a deaf ear. Continue on and she might die. But stopping would only make things worse. I want to end all this. Spirit King Authority, Glory Holy Sword. Marion has already started accumulating magic power. The power of this strike will definitely be earth-shattering. But can Lilith's body hold up? The next second, a suddenly intervening hand interrupts Lilith. Everyone looks at this scene in disbelief. When did this happen? A masked stranger has appeared before them. Another puppet, but he gives Lilith a strange feeling. His presence is completely different from those monsters. But just at the moment of contact, strange black mist starts climbing up from her wrist. No good. My body can't move. But what frightens her more is still to come. The black mist gradually envelops her entire body, and the spiritual connection with Great Spirit Marion is also weakening. Marion's voice also sounds behind her. It's time to say goodbye, my dear child. What? Marion, are you leaving me now? But Marion's tone instead carries a hint of comfort. This journey can only go this far, but parting at this moment is a joyful thing. Lilith, I hope you remember, the gates of Frina will always be open for you. The next moment, Lilith is already sitting collapsed on the ground, her whole body feeling feeling drained, but still calls out loudly, "Marion!" But the Great Spirit's form has already dispersed. At this moment, Luna actually sees more clearly. Those black mists blocked Lilith's magic connection. But the identity of the person before them, friend or foe, the monsters are about to charge up again, having lost Lilith as the core fighting force. Where will everyone's fate go? But the next moment, I have already blocked the monster's attack. Everyone finally realizes I am on their side. The demon blade in my hand flashes. The monsters in the field are no match for me. I am extremely familiar with this magic. But they actually forced my sister into such a desperate situation in order to protect those nobles hiding behind her. She still has to desperately burn herself. Truly unforgivable. But even so, these monsters' main target is still not me. Kaelan, can you sense who among the group behind has special magic fluctuations? You mean like Luna's? Not her. Luna's magic power is naturally like that. Let me ask differently. Fluctuations similar to these puppet monsters. Kaelan immediately states, "The necklace on 5th Princess Yalan has it." Then the problem is simple. Just need to instantly close the distance. "Help me," Kaelan complains. "You only think of me in these situations." But her movements aren't slow at all. Create mist domain. Black mist immediately sweeps across the entire scene. The whole hall is surrounded by eerie blood red. Everyone present fears for their lives, but they soon discover the black mist is slowly consuming the monsters' bodies. In just a moment, all monsters on the scene dissolve, but the entire hall is also left with only ruins and broken walls. Everyone is stunned by everything before them. This is the power belonging to the dark god. Mortal power simply cannot resist. Everything quiets down. Everyone develops a fear of having survived a catastrophe. All puppets have been killed, so who exactly is he? But the person still struggling to hold on by willpower is Luna. She finally falls down in relief. Yalan hurriedly comes forward to check. "Pull yourself together, Luna!" But the next instant, my figure suddenly appears from behind her, demon blade directly pointing at Yalan's neck. The sudden change causes panic among the Night Corps. Isn't he on our side? Quickly release the princess. But at this moment, the hostage Yalan only feels strangely familiar with the person behind her. She momentarily loses herself and forgets to resist. The sound of jewel shattering comes. Yalan's worn necklace is broken with one strike. The following Guardian Knight's blood surges. Immediately strike with the sword, but only capture the black mist's phantom. The next instant, I have already appeared beside the unconscious Luna. Black mist energy surges from my hand into her body. Yalan immediately becomes flustered and at a loss. Suddenly, a magic spell cast without thinking comes attacking me. Again hits only a black mist remnant. At this moment, my figure is no longer seen in the scene, but echoes sound in the empty hall. "Don't worry, I won't hurt you. After breaking the necklace, the monsters won't chase you anymore. Passing through the front door, you can escape the palace. I have already cleared the path for you." At this moment, Yalan finally somewhat dazedly strokes the broken jewel. "So this is why brother sent me the necklace?" But the guards pull her back to reality. She only now realizes, compared to finding out the truth. Lilith and Luna's safety is more important right now. Fortunately, both are not seriously hurt, but questions about the masked person's identity still fill Lilith's mind. But in Luna's mind, a name suddenly jumps out. Could it be him? And in another restroom, the lion ape is confirmed dead. But Nana's dragon person aura makes Elia and Fla's hearts tremble. What kind of child is that? Are you sure she's just a maid? Although Fla is much calmer, but he has also never seen Nana like this before. So at this moment, he's equally at a loss, only daring to call out with courage. "Nana, are you all right?" The bloody banquet finally comes to an end. However, the conspiracy scroll that will stir up the continent's storms is just beginning to unfold. In my previous life, rumors about this banquet continued, and everyone pointed to 5th Princess Yalan as the mastermind. People accused her of being blinded by the desire to seize power. The final evidence was also that confusion stone that could attract magical beasts. But thinking carefully now, that magic stone was probably given to her by Egil or Lunar. The Emperor should have provided protection for Yalan, but he is now increasingly ill, having the will but not the strength. And the bloody banquet's adverse effects also bring huge pressure to the royal family, making the royal family eager to find a scapegoat to stabilize the situation. So the nobles acquiesce to this accusation. This is the truth behind Yalan's tragic fate back then. After that, Egil and Lunar were considered two dazzling savior stars of the empire. The two who were crowned as heroes ultimately became the biggest beneficiaries. Kaelan now also understands the threat of events. So you're saying they fabricated this whole event for their own benefit, siblings turning against each other, sacrificing their own kind. Sometimes thinking about it, human nature is truly more despicable than demons. I tell her, compared to what they would do later, this bloody banquet is just a warm-up small show. Even I personally participated in massacres worse than this. Their reasons for doing evil stem from self-interest, but was I who only knew to act on orders in my previous life not worse than them? Kaelan suddenly reminds at this moment, there's one thing I've been concerned about since just now. The scent of confusion stone in the princess's necklace. I seem to have smelled it on your maid too. What, you mean Elia? And at this moment, in the restroom where Elia is, Nana has already been possessed by frenzied eating instincts. Seems like, Elia, you smell so delicious. Elia and Fles still don't know what to do about this sudden change. Don't come over, I'm not delicious at all. And in Flay's impression, he had never thought Nana would become like this today. She had always been so obedient. What exactly happened? Her target is only Elia, but I must stop her. Nana has already impatiently launched an attack, but Fla's mind is still occupied by Nana's tiny figure. Damn, I really can't bring myself to hurt her. He has completely lost the will to fight at this moment. But in a flash, my figure leaps into the scene, blocking this fatal strike at the critical moment. Kaylin, quick! Kaylin is always so reliable. The next instant, she has already flashed behind Elia, firmly grasping the bow tie containing the confusion stone. Ignoring Elia's pleas, unhesitatingly steps on it and crushes it. Nana, pull yourself together. Look clearly, he is your dearest papa. Papa. Hearing the familiar word, Nana's eyes gradually return to clarity. What happened? Did Nana cause Papa's wounds? I comfort her. It's all right, Nana. It doesn't hurt at all. You didn't mean to. It's not your fault. But Nana's heart is now filled with remorse. Still kneeling on the ground, tears flowing uncontrollably. After all, she still has only a child's mind. The changes before her are still too cruel for her. Let's leave first. This place looks like a real mess. And on another side, Lunar stares at the empty corridor before him in amazement. What's going on? Shouldn't there be monsters everywhere here? Now it's so quiet. It's like there's not even a trace that monsters existed. The Emperor expresses agreement with his statement, but only feels relieved at the changes before him. Lunar immediately changes his tone. Yes, father. Seeing this, I'm also really relieved. At this time, familiar shouts suddenly sound in the empty corridor. It's Yalin's group. Seeing his little daughter safe and sound, the Emperor immediately becomes overjoyed. Yalin also directly throws herself into the Emperor's embrace. The concern between father and daughter overflows, but a slightly gloomy voice sounds at this time. I'm so glad to see you're not dead, Sister Yalin. Hearing this, the Emperor immediately introduces to Yalin. Thanks to Aegil and the First Prince's protection, I was able to escape danger. Yalin tries to keep herself calm. She now has a pile of questions she wants to ask Lunar. But Lunar has obviously already won the Emperor's trust. Now is not an appropriate time. She can only calmly say, I'm also glad to see you alive. Lilith and others now also bow to the Emperor. The Emperor expresses thanks for their protection of Yalin and promises to give rewards. But Aegil takes this opportunity to have a secret discussion with Lunar in the corner. Yalin, who has been quietly observing her brother, now develops a bad premonition. The next moment, Lunar's resonant voice breaks the silence. I already know who the mastermind behind this is, amidst everyone's astonishment. Lunar unhesitatingly draws his sword and points it at Luna. Luna Hugo, you are under arrest. Changes come suddenly. Everyone is at a loss for a moment. The Emperor immediately rebukes. You're going too far. Put down your sword. Yalin also strongly objects. She saved many people's lives, including mine. Lunar sneers. This is just a disguise. The Kingdom of Gaza has always been looking for opportunities to strike at the Empire. So they tried to create chaos within the Empire through assassination. Luna retorts sarcastically, speaking as if this doesn't need evidence. Aegil helps accuse Luna, saying, last night we detected suspicious magic fluctuations in Luna's residence area. The Emperor questions again, is what you say true? You'd better think carefully before answering. Lunar's expression remains firm. I invited them to attend the banquet to convey the Empire's desire for peace. But as a precautionary measure, I've also been watching their every move. If Father is willing to give me some time, I will show you evidence. Yalin still tries to plead, but the development of events has already spiraled out of control. The Emperor knows the bloody banquet's adverse effect is destined to make the royal family unable to give a satisfactory explanation to the world. If they cannot severely punish the mastermind behind this, afraid all nobles will become estranged. In normal times, the Emperor certainly would not allow such accusations without evidence. But his will has now been dragged down by the anxiety of the situation and his illness. A trace of smugness flashes in Lunar's eyes. Please leave everything to me. Luna already knows she cannot avoid this, but her deep thoughts realize this is all a trap set up long ago. Imprisoned with her are also other people from the Magic Association team. They all disagree with grandfather's opinions. Then what role does her grandfather play in all this? For everything now, is that stubborn old man also happy to see it happen? The bloody banquet finally comes to an end. The Guardian Knights finally meet with their masters. Lexi throws herself into Yalin's arms. I thought you were dead. And the funeral of Duke Drenian, the Queen's brother, is also grandly held. No matter what, this bloody banquet indeed had fewer casualties than in my previous life. But still can't change the fact that it's called the Bloody Banquet. No. Perhaps the situation is even worse. After all, I was also so heavily wounded. But sister, you really don't need to do this for me. Lilith remains unmoved. Don't move around. I am your sister after all. Though it's also a good thing you could escape early when the bloody banquet happened. As you say, I am indeed quite skilled at this. Ignoring my self-mockery, Lilith continues. But if it wasn't for that masked person who appeared later, I might have already died. Who is he? His height is similar to yours. But your muscles are much more developed than his. After saying this, Lilith can't help but laugh. You also have so many scars, you must train very hard. But can I touch your muscles? I immediately become furious. Stop making fun of me. But at this time another voice suddenly appears. You two are still as close as before. How are your wounds? It's Aegle. I become alert. Almost healed. Thank you for your concern. Is there any progress with the investigation? But Lilith keenly captures the subtle atmosphere between the brothers. It seems Leon is very wary of Aegle. Could it be that even at his young age, he has detected that Aegle actually still hides a cruel and despicable side? Aegle still maintains a composed demeanor. I came precisely for this. In Luna's room, we found a bracelet that seems to have a confusion stone, but she said someone else gave it to her. I calmly respond, then you should also add the person who gave her the bracelet to the list of suspects. Brother, you are indeed clever. Did you receive any gifts during the banquet? So is this his real purpose for coming here? I immediately deny it and ask who gave Luna the bracelet. It was a merchant who came to the palace, but when he was found in the morning, he was already dead. Changing the topic, his tone becomes full of pressure the next second. Let me confirm with you one more time. Did you really not receive any gifts that day? Blindly defending myself at this point would be no different from walking into a trap. I might as well pretend to be sick to muddle through. My head hurts, I'm dizzy, I feel my physical condition is unprecedentedly bad. In my words, I've already collapsed into Lilith's embrace. Sorry, I think I haven't fully recovered. Seeing this, Lilith immediately softly shows concern, then turns to rebuke Aegle. Brother lost too much blood. The doctor instructed him to rest well. He can't be disturbed. Lilith's forceful manner is like a protective lioness. Aegle is left at a disadvantage, hurriedly throwing down a word of comfort before preparing to leave. At this time, I suddenly tell him, no one gave me any gifts, even if there were. That messenger also couldn't walk to me from such a hell. Aegle immediately changes his expression, showing agreement with my speculation. But this deep schemer's goal isn't the truth of the matter, but rather to use this opportunity of investigating traitors, to eliminate this brother who is rising in prominence and has limitless potential. After Aegle walks far away, Lilith also instantly changes face. Told you so many times, lie down properly. If you're done acting, then hurry up and rest. In a quiet corridor elsewhere, the maid who had presented the necklace to Yalan now lay in a pool of blood, covered in wounds. She pleaded desperately, saying she had done everything they asked. Why must she face such a fate? But her pleas were met only with cold mockery. Thank you for fulfilling your role's duties so thoroughly. Unfortunately, my role's duties are not yet complete, so I must carry out this unsavory cleanup work. How irritating. So rest in peace. In an instant, the maid was killed, but suddenly, Boris's figure turned back. He had almost forgotten. Last time, one uncleaned corpse nearly caused big trouble, but not this time. Devour, the spellbook's light flashed. An indescribable monster silhouette suddenly loomed behind Boris. And in the outskirts, the figure behind Aaliyah suddenly pulled back their hood. It was Flay, returning from purchasing supplies. The two were peacefully enjoying the calm after the battle. When I realized Elia had become part of Aegle's plot, I knew the Imperial capital and Duke's mansion were no longer safe for her. So I asked Fla to find a secluded place to hide her and take care of Nana. The current situation remains unclear. Until you receive my next precise orders, you must stay well hidden. So the two fell into an aimless state of uncertainty. Elia was especially filled with blind worry to think that little maid was actually a dragon person. Young master must have gone through so much while I was away. But at times like these, we should stand firmly by young master's side and help him with all our might. Hearing this, Flay immediately felt like he had found a kindred spirit and eagerly expressed having the same feelings. But seeing Elia's demeanor, another scene flashed through his mind. When facing danger, that trust and dependence Elia had shown in him, that memory just wouldn't fade away. And within the Imperial Palace, Luna rushed impatiently into the Emperor's study. Father, why would you do this? I was about to obtain crucial evidence, yet at this moment you choose to release the prisoner. Emperor responded, mind your words. Luna is merely a suspect. My decision has been made and will not be changed. Luna was filled with rage. Under the pretext of investigation, he could have firmly grasped the Empire's power, suppressed some opposition forces, and even can emerge as a hero after finding the culprit. But now everything had completely fallen apart with the Emperor's withdrawal of charges. What reason made this old man suddenly lose his mind, disregarding the pressure from both internal and external situations? Lunar lost control of his words. How can such a weak mindset establish dominion over the world? Enough! The Emperor's angry strike missed the Crown Prince's face. You speak of establishing dominion over the continent. You look down upon such a lofty ideal, yet why are you blind to the mud beneath your feet? Don't you know the Empire sits in a land surrounded by 4 warring states? Maintaining peace alone is already difficult enough, yet you dare speak of dominion? Your eyes see only the Gaza Empire as an enemy, but we share borders with 3 other great kingdoms. The endless stream of monsters from the Demon Kingdom's border alone has our army overwhelmed, and this is still a state of non-war between the 2 countries. Yet you absurdly aspire to extend your reach to the Gaza Kingdom. Even if the Empire could establish dominion over the continent by luck, to achieve this goal, the path ahead would surely be a sea of blood. Only a madman would choose such a path. It is not one a ruler should choose. How can you not understand such a simple truth? Lunar had long grown weary of his father's governing philosophy, but still tried to argue his case. But releasing a criminal with clear evidence pointing to their guilt, since when does the Empire have such laws? The Emperor couldn't help but interrupt. You mean the Stone of Bewilderment? Lunar froze. The Emperor shouldn't yet be able to accurately assess the properties of the Stone of Bewilderment. But the Emperor's demeanor suggested he had it well in hand. The Emperor expressed painfully. Just your expression alone tells me everything I need to see. Lunar, you've always been a child who could get whatever you wanted, but you've always believed it all came from your extraordinary personal talent. So you've always favored talented people, which is good. Promoting talent for the Empire is always a good thing. But the Empire is made up of countless ordinary people. Overly relying on the talented will only isolate you from the world. Lunar said, Father, I don't know what you're talking about now. The Emperor interrupted him again. Enough, my foolish son. How could you fall to such depths? It seems Yalin is more qualified to be a ruler than you. I don't even want to see you anymore. Leave the palace immediately. Lunar felt only rage. His power, his everything, seemed to be so easily taken away by a light word from the old man before him. This feeling of losing all control completely tore at his heart until it became twisted and deformed. If Yalin had died at that banquet, there wouldn't be this out-of-control situation now. It was she who took everything from him. The next moment, in the magnificent palace, Lunar strode into Yalin's chambers. Move aside! Lexi tried hard to stop the Crown Prince's transgressive behavior. Your Highness, the princess needs rest. Get lost! An angry punch sent Lexi sprawling to the ground. Yalin was also drawn by the commotion outside, staring uncomprehendingly at the aggressive Lunar. Royal brother, what's going on? The fifth princess, who used to only know how to cry and rely on others, had now gradually grown into a resilient person who could face off against her royal brother without fear. Lunar was like a madman. I came here, of course, to have a good chat with my dear sister. Just as the out-of-control Lunar was aggressively pressuring Yalin, Lexi spoke up, please cease your current discourteous behavior immediately. Otherwise, even though you are a prince, as the princess's guardian knight, I will be forced to take action. Lunar immediately turned his aggression. You truly don't know your place. Go ahead and tell me what you can do, you parasite. Just for your insolence toward me just now, I could order the execution of you and all your relatives. Shut up! Yalin shouted to stop Lunar. You surely came here for a reason. Don't you want to hear what I have to say? Yalin's response seemed to overturn Lunar's impression of her. How could she be so calm? Was this still the same weak sister who had strongly yearned for recognition before? Lunar's madness was 7 parts real and 3 parts fake. His current behavior was entirely meant to seize the initiative through pressure. But Yalin went straight to the core of the conflict, saying, or should I just say directly, I never received any gifts from you. During Yalin's previous meeting with the Emperor, the magic stone in that broken necklace had already caught the Emperor's attention. Although Lunar repeatedly claimed the Stone of Bewilderment was just a magic stone used by the Black Blood tribe to control monsters, but the 2 servants who had been involved with this item had suddenly died, so they must have been part of the Blood Feast conspiracy. The Emperor's spies had investigated, and only found that they had been very close to Lunar before. But now facing the Emperor's suspicions, Yalin denied the fact that Lunar had given her the necklace, only making a request to release Luna. The Emperor granted the promise to release Luna, but his expression remained unsettled. The reason Yalin decided to cover for Lunar was only because she worried that Lunar, when cornered, would harm those around him. Too many people had already died because of him. Now the only way she could think of to protect those around her was to swallow the bitter fruit of betrayal alone. Isn't this what you wanted, royal brother? I said the same thing in front of father. Lunar's face darkened. You're right, I never gave you any gifts. But what's with your attitude now, acting like I did something wrong? And about that subordinate of yours who just offended me. Shouldn't I do something about her first? Yalin said, I'm very sorry about that, but I need to entertain a very important guest right now. This was clearly telling him to leave. Lunar asked suspiciously, could there be someone more important than me? Yalin said frankly, to me, he is indeed special enough. Following Yalin's gesture, Lunar finally saw the figure in the corner. When did he appear there? Why didn't I notice him at all? I said solemnly, sorry, I didn't mean to be so unnoticeable, but I heard everything just now. Lunar stared at my figure, still feeling as if seeing a ghost. How long have you been hiding there? Hiding? I told him frankly, I just naturally don't have much presence. This was taken as a provocation by him. What do you want to do now? Speaking such nonsense in front of me. I won't be fooled by his bluster. So are you planning to do something to me too? Make me and my family disappear from this world? Lunar quickly assessed the current situation in his mind. So the news about their engagement was true? Now was not a good time to make enemies. When Egil told me he wanted to eliminate his youngest brother, I was somewhat dismissive. After all, my reason for eliminating Yalin was to remove a throne competitor. But Egil explained, it was just because this brother of his made him uneasy. Duke Belter had already given Egil the most trust and attention. Yet he still felt wary of the hidden power behind this brother. Now I finally know the reason. This youth, just his aura alone is already so imposing. The next second, Lunar became casual again. Alright, I was just joking earlier. Since the misunderstanding is cleared up, I should go. He gave up so easily? This point doesn't quite match my impression from my previous life. The current Lunar's personality is far from being as crazy as when he became a tyrant after taking power. As he turned to leave, he even expressed apologies to Lexi. Lexi hurriedly returned the courtesy, but a glance while leaving still revealed Lunar's true thoughts. You better watch yourself. After Lunar left, Lexi declared, that first prince is absolutely garbage. garbage. Thank you for helping just now. I know Lexi will be known as the continent's strongest sword saint genius in the future. Was her personality always this unrestrained? How interesting. But at this moment, Yelin's face turned red. She thought, he was so close to me. Even his scent wafted over. The next moment, I sat down beside her. She said, "Are you going to sit here?" I said, "Can't I?" I was standing over there for quite a while. Yelin's face immediately turned red as she said, "It's not that you can't, I'm just not used to it yet." I said, "Your performance just now really impressed me. Now Lunar must think we're allies, so he won't dare to act rashly against you anymore." Yelin's response was extremely quiet. Only the observer Lexi saw right through. Wow, he's really a hopeless idiot, missing such a good opportunity so easily. After Lunar left, he angrily sought out Egil. "Didn't you say your plan was perfect? But now everyone we wanted to kill is still alive. Worst of all, I've lost my father's trust. Why have things turned out this way?" Egil calmly endured his venting, having long figured out how to get along with the first prince. At this moment, another voice suddenly rang out, "We haven't gained nothing." Lunar immediately scolded, "Who dares to interrupt me?" Boris bowed in apology and explained that he had been carrying out Egil's assigned tasks during this time. Egil said disapprovingly, "But now Elia has disappeared too. Where is this success you speak of?" Boris maintained his composure as he took out a sealed magic stone. "Evidence shows we have been underestimating the strength of those around Princess Yalin. These are battle crystals I collected from the residual energy on the battlefield. Most of the energy is quite ordinary, but only this one energy is extremely rare." As he spoke, black mist energy permeated the corridor. This type of energy was once viewed by the church as absolutely evil and ominous. It is the power of the demon blade. We must reassess one of Princess Yalin's friends. He must be a formidable opponent wielding the forbidden demon blade. Meanwhile, I returned to the hidden residence where Fla and the others were staying. He must be experiencing Elia's dark cuisine for the first time, immediately stating that he thought this was supposed to be crab stew, but what was before him clearly wasn't. I acted like this was normal, while Nana desperately tried to avoid it. Elia was so happy she seemed to be floating. "Eat slowly, Nana. I'm so glad you like my cooking." But Fla felt speechless. "I think I just saw the ingredients moving. I swear that wasn't my imagination." Elia still eagerly encouraged eating, but I said I was already full. I came back this time just to confirm their safety. Staying too long might allow Egil to track their location. Elia furiously complained about Egil. Her attitude changed so quickly. She used to admire him so much. "I've arranged sentries here. If you need anything, call on Fele." After instructing everyone, I also turned to leave. But as I turned down the alley, a teasing laugh suddenly came. "What an adorably cozy family." It was Silica. She said, "Shouldn't you explain to me now why you knew about the blood feast and my fiance's identity? You seem to know how the future will unfold." I didn't expect she would be the first to suspect me. Silica continued pressing aggressively, "You'd better answer my questions carefully, because I might judge whether you're an enemy based on this. Tell me, who exactly are you?" From the occurrence of the blood feast to Drenian's death, before her I showed composure about future changes. If all of the above can be explained by obtaining intelligence in advance, then my knowing about Silica's engagement to Drenian seemed against reason. After all, she was very secretive about this, and the Nagrishi family also kept completely silent about it. "So how did you know?" I countered. "Drenian was already a target for evolution. As long as the outcome is good, do these processes matter so much?" But I also didn't expect this evasion would easily dismiss her. When faced with her questioning, my attitude was somewhat awkward. In my previous life, Silica was the first teacher to give me recognition and encouragement, but everything she did for me was just emotional pretense to complete the organization's mission. Therefore, in my heart, I could only place her in a somewhat awkward position, grateful but lacking trust. In this life, our relationship is more just mutual appreciation of each other's strength. These feelings cannot form the basis for me to be honest about the secret of rebirth. So even if she now suspects I'm a spy from another organization, I remain unmoved. "If I were a spy, what would you do?" Silica's answer came without any hesitation. Isn't the outcome of this question obvious? Earlier than her words landed was the light sound of dual blade strikes. This madwoman. But what blocked the attack for me was a mist. Silica stood firm, said, "You really have to interfere?" The black mist gradually materialized. Kalen's figure appeared. "You just never learn, do you? Haven't I told you not to harass my master?" Silica continued attacking. "It seems, Lord Kalen, you've also been kept in the dark, but having the chance to cross swords with you is also my long-cherished dream of happiness." Kalen became furious. "You've really made me angry now." The two figures crossed like two dancing butterflies, but the sound of ice blades clashing was as rapid as urgent rain. After one aerial maneuver, Kalen finally used her ultimate move. "Fine, I'll show you something interesting." Kalen had just accumulated some power through devouring. Now she was eager to defeat this opponent she had always disliked. Silica also remained on high alert, but the madness in her eyes didn't diminish. Dark power, dark destruction ball. The black sphere carried an unstoppable momentum as it crashed toward the ground. Silica concentrated her mind. Even if this skill was powerful, she just needed to focus on dodging. But the power of the mist destruction ball still shocked her greatly. So this was Lord Kalen's power? If she had chosen to block just now, she would surely have been completely destroyed. Was this the reason she was willing to take the form of a sword? This kind of power, if unrestricted, could easily destroy a city. Perhaps only power at the level of a demon king king could block that kind of might. But Kaylin's expression was like stepping in dog poop. Damn, I missed. She didn't have enough power now to release that kind of attack again. But her fighting spirit hadn't diminished. This makes it more interesting. I'm just getting warmed up. Hearing this, Silica showed no weakness, continuing to provoke madly. But the next second, Demon Blade control spell. Kaylin's body slammed into the ground. She said resentfully, "Let me go. My fight with her just started." I walked out of the room with a dark face saying, "But you made too much noise." The energy fluctuations just now have definitely attracted the attention of those with ulterior motives. You idiot, Nana and the others were hiding here well. Because of you, now they have to move. You two are really troublesome. Quickly sort out whatever is between you two. I'll notify them to pack up. Back in the room, I still had no idea about the next place to stay, but a gentle greeting suddenly interrupted my thoughts. "I didn't expect you to be living here, Senior. And since we last met, it seems your family have more members." Fla also hurriedly explained that Luna appeared suddenly. She had bypassed my barriers and guards. She was more troublesome than I imagined. "How did you find this place?" Luna said, "This is one of my talents. But don't worry, I'm the only one who knows about this place." Then she curiously inquired about the source of the commotion outside. Today has indeed been quite chaotic. I immediately changed the subject to ask about her purpose for coming. Luna said, "Actually, I came here just to say thank you, but I don't remember doing anything worthy of your thanks." Luna said, "It's alright, as long as I know what happened. That day, when you entered my body." This sentence was too ambiguous. Except for Nana, whose eyes remained pure, everyone else looked at me like a habitual pervert. But what she was talking about should be when I used black mist energy to heal her. Luna continued explaining, "Because I can use all elemental magic, so I can also freely modify and combine these elements. This includes the ability to track special magic power." Amazing, isn't it? Grandfather said this was his gift to me. Although Luna was describing her talent, her voice clearly revealed a trace of loneliness. I said frankly, "It's more like a curse. Your body was severely damaged because of it, wasn't it?" Luna was immediately overjoyed. "So it really was you back then, right, Senior?" The whispering behind grew even quieter. Nana's head was in chaos listening to their conversation. "Even if you two have improper thoughts, you shouldn't corrupt children. Let's discuss this topic somewhere else." As I left, I commanded even more loudly, "You two better have everything packed up before I return." Elia tentatively asked, "Excuse me, but may I ask where we're moving to?" "The Royal Academy." Elia was immediately excited. "Great, there will be handsome coaches." "No, I mean I can take care of young master all day, how wonderful." But Flo already had no illusions about their upcoming life, having to eat that kind of cooking every day. He suddenly felt mixed emotions, not even acknowledging Nana's greeting. Finally leaving the noisy household, Luna began explaining her background. "In my memories, I spent most of my childhood in a cold, dark place. There, I had to endure various painful experiments. But I endured it all silently because it was my responsibility. The inherent responsibility of bearing the family's burden, so I had no way to escape." "Do you also have your own responsibility, Senior?" I quickly denied it. Even if I really had such an inherent responsibility, it had vanished with the destruction of my previous life. Luna said regretfully, "Then why do you conceal the fact that you saved everyone?" Conceal? For someone as clever as Luna. Since she possessed the talent to track magic power, she naturally also had the ability to identify magic power. I asked back, "What is there to say? It would only cause trouble. You probably already know the reason, don't you?" Luna sighed softly, suddenly stopping her steps. "The reason?" As she spoke, black mist appeared in her hand. "You're right. At first I also thought the magic power in your body was just ordinary dark attribute. Actually, I had already sensed something was wrong when we first met. I became serious. To be able to detect someone's magic details at first meeting. I didn't expect her talent would be so terrifying." Luna seemed unaware and said, "But after I fainted that day, the magic power you injected into my body had a trace of transcendent might." I interrupted her. "So are you planning to take it to Regen Hugo?" "No, I don't want to do that. How can I tell you that bringing this result to grandfather would only cause unnecessary trouble? Should I trust this girl before me?" But her expression made it difficult for me to raise doubts. "So then, are you planning to rebel against the Hugo family blood flowing in your veins?" Luna slowly walked closer. "Don't you know there could be other reasons compelling me to do this?" She suddenly threw herself into my arms, softly expressing gratitude. "Thank you for lifting my long-lasting pain." She had already noticed. When my magic power entered her body, I discovered her body was like a pressure cooker that had been artificially sealed tight. This shackle on her heart could make magic power boil faster, and would also prevent magic power from leaking. But mixed elements were already volatile by nature, and being forcibly constrained within Luna's body. This left her body riddled with wounds, reaching the brink of collapse. The leaking magic power would soon extinguish her life. She had at most 3 years to live. I don't know if that crazy old man knew this would be the result from the beginning, but Luna was clearly aware of her body's condition. Yet she never told her grandfather about it. When she first met me, she said she was a lonely person. Turns out it was the truth from the start. She cared nothing for life or death, and family responsibility was just passive acceptance. But I arbitrarily removed her shackles. This would certainly cause Regen's experiments on her body to fail. But who would care about her? She was like my former self, just a puppet for others. But Luna now clearly understood the changes in her body, so she came specifically to thank me. This instead made me feel dejected. nothing to thank me for. If you're done speaking, I think I should go. I hope you can keep my secret. But as we parted, I still couldn't help adding, don't force yourself too much. This instead made Luna break into a smile and said, just as I thought, he really is a very gentle person. Meanwhile, at the Magic Association headquarters, Regent Hugo was furious. His subordinates thought he was still worried about Luna's arrest, but Reagan's words were shocking. None of that matters, but Luna made a stop somewhere else on her way back. Arrange people immediately to bring her here to see me. Has this usually obedient granddaughter developed her own will? On the other side, after several days of trekking, our group finally returned to the Royal Academy, but Elia's foolish smile never stopped. I asked, are you that happy about going to the Royal Academy? Elia giggled in response. Of course. This way I can take care of you all the time. I had left Elia at the Duke's mansion originally for her safety. Although her status as a commoner at the Duke's mansion had improved because of me, she still couldn't make any friends. So these 2 years without me by her side, she were actually not happy. This was my oversight. But Elia was still worried about the Academy's rule prohibiting maids. Don't worry, I'll ask the principal to make this an exception. But on the first day back at the Academy, I found my estimate of the outcome was too optimistic. No, absolutely impossible. Dean's answer was very firm. Even though I repeatedly promised I wouldn't let others notice them, he still gave me a chance to convince him. I shamelessly promised, I can promise not to skip classes anymore. This immediately angered this kind old man. That's something you should be doing anyway. But he still expressed his doubts. Going out once and bringing back 2 women, could they be related to the blood banquet incident? If I revealed the truth about Elia being persecuted, this kind and wise old man would certainly not stand idly by. But I still chose to avoid it, saying, this matter is difficult to explain clearly right now, but the only thing I can guarantee is that I'm not the mastermind behind the blood banquet. Isn't that what you really want to know? Dean's eyes suddenly became sharp. Are you sure? I asked back, how do you see me? That you would think I would do such a thing. Dean finally relaxed his expression. Very well then, do as you wish. Anyway, even if I refuse, you won't give up, right? The negotiation with the principal went fairly smoothly. If he knew the mastermind behind this blood banquet was his most beloved eldest grandson, what would he think? But thinking carefully, the real planner was probably Agil. Then Boris refined and executed it. The financial support provided to the Crown Prince by the Dean Quasar family was also indispensable. In my previous life, we were always this kind of combination, just that all the risky tasks were ultimately finished by me. But until the moment of my death, I only realized I had never been seen as a companion by them. Suddenly, as I turned down the corridor, a familiar figure appeared before me. It was actually Seth, that muscle man. He was still as hardworking and diligent as ever. But haven't I been running into him a bit too often lately? Seth immediately greeted me. Hey brother, you're finally back. He revealed his muscular upper body and said, let's have a fight. It's time to see who's the strongest man between us. I didn't answer, just silently staring at him. The atmosphere gradually became suffocating. The first to crack from the awkwardness was naturally him. He said, never mind, I see you're busy now, we'll fight next time. When I returned to the dormitory, I only saw Flay lying on the ground in agony. Did he die from poison? Hearing my question, Elia innocently said, I just gave Flay a cookie. After he ate it, he peacefully fell asleep, but Nana and I feel fine. As she spoke, she offered me cookies too. Was it because of the cooking? One was a maid who was constantly confused and completely unable to read the atmosphere. The other was a foolish knight always ready to sacrifice himself, completely unable to refuse. I sternly ordered Elia, from now on you are forbidden to feed Flay any food. This made her dissatisfied, but Nana's good appetite seemed more like encouragement to her, making her completely lose herself. When I was leaving the principal's office, the principal had also questioned why I needed 4 portions of food at every meal, but what he didn't know was that 4 portions was the upper limit of Academy meal allowances. But it was definitely not Nana's upper limit. She would need even more food in the future. Just as I was worrying about food, a letter suddenly appeared on the dining table. Who could it be from? The letter's header showed it was from Luna. Before I could open it, a voice rang out. How have you been lately, senior? Elia immediately went on high alert. Who is it? I was also surprised to find Luna already standing in front of me. I really was careless. There must have been too many worrying things lately. I didn't even notice when she approached. Luna calmly continued. I ran away from home, and in an underground cellar in the city, 2 figures appeared in this hidden place. We need to act quickly. This is the only way to stop Regent Hugo. Neela Abbs was an instructor at the Royal Academy. She said, everything has been arranged properly. You keep reminding me so tirelessly. Are you that worried about the teacher-student relationship between Luna and me? I'm not so stupid as to sympathize with such a monster. Hearing this, the man finally relaxed. He bowed and said, our companion should have already found Luna. Everything is for the glory of the Gaza kingdom. And on the city streets, to prevent Luna from making more shocking statements, I had already pulled her to a quiet cafe. This drew more teasing from her, but she didn't resist my forceful behavior. I opened by asking, I put a barrier spell on the dormitory door. How did you get past it? Luna laughed lightly and responded, I analyzed the barrier's magical structure, then used magic power to break it down. Simple, isn't it? This wasn't simple at all. My magic knowledge came from accumulation in my previous life. So although my magic level wasn't high, I could cast some high star magic. magic. But Luna was only 13 years old now. Even for a genius all-attribute magician, without deep knowledge accumulation, it would be impossible to analyze the corresponding elemental energies. Her volume of knowledge was far more frightening than her talent. Luna asked, "Have you read the letter I wrote you?" I said awkwardly, "You arrived before I could open the letter." Luna explained that she couldn't wait for me to read the letter and respond, so she came to see me in advance. I asked, "Did Regen make you do this?" My question brought everything back to reality. Undeniably, from the moment I knew her surname, my wariness of her became apparent. "So, did he send you to get close to me? Tell me." Luna put away her smile and said calmly, "Yes, at first it was indeed grandfather who sent me to investigate, but now that doesn't matter anymore. Of course, whether you believe these words or not is up to you." I stated that I would never easily trust anyone, and asked again about her true intentions. Luna sighed softly. "Actually, I came to the Royal Academy a year ago, but was always attracted by the Academy's free atmosphere. So I abandoned my mission and stayed here. At home, I wasn't allowed to go out either. But the loneliness of freely choosing and the loneliness of forced confinement. The feelings of the two are completely different. The reason I was arranged to come here was to investigate the disappearance of 2 magic dragons and the mysterious death of the Merchant Association leader, but I only now realize you may have been involved in all these events. Before I was just guessing. But after our last meeting, I became certain about these assumptions. Hearing that the magic dragon I had slain was actually connected to the Magic Association, I continued questioning, "So what do you plan to do now?" Luna suddenly said, "I'm going to die soon, with at most 3 years to live. But still, thank you for helping me before." Although I already had the answer in my heart, I still said, "I don't believe this. You look unchanged now. Aren't you worried about your impending death?" Luna's smile suddenly had a trace of bright indifference. I also wish I could feel some special relief, but this has troubled me for so many years. Now approaching the end, I actually feel liberated instead. Remember when we first met, I said you were a gentle person? You were the first person I'd seen who would eat together with servants. That's what attracted me. But suddenly, my attitude underwent a huge change. No matter what, these things have nothing to do with me. It's time to say goodbye. Seeing me stand up to leave, Luna only seemed slightly surprised. "Leaving already?" "Yes, I don't want to get involved in any trouble." My attitude was somewhat rude, but Luna still gently waved goodbye behind me. Even Kalon couldn't stand it anymore. Is it really okay to leave her there so impolitely? In normal times, this would naturally be inappropriate. I could actually empathize with Luna. She grew up in an environment similar to mine. All the emotions she encountered were cold and icy. If life had always been like this, that would have been fine. But once you experience freedom and warmth, that loneliness and coldness become unbearable. But the reason I couldn't show agreement with her was because Magic Association Knights had been watching from the side since earlier. The best approach now was to leave her alone. Right after I left, several knights surrounded Luna. "Please come with us. Mr. Regen is looking for you." Luna sighed softly. "I thought my escape this time was flawless, but you appeared far too early." Luna hesitated briefly. "In the past, Sir Victor was always arranged by grandfather to protect me when I left. Where did he go this time?" The lead knight immediately explained that Victor was assigned to other tasks. So this time they, the 6th Intelligence Division, would escort her. Luna gave a slight smirk. "You liars, I never knew Victor in the first place." Windblade blast, Luna struck instantly, the sonic boom pierced the air, and chaos erupted at the scene. Only the speed advantage of wind elements could allow her to escape quickly. But the knights were already on guard, and despite being caught off guard, they quickly called out to organize a blockade. Luna dared not linger, but still had doubts about these people's identities. Were they left-wing extremists? She had to escape first. But suddenly, a mysterious figure hidden among the knights oddly appeared in front of Luna. Hypnosis. Luna instantly collapsed, unconscious. Beneath the trench coat revealed the face of the bald man, although he had been warned not to underestimate this girl before coming. He didn't expect to be exposed by her so quickly. "Take her back to the carriage," and I, who should have left, was hiding far away in a position they couldn't detect. Kalon also sensed the scene through her extraordinary senses. It seems they've started fighting. Could these knights not be from the Magic Association? Then who was hiding behind all this? As the initial night fades, the carriage finally stopped at a church. The lead bald man went alone to report. "Very well done." Neela Ab's voice was full of pity. "Poor girl, having endured so many inhumane experiments, her life has been nothing but exploitation." But then she changed her tone. "This child is Regen's proudest creation, crystallizing countless efforts of the Hugo family. But we are different from Regen. We will use her to do some extraordinary good deeds. That way her life will have more value, don't you think?" But in the misty night, a strange black fog swept through the entire camp. The knights responsible for guarding had just become alert, thinking of rumors about fog assassins. A sharp swordlight had already taken his life. His companion cried out in shock, but could no longer call back the colleague who had been laughing together during the day. And in the interweaving of night and black fog, Death's elegant movement was being silently composed. They were all dead. What exactly happened here? But there was no more time for him to figure out the questions in his mind, because my figure had already appeared behind him. The sudden silence in the camp finally made the two people in the church sense something was wrong. What happened? The bald man only now realized they had been followed since daylight. But Neela instead showed a hint of excitement. "Hee hee, looks like we have a guest. What perfect entertainment for this boring night. Ralph, you deal with him first." Ralph Ralph said, "I'll make him understand what price one pays for standing in our way." By now, I had eliminated all the knights in the camp. The process went surprisingly smoothly. Was this really all they were capable of? Kalen reminded me the battle wasn't over yet. The two truly powerful enemies were still in the church. Ralph came out saying, "For a kid, what you've done isn't bad. Are you alone?" His overflowing, boiling magic power had already exposed his anger. "Are you so afraid I have companions? Then why not call out your companions too?" This taunt immediately stirred up his magic power as he attacked me. "To kill a kid like you, I don't need anyone's help." His magic power condition was extremely similar to Luna's, but appeared more unstable and volatile than hers. Neela arrived at the camp. When she wanted to verify Ralph's victory, she only saw his towering figure kneeling on the ground, falling heavily. This was definitely not the result she had hoped to see. But she couldn't sense any emotions or magic power fluctuations from the masked youth before her. His voice beneath the mask was also emotionless. "Are you the last one? Why did you kidnap Luna?" Neela Abs unleashed all her magic power without explanation, saying, "If you want to know the answer, find it out yourself." Her magic power was also surprisingly similar to Luna's. Fire, it was actually mixed magic. The volatile fire elements and rampaging lightning elements made this move full of might. The violent attack came straight at me head-on. Now not only had I not gotten the answers I wanted, the questions in my mind had only multiplied. Was this the result of the Magic Association's human experiments? Just from this probe, I put away any thoughts of underestimation, swiftly wielding the demon blade in my hand. Neela exclaimed in surprise, "How ridiculous! You actually think you can deflect my magic attack with just a dagger? No one in this world can do that." But in the next moment, I was already in front of her. The instant explosion of wind elements combined with martial arts unexpectedly allowed her to complete an aerial pivot, barely dodging my sure kill strike at the critical moment. This confrontation left Neela deeply shocked. She thought, "He's too dangerous, must kill him." At this moment, he was right behind me. It was the best time to attack, instant shot. But Kalen's figure suddenly appeared. Neela immediately sensed something was wrong. He has a companion. The magic she had formed couldn't be interrupted. But after being ambushed by Kalen, the attack had already deviated from its path. The shockwave of the magic shot carved out trenches until it destroyed the entire outer wall of the church. Battle over, Neela was firmly bound by Kalen's energy, struggling non-stop. The magic power in her body was indeed shocking, and her combat experience was quite sufficient. Especially that last shooting move had enough power to be admirable. But her mistake was provoking someone she shouldn't have. Who ordered Luna's kidnapping? How many more of you are there? But Neela laughed and said, "You'll know the answer soon enough. They'll come find you. I'll be waiting to meet you in hell." As she raised her head, the volatile elemental forces had already slowly torn her body apart. The hollow and blood marks in her right eye also showed the price of repeatedly forcing magic power in battles. Kalen voiced her guess. "Is that magic restricting thing in the heart position? So that's why magic power could keep accumulating without dissipating. Is it the same in Luna's body?" I nodded in affirmation and provided more explanation. "In my previous life, I discovered an ancient book in the Gaza Kingdom's laboratory, which detailed a man-made item called the Heart Suppressor, as well as related control and experiments. My method of sealing it also came from there, but this caused Neela's psychological defenses to completely collapse. Wait, how can you guess these things? Why do you know so much?" Behind the mask, all my emotions were hidden. The evil experiments conducted by the Magic Association, is this the so-called path of purification? Hearing me directly state the organization's absolute secret, Neela could no longer control herself and asked, "Who exactly are you?" I approached her and said, "You can try to find the answer yourself, though the answer is in hell." Neela finally broke down crying, "No, I shouldn't die like this. Dying now would be completely worthless. But on the battlefield, I never show mercy to women, especially since she had forced her magic power so much. Her body was already on the verge of collapse, no longer able to withstand my heavy strike. And at the place of her death, the heart suppressor shone like a jewel. Luna's body was on the verge of collapse because of it. Then could this thing also be used to destroy the suppressor implanted in the body? Although the ancient book didn't record this, I felt it was worth trying. I crushed it in my grip, then embedded it into Luna's chest. After a flash of dazzling light, Luna's sky blue eyes finally snapped open. Although I had once again acted to save Luna, I still chose to leave silently and without a trace. The next day, Luna suddenly woke up in the magic tower. She had never felt her body so light before, as if a long-carried burden had finally been lifted. She was at a loss, lost in thought. What else had happened during the time she was unconscious? But as her bodily functions recovered, her suppressed senses suddenly released. A hint of missing in someone, her heart grew wild like weeds. And outside the magic tower, Kalen puzzledly asked me about the meaning behind all these actions. I only responded coldly, "Maybe we'll need Luna someday. It would be too wasteful to let her die now." But this explanation couldn't fool Kalen. She said, "You're getting more and more addicted to charity work. Don't forget, you said you live only for yourself. Aren't you worried she might betray you? Was she worried about me, or did she have personal feelings about Luna?" I said, "I really hadn't expected that one day you would say such things." Kalen said, "Don't get it wrong, your body will ultimately belong to me, so you need to take better care of yourself. Don't put yourself in danger for no reason." After I left, Regen immediately received Luna, but the news he heard was extremely unsatisfying. You're saying after you were kidnapped, you don't remember anything and don't know who brought you back? Luna calmly affirmed. Regent's expression suddenly changed. You think I would believe this? News of the bloodbath has already alarmed the kingdom, yet you're still being so negligent. The subordinate beside him lost composure first, saying, I'm sorry, Mr. Regan, this was all my negligence. I should have gone to pick up the young lady earlier. Regent collected his expression. This isn't your problem. She's just too willful because she's my granddaughter. So she's actually created extra work burden for you. The subordinate immediately bowed in apology. Regent continued to lean forward and comfort him. Yes, you've always done your work well. But suddenly, scorching flames erupted from Regan's palm. In an instant, the flames spread across the subordinate's entire body. The subordinate was shocked and confused, but Regan had already darkened his expression. Actually, I've known all along that you betrayed us. But did you think you'd still be alive after hurting my granddaughter? The subordinate said, please let me explain. Regan said, shut up. The flames in Regan's hands grew more frenzied. I feel sick just hearing you speak one more word. The raging fire instantly consumed the subordinate completely. Luna swallowed her gasp in disbelief. Was it necessary to be so harsh? The choking smell still lingered in the room, but only ashes remained on the floor. Now only Luna faced Regan. Regan spoke calmly. Let's talk about what matters. Do you have results from what I asked you to investigate? Luna struggled to maintain composure. After such an incident, Regan still cared about this question? She had guessed that Regan probably already had answers in mind, so this response needed to be taken seriously. Luna said she hadn't found anything special. She knew she couldn't show any flaws in front of her grandfather. Complete lies would never work, so she said, I was late because I went to see him. When I first met him, I didn't notice anything special. Regan gradually lost patience, placing his hand on Luna's shoulder. He said, you know, this isn't the answer I want. These same hands had just incinerated a body, but now their owner was using the gentlest possible words to coax Luna into giving the answer he wanted. Tell me, Luna, what exactly is he hiding? He carries Belter's bloodline. He can't be this simple. Or is someone helping him behind the scenes? Luna remained calm. He's just a child, with only one guardian knight and a useless maid. There's no evidence linking him to these events. Why do you have to fixate on him? Regan finally stopped pretending. Are you questioning me? You were born a member of the Hugo family. Your job isn't to question, but to obey. If you don't want to talk, then get out, but don't leave the magic tower. Luna's eyes beneath her short hair were on the verge of tears. She felt exhausted and weary. This bloodline that only brought sickness and suffocation thoroughly disgusted her. When I returned to the Royal Academy, I only saw Seth dozing in front of my door. I wonder how many days he's been guarding here again. Is he not attending classes anymore? I'll have to return to the dormitory later. As I was wandering in the corridor, I suddenly heard rumors about missing academy teachers. Nyla, such a familiar name. It was training officer Nyla Abbs. The one clarifying my doubts was Silica, appearing behind me. She asked, why did you kill her? I hurriedly denied, what? I killed her? I've never even heard of her. Silica spoke unkindly. Of course you haven't heard of her, because you skipped almost all classes. Neela came from the Galen Magic Association. She was a very talented magician. But we had intelligence showing she was one of the opponents of Regan's rule. Because the Royal Academy is neutral ground, instructors from other kingdoms keep joining. But she shouldn't have done something like kidnapping Luna. Fortunately, you handled this problem before we acted. Now that I've said this, do you have some impression? I said, maybe I do. Silica said, be more serious. Don't you even care when you kill people? But I instead asked her how the academy would handle this matter. Silica said other teachers would temporarily take over classes until a magic instructor replacing Neela appears. But now she had a new task for me to handle. The new instructor might already be on the way. And during the long journey to the city, a gentleman was stretching contentedly. The golden waves of wheat and gentle breeze constantly brushed his cheeks, making his travel fatigue disappear completely. He couldn't help but exclaim, I really love this scenery. The coachman couldn't help but chat, haha, I knew you would love this countryside scenery. After all, these are rare in the city. What brings you here? Boris chuckled and said, a middle-aged youth coming to a big city is naturally only for a job vacancy. The coachman said, then I dare guess you're a teacher. Boris laughed heartily. But not yet. By the way, I'm also just from a small rural town, haha. But in the Royal Academy dormitory, it was a completely different scene. After the novelty wore off, Elia was lying lifelessly on the sofa, so boring. Kaylin said through gritted teeth, get up, I told you. This is my spot. Elia didn't care, what do you mean? This is young master's dormitory, no part belongs to you. She didn't know who she was provoking. When I returned to the dormitory, Elia had already sunk into depression alone, saying, Miss Kaylin is so scary. Get up, Kaylin. We have a new mission. Elia immediately jumped in. Young master, take me with you. I said, no, you have a more important task to do. Elia asked skeptically, really? Really? You must ensure Nana never goes hungry. Elia had a burst of intelligence. No, this isn't important at all, but sounds from Nana's room made her stop shouting. She recalled the fear of being dominated when Nana went berserk. At this time, Nana came out saying, Papa's back, Papa. Nana is hungry. She's not going to transform again, is she? Elia immediately went on high alert, quickly giving Nana a piece of bread. Nana immediately showed a satisfied expression. Elia firmly promised, leave everything to me. She was very confident in her cooking skills. Well done, Elia. I believe this task can only be done by you. Of course, it would be perfect if Flay wasn't still detoxifying and recovering. Kaylin couldn't help but feel curious about this journey. I told her we would be heading to Lanced, a city in the southwest of the Empire. It was a city ruled by money and violence. Chaos and bloodshed played out every day, and its inhumane arena was world-renowned. Meanwhile, in the arena, the crowd was deafening, with curses and abuse filling the air. Human fighter Zebard versus giant Zakbar. After the pre-fight greeting, Zakbar frantically mocked Zebard's smallness. This human fighter had a petite body. He immediately decided to use his speed advantage in a desperate fight. However, when his figure was still suspended in mid-air, he was already gripped tight by the giant's hand. Damn, his slow speed just now was all pretense. However, he had forever lost the chance for a second challenge. Zakbar was not only huge but agile and skilled in psychological warfare. He won the first match. On another side, new mission issued. The City of Sin, known as the Beast's Cage. Its mysterious ruler turned out to be just a woman, and my mission this time was to bring her back. Just as we stepped into Lance Castle, Kaylin was greatly disappointed by the city's filth. Everywhere were lifeless eyes of people lost in debauchery. I said, the city of Luthi where we live now is a neutral city by international agreement. That's why it can have peace. But what's before us is the true state of the world. Kaylin puzzledly asked what I meant, but suddenly a group of people blocked our path. Hey miss, why not ditch this kid and come play with some real men? We might be a bit rough, you'll have to bear with it. Kaylin was completely surprised. Are they calling me? She was clearly unhappy with this title. But my voice also came at the right time, because the forces ruling here are violence and chaos, so everyone lives in fear, having no choice but to become criminals, just like these people. As I spoke, I acted quickly. When turning to leave, only beaten bodies remained. The difficulty of this mission lies in finding the ruler behind the scenes. But until now, no one had ever seen her, so blindly searching around would be meaningless. Seeing more and more luxury carriages stopping at the inn, I knew the opportunity I'd been waiting for had finally come. I familiarly greeted the owner. Are you Lisa? She responded with a full smile. Yes, you can call me Lisa of the Lance Cage. I directly stated my purpose. I want to use the octagonal cage. Sorry. According to rules, newcomers can't participate in arena fights. Then what about those new guests who checked in these days? Why have they all disappeared? Or am I the only newcomer? In the moment of verbal exchange, I keenly sensed a hint of killing intent. But the next second, she immediately bowed repeatedly in apology. Despite showing weakness, she remains firm in her stance. How interesting. Let me see what you're really worried about. Overwhelming killing intent erupted from within me. Lisa could no longer contain herself. She drew her hidden weapon and shot at me. I flashed back. The 3 hidden weapons were knocked down in midair. By the time Lisa came to her senses, she realized what I had thrown was just a gold coin. Now she felt a chill. She had only instinctively acted upon sensing mortal danger, without intending to kill me, but she hadn't expected me to block it so easily. If she realized the killing intent just now came from me, then this kid before her wasn't simple at all. She hurriedly apologized, but I remained firm. You've made me very angry. Are you ready to take responsibility? The inn indeed had a secret door leading to the Octagon Arena. I had guessed early on that an inn staying open in such a chaotic area couldn't be as simple as it appeared. Seeing I hadn't made any unreasonable demands, at parting she gave me a VIP room seal. She said this thing could guarantee my safety, then advised, though I don't know your reason for going to the Octagon Arena. It's best to leave the city quickly, or you won't have enough lives. She was quite interesting, so at parting, I gave her one more sentence. I'll take what you just said as a threat. I'll remember it forever. As I stepped onto the secret corridor, Kaylin's voice drifted up. Why didn't you make her take you directly to see this city's underground ruler? I said that would probably be impossible. This city's underground ruler is Lysni Halov. The mission states, to bring her back by any means necessary. But even in my past life when I attacked this fortress multiple times, I never obtained any information about her. Lanced's final destruction wasn't from war, but from internal strife. The residents here were used to profiting from violence and chaos, so they were brave, fierce, and unafraid of war. But these also ultimately became the source of their self-destruction. And in another corner of this city, the blonde man I had beaten was kneeling on the ground. He begged his boss to avenge him, but only drew laughter. The boss said, "You couldn't even beat a kid." The blonde man said, "He's no ordinary child, and now he's staying in a VIP room. We can't touch him. Please help us, Mr. Gunther." Only then did Gunther show excitement. He said, "Is he a noble's son? This just got interesting. Let's go to the Octagon Arena too." At this time, the Octagon Arena was still bustling with excitement. Blood and slaughter continued stimulating everyone's hormones. Kaylin finally understood what I meant, and began to comprehend why the city would eventually fall. But such matches would also attract more gamblers' attention. That's why I came here. Finding Lysni Halov directly would be difficult, but making her find us would be much easier. At this point, my presence finally caught the guard's attention. "Hey, kids aren't allowed in here." His timing was perfect. I knocked him down with one punch. I continued attacking, punch after punch landing hard. The guards were shocked by my sudden display of madness, but I just spoke coldly. Where should I go to fight now, rather than just being a spectator? I finally caught the attention of my mission target, but also attracted some strange gazes. Finally stepped into the arena, but the audience seats were all clamoring for me to leave. This certainly wasn't out of any sympathy these people had for a child my age, but because they thought the arena had no one to send out, and actually put a child up as a substitute. They thought, how could a child possibly bring them the slaughter they anticipated? Even if it was a one-sided massacre, it would be too bland. But I was completely deaf to the jeers filling the arena. In my eyes, there was only my current opponent, Giant Zakper. Rumors said he wasn't a giant bloodline, but descended from ogres. His violent and cunning personality also proved this point. Seeing I was his opponent, he had no intention of letting me go. I've already picked out how you'll die. An impudent kid like you deserves to be crushed to death. As he spoke, he thrust down heavily with one finger. I didn't retreat but advanced, taking a step to decisively break his finger. Then I leaped up, giving him no chance to breathe. A punch filled with might landed squarely on his face. This wasn't my first time fighting enemies of massive size. In my eyes, he was full of openings, but the reason I resolved the fight so quickly was to make my arena ranking rise faster. Giant Zakper's mountain-like body crashed down. The audience's jeers were replaced by gasps, but the next second, even stronger dissatisfaction erupted. They felt this kind of overwhelming battle had no entertainment value. Demands for ticket refunds and nullifying bets rose one after another. Leon from Lemuria wins. Next time, they should send me a more formidable opponent. Kalon said, "You seem to be hated by everyone. Is it okay to expose your true face like this?" I gestured for her not to worry. An incantation inherited from the Dark God could easily solve this problem. I could use dark mist energy to disguise my appearance. Although they could see my face now, when trying to recall later, they wouldn't remember what I looked like. You never care about these little tricks, but sometimes they're quite useful. By the way, were you worried about me just now? Kalon immediately denied. Don't flatter yourself. I just didn't expect that fool to secretly share his powers again. And at this moment, a very calm man sat in the audience seats, completely out of place with the surrounding noise. It was Gunther who had come seeking revenge. He said, "Leon, is it? I'll take you as my opponent. Don't disappoint me." And on my way back, another kind of confrontation was happening in the inn. Lisa glared at the visitor with hostility. The visitor was Dilka, who managed the red light district in Land City. "I don't want to stay here a second longer, so I'll be brief. Hand over the boy who caused trouble today." Lisa was equally confrontational. "I don't know what you're talking about, but you'd better take your men and get out of here." Dilka's veins bulged and said, "My boys here get pretty rough once they start fighting. I don't want it to come to that. Besides, he started trouble in my territory first." Lisa didn't back down. "Since he's my guest, I can't let you take him." Hearing this, Dilka was overjoyed. So he really is staying here. The subordinates also got rowdy. "Boss, give us the order. We'll level this place right now." Lisa secretly drew her weapon on guard, but her slightly sweating brow betrayed her inner anxiety. Lisa couldn't explain why she was protecting that child, but a voice suddenly interrupted the tense situation. "Are you looking for me?" Everyone turned around in shock. When did he appear there? I walked steadily to Dilka's front. "If you have something to discuss, you can talk to me directly now." No need to pressure Lisa. But Dilka, just seeing me for the first time, had strange feelings surge from her heart. My explanation of the situation was like being shrouded in a thin veil of mist. Dilka didn't hear a single word, yet felt every note of my voice was like being given life. She grabbed my hand and couldn't stop caressing it, speaking in an extremely coy voice. "Yes, you're so right, but now I'm more interested in your name." I said my name was Leon. She said, "What a wonderful name. Only a brave gentleman and lovely face like yours deserves it." Lisa felt a chill and said, "You're still underage. Come with me out of here quickly." I gestured to Lisa not to worry. The situation was still under my control. Lisa retorted, "You don't know what kind of danger I'm worried about." Dilka then extended an invitation to me. "This is my card. I hope to have a chance for an in-depth chat." Dilka's House of Joy, what a strange name. Dilka giggled, "Please do come. If it's you, I'll make it free specially." I felt a chill, only now belatedly realizing her enthusiasm seemed excessive. Lisa was speechless. "I warned you already. For your own sake, better not sneak near the House of Joy. Who would go to such a place?" After I turned into my room, a voice sounded by Lisa's ear. "So Dilka left on her own? That's good." It was Lance, underground ruler Lies. She said, "Are you close with that child?" Lisa bowed in greeting and said she just treated me as a regular, very important person guest. Nothing worth noting about a child. A child. A contemptuous taunt suddenly interrupted their conversation. Gunther openly mocked, "Lisa, you're underestimating him too much. Long time no see, your place is still so old. Why not just tear it down?" Lisa immediately collected herself. "Gunther, why are you here? Not staying properly in your garbage dump, but coming to make trouble in my territory." Lies stopped their confrontation, saying, "I called him here because I've arranged an opponent for him." Lisa looked surprised, but Gunther was banned from the arena long ago. "Who are you making him fight?" Gunther jumped in. "Leon from Lemuria. I will defeat him with my own hands." "What, can't you smell the scent of gold coins in the betting pool at this level of battle?" And in another part of the city, in the red light district. Piercing screams kept coming from the inner chamber. Two of Dilka's subordinates couldn't help glancing back. "How many times is this today?" Her voice keeps getting louder. The other subordinate also chimed in mockingly, "Shh, quiet." Before we left the inn, Boss Dilka swore she'd be the first to seduce him. That kid has completely bewitched her. I believe Boss will do anything to get him. The companion agreed. After all, Boss always gets what she wants. Poor kid. I'm so thankful our parents gave us ugly faces. And in the inner chamber, Dilka had descended into madness, constantly muttering to herself. No, no, still not right. She angrily crumpled the portraits into balls of waste paper. Damn it, I clearly saw that handsome face, but why can't I remember it? That was definitely the most beautiful face I've seen in this world. Why are my memories like they're covered in fog? Damn it, but this just makes me want him more. And in one of the Dark God's dimensions, Silica stood silently at the altar. The Dark God's questioning also came at this time. You seem to have issued an interesting mission. The target isn't on the evolution list. Though I don't mean to lecture you, you seem to have let your personal matters interfere with the mission. Silica had no intention of denying, but she still insisted Lysni Halaf needed to be eliminated. Moreover, it could test whether Lian was truly a qualified successor to the organization, or would become a traitor like Lysni Halaf. The Dark God also showed a slight smile. As you say, fate cannot be predicted. But this will indeed be an interesting test. Let's wait and see. After learning about Dilka's strange tastes, I became even more wary of this place. Looks like I'll have to try finding clues from other areas. But just as I turned to leave, a little girl suddenly bumped into my arms. She hurriedly apologized. But judging from the degree of injury, the one who should apologize was me. Cigarettes. Is this your work? The little girl repeatedly thanked me for my kindness. From her fearful demeanor, it wasn't hard to see this city wasn't friendly to children at the bottom. She said, yes, these are Grey Company's fine cigarettes. If I'm lucky enough tonight, I can sell them all in the alley on the west side, then I can return home earlier. Seeing she was about Nana's age, but already struggling to survive. Only after selling everything can go back. I said, is this gold coin enough to buy all your goods? She said, but sir, didn't you just say you don't smoke? I said, don't worry about it, just take it. Here's some extra reward. It's my gift to you. 2 shining gold coins spun at my fingertips. The crisp sound like the girl's joyful cheers. The girl said, thank you, I won't forget you. After she left, Kaylin's figure slowly appeared. As an assassin, why don't you go do charity work? I sighed lightly. She's heading toward the garbage dump. Just follow her. Tonight we'll surely get something. Moments later, the little girl's figure flew out far away. It was the blonde man who was struck before. See, I told you she definitely had more than 1 gold coin. She must have met someone generous today. But you dared deceive us. Just in time as I also had angered a vent. The little girl said tearfully, please, I didn't hide any coins, please believe me. At this time, a cold voice suddenly rang out. She's already asked you to believe her, why won't you stop? Cold sweat instantly crawled up the blonde man's forehead. This voice was too familiar. How pathetic, you've actually been stealing from this child all along. The blonde man froze for a moment, but suddenly realized this was his territory and got bolder again, starting to shout, but was instantly knocked down by me again. Since you won't use your own limbs to work, I'll help you destroy them. After all, having a chance to torture bad people is quite enjoyable. This won't end quickly. When everything was settled, I picked up the fallen gold coins and put them in the girl's hand, saying, hold on to them properly this time. But suddenly, the sound of applause came from the side. Gunther's figure slowly emerged from the shadows. Strange, looking at his expression, he seemed like this wasn't his first time seeing me. But the appearance blurring spell should still be in effect. But the next moment, Gunther resolved my confusion. Your fighting is truly impressive. Though your face confuses me, but opponents this strong don't just suddenly appear in the city. So you must be Lian from Lemuria, right? Hello, I'm Gunther Lytus. This is my territory. The fallen blonde man immediately called to Gunther for help, and directly stated that I was the person he'd asked Gunther to deal with. Gunther looked at the blonde man I had beaten to a pulp. He extended his foot and directly stomped on his head, saying, sorry, you're useless now. I'd better clean you up first. His madness triggered my disgust. I said, is it necessary to kill him? I still had some questions for him. But since you say this area is under your management, asking you should be the same. Gunther's eyes flashed with bloodlust. Sorry, I got a bit too excited, because I just got back from seeing Lance Ruler just to fight you. But now you've delivered yourself to me. Does this guy know lies? I threw a punch without hesitation. Although my attack was unexpected, Gunther had a beast-like instinct, his limbs moving faster than his mind. After just a brief exchange, Gunther was boiling with battle fever. Excellent. This is how it should be. No need to wait for the match. I'm so glad you came to find me. Let's decide the winner now. The next moment, Gunther's fists came crashing down heavily. The destructive power was indeed shocking. Does he have some secret method to enhance his strength? But more frenzied than his fist power was his boiling fighting spirit. You're better than I imagined. Lian, continue using all your strength to entertain me. Between words, fists fell like raindrops. His arms were like an impenetrable gate. All attacks were deflected, unable to cause him any damage. The fist-to-fist combat method made him even more frenzied. He kept roaring, robust muscles bulging. The next moment, a violent impact rose from the ground. Not bad at all, Lian. Calm down quickly. Let's have another good fight. Kaylin was getting eager to join in at this point, but I stopped her impulse, because I had already noticed the presence of others entering the scene. At this time, a voice suddenly halted Gunther, but arriving before the voice were familiar flying daggers. Gunther, stop immediately. Why do you always have to harass my esteemed guests? Gunther couldn't help saying, he started it first. Why do you always have to cause me trouble? You think I'd believe that? You yourself are one big trouble. The two had long-standing discord. Gunther stopped explaining and turned away huffily, but before leaving didn't forget to remind me of our duel appointment. The battle was interrupted again. I was somewhat displeased, but Lisa wouldn't appear here without reason. thinking of Gunther's words earlier about requesting to fight me in front of the ruler. It seems Lisa came this time to convey Liza's orders. I said, "You want my help, right?" Hearing me state her purpose, Lisa was somewhat surprised. I directly gave my response. I can agree to the duel request, but there's one condition. In my words, I pointed to the small girl slightly curled up to the side. I continued, "You need to give her a job." A week passed in the blink of an eye. News of the duel had spread throughout Lanst. Hearing that retired champion Gunther was fighting again, residents were excited. During these days, I had also challenged some matches alone, getting familiar with the rules. First, no weapons allowed. Second, no ground pursuit. Of course, third was naturally no killing. However, on the day of the duel, the host suddenly announced this was a no-rules fight. I was caught somewhat off guard. It was specially permitted by the castle's master, but why was I the last to know? In comparison, Gunther seemed much more composed, even leisurely putting on a pair of boxing gloves. I've been impatient waiting for this day. This isn't fair. But as the match starting bell rang, the arena was already submerged in fervor. Didn't anyone tell you this was a no-rules fight? If you're scared, go pick a weapon now. No one informed me beforehand. But since things were like this, I could handle it just as well. Seeing magic power surge in my hands, Gunther's smile couldn't help turning playful. Magic? These children's tricks are fine too. I'm really worried I might accidentally kill you. After all, what I miss most here is the feeling of killing. I'll gouge out those arrogant eyes of yours first. Those arms must be Gunther's undefeated secret in the arena. But it was too arrogant to tell your opponent your target in advance. As Gunther's body charged toward me, I quickly summoned the demon blade. In the instant of dodging low, the thin blade swung, with a sound like cutting strings. When steadying my stance, a right arm silently fell. Gunther also coughed up blood and collapsed kneeling. His face contorted. "Bastard. This time I'll definitely kill you. You'd better shut up now or you'll really die." In an instant of imposing presence, Gunther was also stunned. In a no-rules fight, from the start you should have been the one worried. Match 1. But a wealthy-looking spectator in the audience was extremely excited, muttering to himself. That black mist couldn't be wrong. It must be the divine weapon demon blade. Back at the inn, the little girl immediately brought up cold drinks. She had started working here. A small nameplate was engraved with the name Louis. She seemed to be adapting quite well. At this time, Lisa appeared and said, "About today's events, I think I need to apologize. Why did you hide the change in today's match rules?" Hearing my questioning, Lisa immediately denied. "Hide? No, I didn't. Only the master and Gunther knew about this. Though this was also my oversight, I should have checked beforehand." I took the opportunity to request meeting lies, but Lisa still refused without hesitation. "The master prefers to act in secret. Even I don't know her whereabouts." She didn't seem to be lying. "Looks like this path won't work either." But the next moment, an abrupt voice interrupted my thoughts. "Excuse my interruption. I'm Morris from the Grey Company. I came here just to ask, would you be willing to sell me that demon blade in your hand?" After receiving my negative response, Morris still persisted, telling me there was no need to hide. He used to work at the Abbs Chamber of Commerce, in charge of weapons supply. 2 years ago, after the chairman was assassinated, he joined the Grey Company. So among the crowd, he immediately recognized that the weapon in my hand must be the demon blade, and promised to pay any price for it. How ridiculous. Not only would I never betray Kalon, but as a merchant, buying low and selling high was his duty. His so-called willing to pay any price was worthless. I grabbed his throat and said, "You just said you're the only one who recognized it, right?" Killing intent rose in my eyes. But suddenly several masked figures appeared around us. They were shadow assassins from Spania. So this was what gave him such confidence. I said, "Do you think they can save you before I snap your neck?" My cold voice finally made Morris realize that the youth before him was no ordinary child. He had thought I was just some noble son who had wandered into Lanster, someone he could easily bribe or threaten. But now he found himself in a predicament. These expensively hired mercenaries couldn't provide him any protection at this moment. Please. But what stopped me wasn't his pleading. It was a gasp from beside me. Lisa still had that look of wanting to stand up for her guest. But what I really cared about now was the terrified gaze of little Louis. Fine. I didn't want to leave her with psychological trauma anyway. I released my grip on Morris, saying, "I'll let you off this time. Get lost before I change my mind." Morris still wouldn't give up. He stopped the assassins from advancing, saying, "If you change your mind, feel free to find me anytime. The offer still stands." Under my cold stare, Morris slunk away. I never expected that after I killed Zickman, a new merchant society would take its place. Louis came forward to ask about my condition with concern. I told her not to worry, but regarding Lisa beside me, I was somewhat dissatisfied. I said, "After all this, am I still not allowed to meet Lanster's controller?" Meanwhile, at the junkyard on the outskirts, Gunther was in a rage, ignoring the torn wound on his right arm, saying, "Bastard, I'll kill him. I must kill him." But what made him so agitated wasn't just losing to me. It was that for the first time in front of me, he felt fear and retreat. He couldn't accept such weakness in himself, yet had no way to overcome it. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind. "That's right, that girl. She can definitely be my bargaining chip in winning against Leon." At this moment, Louis was still completely unaware of the approaching doom, just wondering who would be knocking at the door so late. She politely welcomed the visitor into the inn, but what she saw was Gunther's dark eyes. Meanwhile, inside the inn, Lisa, as expected, still refused my request to meet Lies. She had now realized I was a bit too focused on Lies, even knowing the name of the city's behind-the-scenes controller. But she still insisted on warning me, saying to stay as far away from the city as possible. Her stance was truly puzzling. Suddenly, a scream rang out. It was Louis's voice. I quickly rushed to the front desk, only to find furniture scattered on the ground. The little girl had vanished. But from the remaining traces, I already had a guess about who had just come. And in the red light district, on the other side of the city, Dilka was already tormented by longing. Morris suddenly burst in and said, "A lady's room shouldn't be this messy." "You're a mess, Dilka." Dilka weakly retorted, "Morris, are you here looking to die? I have no interest in your business." Morris said dismissively, "I think you must have fallen for that young man whose face you can't even remember clearly. This is a paralyzing potion that can make your wishes come true. The latest product from the Galan Magic Association." Dilka took it and asked, "So what do you want from me?" Morris said, "I want to work with you against that youth. You can have his body, and I only need something he has in his possession." Quite a fair deal, isn't it? But what he didn't say was that he hoped even more for that youth to die in an accident. Although he had already received intelligence that Gunther had made his move, to be absolutely certain, he still sought out Dilka. At this time, Gunther sat in the junkyard, finally waiting for the person he had been thinking about. "You finally came, Leon. You really made me angry," I said. "Tell me where Louis is." But what answered me was an ear he threw out. Gunther said, "This is a souvenir taken from her, and the other parts are in the box under my seat. If you want them, come get them yourself." I said, "You're really asking for death." My boiling, killing intent also ignited Gunther's fighting spirit. His torn blood continuously twisted and coiled to form his right arm. He said, "Excellent. This is exactly I want. This is the battle I've been seeking. Come at me." Meanwhile, Lisa also hurriedly met with Lies. Lies joked, "Are you worried he'll kill Gunther?" Lisa responded frankly, saying she no longer had any feelings for Gunther, but was very curious why Lies would pay so much attention to Leon. Lies didn't answer directly, instead asking her to try to recall Leon's face, whether she could remember what Leon looked like no matter how hard she tried. Lies then explained, "This is IL's ability, making people forget his face. It's been a long time since we've had such a distinguished guest. Just like an old saying goes, the past you abandoned will always find you unexpectedly at some point." Makes sense, doesn't it, Lisa Lightus? Meanwhile, the battle at the junkyard was about to begin. Gunther's blood-formed right arm continuously attacked with undiminished force. He said, "Why aren't you using the skills from before yet, Leon? See all these corpses at your feet? They're here because they were useless and discarded. This is a junkyard, but all of Lanster is filled with useless trash. Lisa and I grew up here, struggling to survive every day. And everyone who tried to harm us, I had to strike back without mercy. So I was always fighting. But it was then that I met a young master. He drove away the junkyard boss who had been bullying us. He said he left the Royal Academy to find some fun. So he wanted to clean up all the trash in the junkyard, so we could live more safely in the future. I'll never forget his angelic face that day. So I decided to follow his ideology, that someday I would clean up all the trash in Lanster. Everything changed for me from that day on. My influence grew larger and larger, until I controlled the entire junkyard. To make money, I also went to the Octagon Arena, but later got kicked out for killing someone. But I didn't care at all, because I only killed useless trash. From then on, Lisa also cut ties with me. But so what? To clean up all the trash in this city, everything is worth it. Alright, enough talk. Let's begin. Can't you see my fighting spirit? My response was also filled with madness. "You should push me harder, Gunther Lightus." Gunther finally showed a satisfied expression, saying, "This is how it should be. I'll stake everything too." As his blood surged and contracted, his blood hand became even more terrifying. He said, "It's time to show you something interesting." An ancient object suddenly appeared in his left hand. "This is gravity space. Wherever it's placed will be covered by gravity." As he spoke, the gravity box had already flown towards me. Suddenly, I felt the air around me collapse. Seeing I was already controlled by gravity, Gunther also swung his blood hand to attack. He said, "Not bad. Let's see if you can block this one too." Kalen's voice also quietly sounded, "Need help?" I refused just dealing with such a mad dog. Moreover, he had already chosen death. The next moment, my figure shot forward, the invisible gravity cage having no effect on me at all. Gunther stared in disbelief, but I no longer showed any mercy. I said, "An ear was it? I will destroy everything you have. Don't worry, I'll leave your ear for last." A punch burst forth. His blood hand could no longer maintain itself. Gunther's figure flew into the air. I flashed up again. An angry kick directly hit his back. Gunther's figure accelerated downward. As the dust cleared, Gunther had been impaled by the junkyard debris, no longer able to fight. His eyes gradually became empty, but unusually gained a sense of relief. Haha, someone like me was destined to die like this from the start. I have no regrets in life. Just as I was considering delivering the final blow, he suddenly mentioned Louis. He said, "That child was born in Lanster. I'm sure she'll become trash when she grows up, just like me and Lisa. This is the rule set by the city's ruler. Please make sure she doesn't follow the same path. I believe you can do it." After saying this, he kept silent forever. Why is it like this? Isn't this box supposed to contain Louis's limbs? By now, Lisa had also arrived. Seeing Gunther's fallen figure, She only reacted silently. This day would eventually come, after ordering subordinates to ensure a safe room was reserved. She turned her attention to the small figure in my arms. Louis seemed unharmed, just asleep. I handed her over to Lisa, then turned to leave as Gunther said there was indeed some trash that needed cleaning. Lisa asked in confusion, "Where are you going?" I said, "Lanster." My response left Lisa puzzled, but my expression was determined. This city indeed had trash that needed cleaning, but Gunther had chosen the wrong targets. Lanster, this city that devours hope, this city of sin. It was time for a reckoning. Besides the fallen junkyard boss Gunther, the other three controllers of the entertainment, business, and Octagon Arena areas were still active. In my previous life, I had struggled without a justification to start a large-scale war against this city, because there was no standing army here. Yet the people were fierce fighters. But Egil told me there was no need to rush, and predicted this city would self-destruct. All we have to do is receive it on time. When I asked in surprise, he only coldly said, "That city has long been rotten." I once had very close contact with it. Back then, I didn't understand why he was so certain. But today, I finally understand the reason, although time has already proven the result. I can no longer bear to wait for its self-destruction. Today, I will uproot it completely. When I arrived at the residence of Dilka, the entertainment district manager, the red tea she served me had a strangely familiar sweetness, the paralyzing potion commonly used among Gasha nobles. Has she become so brazen as to poison me right to my face? "Welcome to my place, Mr. Leon." Her voice was as sweet and soft as the fragrance. I just smiled and said, "Where else could I drink such fragrant tea?" Dilka's eyes shook violently. She had begun to suspect whether I had noticed, but the next moment I drained the cup in one gulp. My body involuntarily went limp. She was first stunned, then couldn't help but show wild joy on her face. Success. He's mine now. Meanwhile, in the business district, the intelligence about my capture by Dilka had already reached Morris. Perfect. God is truly on my side. Although Gunther wasted my gravity box, the investment in Dilka has finally paid off. Suddenly, a figure slowly emerged from the wall and said, "Sir, isn't this going too smoothly?" Morris said with displeasure, "My intuition has never been wrong. This time the demon blade will definitely be mine." The shadow didn't reply, but still insisted on investigating first. Morris neither agreed nor disagreed. After he disappeared, Morris said with dissatisfaction, "These stupid mercenaries are so talkative. Could they also be eyeing my demon blade?" Thinking of this, he could no longer sit still. He immediately got into a carriage and rushed to the red light district. When he pushed open the door, Dilka's little game had already reached the warm-up stage. Dilka said, "How annoying, I was just starting to have fun." Morris said urgently, "No one's fighting you for him. Quickly give me the demon blade." Dilka's movements remained unhurried, saying, "You're really impatient. I guarantee you'll be very surprised." When the curtain opened, another bound Dilka appeared on stage with her male companions. Morris was shocked. Have all these male companions become specimens? Although he had heard of Dilka's twisted tastes, he hadn't expected the truth to be like this. But he also didn't care about this. He asked back, "Who exactly are you?" The Dilka before him waved her hands. The next moment, Kalen's figure appeared, saying, "Who could I be? I'm the demon blade you've been dreaming of." Morris was instantly at a loss. The legendary divine weapon was actually a woman. At this time, I also slowly stood up, saying, "You know too many secrets." The situation changed suddenly. Morris clutched his throat and shouted, "Guards, save me!" Too noisy, I quickly moved to stop him and said, "Since you're so eager to see the guards, I'll send you to meet them." Domain, expand, the mist collapsed like a swamp. "It was you who gave Gunther the gravity box and Dilka the paralyzing potion, right?" Faced with my accusation, Morris no longer had the courage to deny. He said, "I'm sorry, I'll never do it again." I said, "You're right, I also believe you won't do it again, but it's better to confirm these things personally." I called out the spell, Domain Collapse. Morris's figure slowly sank into the swamp. Suffocation made him sink deeper and deeper, and in the depths of the swamp, the shadow assassins he had hired at great expense had all been eliminated. The matter finished, only Dilka was left. Kalan said with interest, "Don't worry, I'll take good care of her." "Alright, hope she won't go too far," Kalan said with a full smile. "I know you were pretending to be unconscious, but that won't affect what I'm about to do." "Who told you to set your sights on my master?" Dilka was terrified, saying, "Please, spare me, I'm sorry." The pleading gradually weakened. Kalen had already begun her revenge. I slowly closed the door. Familiar black mist energy unexpectedly wavered behind me. An unfamiliar voice sounded, "Your face looks quite amusing now. I am the Lanster manager you're looking for, Lies Nihalov. Looks like Silica didn't tell you about me, did she?" "This lies. Is she also part of the mist shadow?" My expression became serious. I asked, "So are you my senior? But I guess you're more like a traitor, seeing me start to accumulate energy." Lies interrupted, "Don't misunderstand, I'm not your opponent." Several sneak attack daggers shot out. I knocked them away with my hand. A familiar figure leaped into view. "I don't think I need to introduce her," Lies said. Lisa also responded, "Yes, master. I will defeat Leon." Lisa instantly attacked, giving me no chance to explain. I said, "Get out of the way, Lisa, this has nothing to do with you." But she ignored me completely. Left with no choice, I had to knock her out. Blood wave impact. Lisa's figure shot out. After landing, she showed no reduction in combat ability. Damn. Didn't expect she had also received thorough training. This move was ineffective against her. Lies hiding in the black mist couldn't help but mock and taunt. "You can kill her if you want. Why hesitate?" I said, how long are you planning to hide in the mist? Lies said, I just want to see whether Silica's disciple is stronger or my disciple is stronger. Hearing this, I was distracted again. What relationship does she have with Silica? But Lisa's attack came again. 1,000 shadow needles, blades shooting out. I barely dodged. Lisa caught my landing position, then pounced down from above. She said, I did cut ties with Gunther, but you still must pay for killing my last relative. Only now did I realize her relationship with Gunther wasn't as distant as it appeared. But her gaze indicated this was due to the shadow personality being activated. This small fragment of memory about hatred occupied her heart, which was why she attacked me relentlessly. But rashly closing the combat distance with me was undoubtedly her biggest mistake. I instantly countered, pressing the advantage. One strike knocked her unconscious. Finally, the obstacle was cleared. I said, now it's just the two of us, still unwilling to come out? Lies said calmly, can't you see this black mist domain is my very being? I said, although I'm surprised you can use the black mist power, I think you're more like a traitor or a thief. Liza's expression changed slightly, but my next word surprised her even more. I continued, did I hit the mark? That ring on your hand. It's the ring of dominion that can absorb and use any magic, right? You've been using it to fake the dark power. You're just a shameless fraud. Lies could no longer maintain her composure. She said, how dare you? I'll let you witness the power of the dark god. She finally revealed her true form from the black mist, but just in the moment she appeared, the erupting energy froze everything around. I was completely still, unable to move at all. Liza's voice regained its composure, saying, this is my domain. Only I can move freely. How is it? This feeling of helplessness is nice, isn't it? This is true power. Time to say goodbye, poor little thing. However, in the domain that should have been completely silent, a voice suddenly rang out. Finally found this place. So, you also want to lay hands on my master? Kalen's figure gradually appeared. Liza was instantly dumbfounded, saying, the invincible domain was actually breached. Does she possess power equal to the dark god? Her mind kept searching. A name suddenly jumped into her thoughts. Besides Elle, there was only one person who could do this. Kalen didn't wait for her to call out her name. Under Liza's terrified gaze, with a light snap of her fingers, the domain shattered like glass. Regaining freedom, I couldn't help but complain, thanks a lot, any later and you'd be collecting my corpse. Kalan said, you've already been saved, stop complaining endlessly. Seeing herself being ignored, Liza could no longer bear it and said, shut up, you can't possibly be the successor. 300 years, it's been 300 years. Even if a successor appeared, it couldn't possibly be a child like you. Kalan was puzzled why she was reacting so strongly. I said, probably because I already angered her earlier. Again being ignored, Liza was furious. She said, don't underestimate me, you fake successor. She charged in with her blade. Kalan gathered her form, then transformed into a weapon. Her attack intent was too obvious. Mist sword, storm rush, completely identical move, but the weapons in hand were worlds apart. In the moment they passed, Liza's short blade had been knocked away. Her figure fell. When she looked up, she saw a sight that amazed her beyond measure. I said, still don't believe? Then let me show you the true power of Black Mist. Dark Annihilation Bomb. I mocked. You can try to block this. Liza's pupils dilated, memory suddenly flooding back. That day when she grew tired of endless waiting and chose to leave the altar. Silica didn't stop her, just felt somewhat regretful. Liza said, are you going to kill me? Silica said, why would I do that? There are so many more bad people in this world more deserving of death. But Liza, if one day you defile the faith, I will purify you just the same. Remember this well. At that time, what you stole will also be taken back. That was her last meeting with Silica. She believed that even without a successor, she could gain the recognition of those in power through her own strength alone. Lanster had grown to its current scale through her efforts. But how did things end up like this? The Annihilation dark elements raged. By the time Liza came to her senses, half her body was shattered, beyond saving. I said, any last words? Hearing the emotionless inquiry from the youth before her, Liza could no longer control herself. Tears streaming down, she said, help me tell Silica. Tell her I was wrong. Seeing Liza's remorseful state before me, a hint of pity arose in my heart. She had turned Lanster into a playground for nobles to lose themselves in, yet lost herself in the power of authority, depriving the weak of hope for life, perishing in self-destruction. But no one can predict their own decline. Even I am the same.